The rival family sent over 1,000,000 troops on an expedition, but facing that sea of soldiers, the young master went alone, confidently declaring that the entire army was surrounded by him, and him alone, not long ago. He was just an ordinary young master in a family of necromancers, but for generations, no one in his family could summon the undead anymore. The family declined and was attacked by a rival house who captured the family head to be put on trial. They even used this young master as a form of entertainment, forcing him to watch as he personally cut the rope. After that day, an emotionless young master was born. He had no interest in the family's struggle for the leadership position and left. While researching how to revive his family, he was sucked into a dark tomb, where he met the demon who had once elevated the first family head to the top position. But the more you won, the higher the prize. Unlike the first head, he went all in, offering himself as a sacrifice, arduously training his new abilities over a long period. After eliminating all the hidden spies within his own family, he now once again leads the family's forces on a campaign to subjugate their old foe. With an unlimited army of the dead on the ancient battlefield, and the ability to disguise himself as others without a trace, the Necromancer family once again made others bow their heads, not daring to look. Back to the present. 3 meters away, the sharp edge of a blade glinted with malice, casting a shadow over his jet black hair. The darkest, most terrifying shadow seemed to be enveloping the soul of the person below, while the son stood there stunned. Meanwhile, his father lay beneath the guillotine, awaiting execution. The commoners watching below murmured amongst themselves, how did things turn out like this? What did his lordship do to deserve this humiliation? Shh, keep your mouth shut if you don't want to be the next one up there. Remember my words. Haven't you seen enough to understand how cruel they are? The man's hint made the girl instinctively look up at the one sitting high above sipping tea. I know, and the man continued, but we can only stay silent and keep our distance from them. Now that war has erupted across the continent, lowly people like us have no choice but to hold our breath like dead mice, because this is an age of war and chaos. As the flames of slaughter consumed the east, they spread unstoppably, and the noble house Markbat became the next victim of this inferno. Fate was sealed. The strong do as they please. As for the weak, they can only scrape by to survive. Unlike the strong, the weak must fight for their lives every day. Unlike the strong, the weak ultimately have only one path, to dance with death. The gates of hell where the weak can only await their final release, that is the dark reality this continent has become. The man high above enjoying this spectacle is Count Alander Sylvester. He is the lord of House Sylvester, the rival of House Markbat. He shouted for the show to begin. Immediately the crowd of people below erupted into chaotic noise, while the sun stood there coldly as if rooted to the spot. Seeing this, Alander raised an eyebrow and yelled, "What's this? Do you not hear my command?" As soon as he finished speaking, the sun moved. He took the dagger in his hand, moving stiffly like a puppet, and slowly approached the guillotine. Alander watched his every step with a bloodthirsty smile. "What are you waiting for, cut the rope, kid?" The son, following the order, hesitantly walked step by step towards the rope. Then he raised his hand and decisively brought it down in a single stroke, to the speechless horror of the crowd below, and to the utterly twisted gaze of Alander above. The truth is that sound was no different from a cleaver hitting a chopping block. Drops of dark red blood splattered onto the child's pale face, staining the tragic picture with a metallic tang of blood. There was no escaping this cruel fate. An unimaginable burden was placed upon the boy's shoulders. This wasn't just the execution of Jun von Markbat, but the severing of all ties between his father and this mortal world. That son was Leon von Markbat. He was the son of the late Lord Jun von Markbat, and the one who had executed his own father. The head of a noble family is a lord. True to that title, the family head is not just a noble, but the central pillar of an entire nation. As a certain player once wrote, the higher the crown, the heavier the head, and power should only be given to those strong enough to bear it. The new lord of House Markbat steps into the light, Leon. The meeting of the family elders began as the young Lord Leon appeared. A middle-aged man slammed his hand on the table and boomed, "House Sylvester is expanding its influence unchecked. They might even send their army to seize Markbat territory." Others chimed in, "Sir, you must strengthen the defenses immediately. My lord, please make a decision." "That's right, sir. It's time." "You gave us a clear answer." Facing the pressure from his elders, Leon calmly said, "That's enough. I ask you all to be patient a little longer. I still need time to think." Seeing that their lord seemed unconcerned, everyone grew anxious. "But my lord, this is an urgent matter." However, this only signaled a bad omen for the once glorious House Markbat. With the death of my father, Jun von Markbat, Leon ascended to the position of head of House Markbat at the mere age of 14. A House Markbat that once made the world tremble. With the title Family of Necromancers. But that illustrious reputation had long become a part of distant history. Leon entered a vast room and stood before the portraits of his parents, thinking to himself, "Father, mother, what do you want me to do? I know my plea will never be answered because the dead cannot speak, and you cannot guide me from the other side. Yet now, more than ever, I need a path of light to guide me. How can I restore glory and prosperity to our family?" Taking a few more steps, he stopped and looked up at the oldest painting in the room. It depicted a man with jet black hair in the characteristic black attire of the Markbat family. That was Wellen von Markbat, the founding patriarch of the Markbat lineage, and the one and only necromancer of his era. Legend has it that the Markbat family rose from the blood and fire of the battlefield. When the first patriarch used his dark magic to carve his name into the annals of history. But since that golden age, the Markbat bloodline has failed to produce another true necromancer, leading to the family's inevitable decline. And in the end, I had to be the one to end my own father's life. Letting out a weary sigh, Leon opened a door leading to another room. He walked to a desk on which sat a thick patterned book cover, a crimson eye, the Chronicles of House Markbat. Patriarch Wellen von Markbat was a living legend. With a wave of his hand, he swept away enemies like a deadly whirlwind, summoning an unrelenting army of the undead. It flattened everything in its path. A mere 2 months after he launched his campaign to conquer the East, the entire vast region lay at his feet. It is rumored that Wellen von Markbat once made a pact with a demon. Through it, he unlocked one of the continent's greatest secrets, gaining the dark knowledge of the art of necromancy thanks to the Necronomicon. This is the most fearsome grimoire ever known. With its power, my ancestor became the lord of the entire continent. Leon looked at the book with a contemplative gaze, and this is the priceless treasure passed down from my very own ancestor. It was this that created the glory of House Markbat, making us the only family on the continent with the power to summon the dead. As soon as he picked up the book, a voice suddenly echoed in his mind. Listen to me, young new lord. Leon was startled by the sound. A telepathic message right here in the Lord's study. Strange. This place is covered by an anti-magic barrier. He spoke aloud. Who's there? Who are you? The other, sensing his vigilance, soothed in a gentle voice. Do not be afraid, my child. I am not an enemy to you or your family, but... Leon wasn't foolish enough to believe that. How can I trust your words? As soon as he finished the sentence, he was instantly pulled into a strange magic circle. When he opened his eyes, before him was a giant lion with a sharp horn, its gaze fixed on him. Leon asked, "Where is this place?" The lion seemed a little surprised and pointed to itself. Did your predecessor never tell you of my existence?" Leon asked back suspiciously. Predecessor? You mean my father? Jun von Markbat. The giant lion nodded its massive head in confirmation. That's right. That was his name. I felt the mana bond between myself and him has been severed. And then it growled in anger. Damn it. I had long feared that his nature was too merciful to rule a dark family. I should have realized that his end would come sooner than expected. But regardless, tell me, who was it that struck the final blow against your father? Unafraid. Leon lifted his head high and answered, If you're asking who killed my father, it was me, Leon, his own son. As soon as he finished speaking, a powerful aura erupted from the lion. Leon couldn't withstand it and was thrown back. Its voice boomed, I will ask again, are you truly the one who murdered my contract master? Facing its furious gale, Leon repeated emphatically, Yes, I was the one who killed my father. The lion roared in fury. I will ask again, are you truly the one who murdered my contract master? Unafraid, Leon simply glared back at it and affirmed once more, Yes, I was the one who killed my father. The lion reacted as if it had just heard something utterly unthinkable. It let out a great roar. At the same time, it read Leon's memories. As scene after scene appeared before it, it came to a realization. So, your reason was stolen from you. You poor child. The hand that cut that thread was indeed yours, but that doesn't mean you are the one who killed your father. Leon didn't bother to argue. That is not the truth, and you know it. Looking at the naive child before it, the lion sighed and thought, setting aside his despair, what I truly cannot comprehend is the gloomy aura that surrounds him and the overwhelming darkness waiting to swallow him from within. What has this child become? How can someone so young possess such terrifying demonic power? Through its divine eyes, the lion perceived Leon's immense demonic power and clicked its tongue. How absurd! It might even surpass that of his own ancestor. After a moment's thought, it cleared its throat and spoke. Ahem. I shall introduce myself. I am Mark 8, one of the 72 demon gods of hell who turned my back on the demon world to live among humanity. A lifelong companion of Wellen von Markbat and the origin of necromancy, the unique secret art of the Markbat family. Hearing the familiar name, Leon continued, I know of you from the legends. When my ancestor founded the Markbat family, you were the one who taught him the forbidden art of necromancy. Mark 8 replied, That is correct. Though I am now bound to the grimoire, there was a time when I was one of the most feared demons. Leon's eyes suddenly grew cold. Mark 8, the Black Lion King. Our ancestors said that necromancy flows in the blood. Of this family. But why in the end did you abandon us? Mark 8 looked down perplexed at the small human at its feet. Abandoned you. What could have given you that idea, Leon said, since the time of the legendary Wellen? Nabata. The Markbat family has not produced a single necromancer who could reach his level. If this isn't proof that you have forsaken us, then what is? Feeling misunderstood and quite annoyed. Mark 8 had to stand up to its full height to clarify. Then let me make one thing clear. The reason you and your entire lineage cannot use the true power of necromancy is because you are all too weak to offer up a worthy vessel. Leon asked confused, a worthy vessel. Mark 8 explained precisely. Which of you can compare to Welland's natural talent? This is merely a sign of your bloodline's decline. And nothing more. After thinking for a few seconds, Leon calmly replied, I'll accept your words. This nod earned a bit of approval from Mark 8. You accept the truth rather quickly. Leon replied nonchalantly, Of course, the weak being defeated in times of war is the immutable law of this world. Mark 8 inquired, Is that also how you accept your father's death? Leon said, What does that matter? Frankly, his death was nothing special. However, if you haven't completely turned your back on our family, Mark 8, then I have a request for you. Mark 8 spoke in a mocking tone. A request? No, I don't think so. A request is an act of kindness in which one party must suffer a loss, is it not? Any transaction with a demon is not a request, but a contract, or an agreement. Without a second thought, Leon agreed. Fine. Then I will make a contract to obtain the power of necromancy. Seeing Mark 8's surprised expression, Leon continued, Are you capable of granting me that power? Feeling its abilities being questioned, Mark 8 became incredibly sulky, like a giant cat. It turned its head away sharply and said, A child like you has no right to doubt my capabilities. Besides, what have I seen in you that would justify granting you power? Do you truly believe you are worthy of it? Leon answered. Confident in himself, I do. Because if I were just a useless person with no talent whatsoever, then I would not be able to stand here conversing with a noble demon god like you. It is said that by merely speaking with a demon, a mortal will immediately have their mana drained, fall into hallucinations, and then lose their life the moment the conversation ends, and yet here I stand. That can only mean one thing, that I have the aptitude to walk this path. Observing him this whole time, Mark 8 had been taken from one surprise to the next. This child was truly no ordinary being. He not only had talent, but also a resolute will. So it said, As I have told you, any request made to a demon must be treated as a contract. Remember that. Leon quickly added, And I don't think, else it's foolish to believe you have something to gain in this exchange. Seeing Leon's demeanor and hearing his words, Mark 8 suddenly burst out laughing. Ha 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 ha, excellent. Then a contract shall be made. A young descendant of the Necromancer bloodline, Leon asked nonchalantly. And what is the price I must pay, sir? Mark 8's eyes blazed with a fiery red as it stated its condition. Your entire existence. Hearing this, Leon smiled for the first time. Then that's a relief, because I am prepared to offer everything I am. This couldn't help but surprise Mark 8, who began to see the boy before it in a new light. At that same moment in the family's meeting room, the heads of the various branches had gathered, but without the presence of the family head, Leon. Leon's uncle was stroking his white beard, saying, As you are all aware, gentlemen, our current family head, and I am referring to Lord Leon, has barely enough authority to make the critical decisions that affect the entire family. Do we all agree? When no one answered him, he continued, Therefore, as his granduncle and closest living relative, I intend to temporarily take charge of all family affairs in the future. For now, I will allow you all to express your opinions on me becoming the regent of this family. One of them immediately stood up in sport. It would be foolish to object, since the only other choice is some brat. But that, who hasn't even come of age. We cannot place the fate of our family in the hands of an unqualified child. I believe no one is more suitable than you, Lord Kotrang, Lord Leon's granduncle, to manage the family at this time. Another man with a kind face. I spoke up in confusion. Even so, Lord Leon is the only direct descendant of the late family head. There has never been a precedent in our family for choosing a successor who does not follow the direct bloodline. Seeing this, the other man's eyes turned cold as he retorted, What good are precedents when our entire bloodline is at risk of being wiped out? The Sylvester hordes are already marching on our borders. I don't blame you for worrying about legitimate succession, but remember this. Following a naive teenager means choosing death. As for me, I will look after my own survival first. The kind-faced man couldn't stop himself and slammed his hand on the table in protest. You go too far, sir. Every single one of you has a seat here thanks to the grace of the late family head. Your duty is to fight to your last breath, not squabble like vultures over his corpse. He thought to himself, even if the current head hasn't had time to build his own faction, I will not stand by and watch that old man Kotrang blatantly usurp the position like this. Please guide me, Lord June. How could you leave us in the hands of this shameless vulture? Kotrang stood up and said, A bold yet interesting point of view. It seems that Lord Leon, our current family head, has at least one loyal subject. The other man said irritably, Speak plainly, sir. What do you mean? Kotrang said coldly, What good is loyalty if you aren't wise enough to see the inevitable outcome? Bullen, my esteemed old friend, please accept this sincere advice in the spirit it is given. Do you really think I summoned all of you here today because I needed to hear your opinions? Under the pressure of Kotrang's mana, Bullen realized everything. So this was all part of your plan, Kotrang. He gently reminded him to choose his words carefully. For the sake of your clan, if for nothing else, we are all present here. For one single purpose, to make a bitter but least tragic choice for your clan. You don't need to stand in our way, my friend. All I ask is that you let my wisdom guide this fate. How bitter Bullen thought. So I was just a pawn in his game from the very beginning. Forgive me, Lord June. Have mercy on this miserable servant who failed to protect your legacy. In contrast to the tension in that meeting room over here, Leon was still calmly facing Mark 8's gaze. After observing him to his heart's content, Mark 8 concluded, everything seems fine except for one thing. With the change in the contract's terms, my true power has been significantly limited. Your father June, though too soft and naive, possessed a far greater source of mana than you do now as the contractor. Suddenly Leon spoke up. Now that I think about it, I remember that any demon who makes a contract with a human must draw all their magical power from the contractor to maintain their own strength. So what should I do? Mapad replied, there's nothing you can do, but at the very least we should limit the use of your mana for now. Then it gently snapped its fingers and vanished. Afterwards, a small black tuft of fur appeared before Leon. It looked so cute. This form will help reduce the burden. He curiously looked at the black fur ball in front of him. I guess that makes sense. You look so adorable you could be mistaken for a pet. Its pride wounded to the core. And Mark 8's fur bristled up as it threatened. Call me adorable one more time, contractor, and you better watch your own life. I will turn your face into a maze of bites and scratches. You understand? Clearly, Leon wasn't scared in the slightest. He tilted his head, observing the fur ball, and replied as if placating it, that wouldn't be good at all. Seeing that this human didn't get the message, Mark 8 turned its rear and walked away. Good. If we understand each other, then let's get going. Leon was surprised. Get going. Where are we going? Mark 8 asked again, you wished for power that could rival your ancestors, didn't you? If you truly want to reach his stature, what better way is there than to walk the very same path he took? Leon pondered for a moment and said, that sounds reasonable. Hearing his reply, Mark 8 was quite pleased. Good. Then we will journey to your ancestors' hidden shrine. But remember, this path could cost you your life. Even so, are you still determined to follow me? Leon tilted his head, utterly confused. Why do you keep doubting my resolve? Mark 8 paid him no mind and turned to lead the way. I will lead. If you think you can keep up, then stick close behind me, young contractor. Leon politely said, after you. After a short time, the two had stopped deep in a forest. Leon was a little surprised. The mystical forest of the Markbat clan. Markbat said, this is it. This forest can be a confusing maze for anyone not of your bloodline. Leon recalled, my father once said that only the true head of the family can set foot in the secret shrine. But there's one thing I find strange. If this place is truly the source of the power of necromancy, then why... Mapad immediately understood Leon's question. Because no one has ever passed the trial. It's presumed that they all lack the most crucial element. Leon put on a studious look. Lacked something. Mapad explained, only those who possess the purest black. The element of the abyss can open the way to the shrine. To this day, not a single person has met this first condition to pass through the mist. Looking at the mana vortex before him, Leon said, I see. That seems quite clear. Mapad raised its cat-like paw, opened the door before them, and urged, no more hesitation. I advise you to begin the trial now. After standing before a flight of stairs, that voice echoed again. You may enter my descendant. Mark 8 warned, be careful, contractor. From this point on, I will not interfere. Leon didn't mind that much. Very well. You did say this was a test of one's mettle. Mapad kindly continued. However, I do have a piece of advice for you. Follow all instructions from the Black Grimoire. It will guide you to the final reward, the power of necromancy. The two slowly went deeper inside. The path was caked with the dust of time, but luckily there were still burning torches on the walls, clearly illuminating the way. Suddenly something caught Leon's eye. There was a small passage in the wall, and as soon as Leon stepped inside, a series of strange blue torches flared up beside him. Before his eyes, a scene unfolded of a group of goblins standing there. They were holding a girl down on the ground. Suddenly the Black Grimoire flew into Leon's hand and began to glow brightly. It opened automatically and gave its first instruction. Therefore, I shall leave behind these teachings to help you draw out the maximum power of the divine treasure, the Black Grimoire. The first is the secret art of resurrecting the fallen. You must begin by taking the life of a living being. As soon as the oracle's words ended, the goblins went berserk and charged. Leon looked back at the oracle. You must begin by taking the life of a living being. He closed the Black Grimoire and coldly drew the dagger. EA strapped to his side. His eyes locked onto those before him, be it the bound girl or the ferocious-mouthed goblins. Standing alone, he calculated quickly and charged into battle as a goblin lunged forward with sharp claws. And swooping down from above. Unflinching, Leon leaned to dodge. Following the momentum, he brought his dagger around from behind and with a decisive slash struck the pressure point on the back of the goblin's neck, finishing it in an instant. That's one down. A childhood memory before the Markbat family tomb. A father and son were standing there paying their respects. After they finished, the father said to Leon, listen carefully, Leon. In the great lineage of the Markbat clan, what entity do you think we revere the most? The answer is simple. We revere death, because we are necromancers, those who hold dominion over death. Therefore, we must respect death more than anything else. Leon, perhaps only 5 or 6 years old at the time, seriously contemplated his father's words and asked, but what does that mean, father? How do we respect death? I thought necromancers had to take the lives of others if they wanted to increase the power of their dark arts, right? The father looked at his young son with great pride. It seems you've studied the family history quite well. Yes, we are dark mages feared by countless people on this continent, but that does not mean we must become cruel and heartless. So promise me one thing. If one day you should face anyone on the battlefield, as long as you have the power to decide their fate, their life or death, then swear to me that you will let them go as peacefully as possible. Those words seemed to be etched into his mind after he asked, do I have to keep that vow with all my enemies, father? Back to the present as Leon fought these damn goblins. He was surrounded by the goblin horde, calmly thinking, I have to aim precisely for their cervical vertebrae. There's no better way to finish an enemy. Allah, without causing too much pain. Observing closely from the side, Mark 8 realized something. It seems this kid has never wielded a blade in a real fight before. And yet he strikes the cervical vertebrae with absolute precision. Could it be just luck, or is it an innate talent? I'll find out the answer soon enough. Ignoring Markbat's sinister villain-like smile, Leon tried to figure out how to take down this mob. I've taken down one, but that was more luck than skill. Goblins are cunning and treacherous creatures of the dark. It makes it hard for me to distinguish altitude and distance. And not just that, my vision seems to be growing darker and darker. If I remember correctly, the torch went out when I killed the first goblin. I need to get used to the darkness as soon as possible. And instead of just slashing wildly at the enemies, I should focus on piercing through and disarming them more precisely. And so he moved as quick as a flash behind a goblin. Before it could even notice, he killed it with a single stab. As it let out a pain scream, its kind immediately pinpointed Leon's position and charged into attack. Luckily for him, he realized in time to lean back and dodge, successfully causing two goblins to turn and fight each other. Seizing this opportunity, he swung his blade, cutting down another goblin. At the same time, a green torch next to him flickered out. Leon quickly wiped the sweat from his face and assessed the situation. My eyes are finally adjusting to the darkness. I can see a little more clearly now, but unfortunately my dagger is getting damaged with every clash. It makes sense. This was only a ceremonial blade, not a real combat weapon. As he was thinking, Leon suddenly heard footsteps beside him. A goblin had gotten close to him and was raising its weapon about to strike him down. Leon quickly struck out, landing a blow on its cheek. Max, watching from the side, was puzzled by this action. He threw away his weapon. After tossing his dagger aside, Leon ducked low and slipped behind the goblin, causing it to miss its swing. After that, he quickly grabbed the sword from the ground. Just as the goblin turned around, Leon used the momentum from his feet to leap up and fatally stab his opponent from below. After dealing with all the goblins, Leon slowly walked sword in hand toward a tied-up girl. After he removed the rope gagging her, the girl hurriedly thanked him. Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. You saved my life. I'm truly indebted to you. But her pupils constricted in an instant as pain shot up from her throat. Leon had stabbed her straight through with the coldest of expressions. After stabbing her, he even pulled the sword out before explaining the situation to the girl. My father's teachings echo in my mind again. He spoke of creatures capable of mimicking humans, creatures he himself had encountered on his journeys across the continent. As he spoke, he slashed again. The monster let out a pained scream. Furthermore, my father warned me that those who deceive and exploit the trust of others do not deserve to die in peace. His words gradually merged with his father's teachings. They must experience the same terror and despair they inflicted upon their victims. So I think you need to be taught a lesson about pain. Don't you agree? Then, waiting until the monster had suffered enough, he delivered the final blow, sending it back to hell. The last of the six-colored light in the room went out. At a certain mansion, a ball was underway with a host of beautiful dancers, singing and dancing, glasses full of wine, and the cheerful chatter of nobles. Ha ha ha. At last my time has come. Before long this cursed family will be entirely in my hands. The woman leaning on Lord Catrang's arm flattered him. But of course, my lord, who would want a baby-faced boy as the head of the family when they could have a powerful and dignified gentleman like you? The person next to her chimed in. It's unbelievable, Lord Catrang. I never thought you'd be able to use the Sylvesters to achieve your goals. The two women bantered back and forth, praising Lord Catrang to the heavens. That's right, joining forces with the enemy to climb to the top. Only a man of great courage would dare to make such a move. Catrang laughed happily. Ha ha ha, you flatter me, my dear. Although I fear we will have to bow and scrape before that Sylvester trash for a while, sir. But still, that's 100 times better than letting that brat Leon continue to exist, only to drag the entire Max Baith clan to the brink of ruin. Truly, there's no better option than for me to take power. Besides, who can deny that I have played this game perfectly and won? Seeing Catrang laughing back and forth with the beautiful woman, the man opposite him inquired, speaking of the young master, how do you plan to deal with Leon Lord Catrang? The people in this domain were absolutely loyal to his father, so getting rid of the boy might be more difficult than you think. Catrang couldn't care less. I see no reason to complicate things. In the end, his death will be justified when all is said and done. As you all know, the dead can't speak a word to reveal anything. And neither can their sons. Seeing the malice on Catrang's face, the other man laughed along. Well said, my lord. I believe the last time anyone heard a voice from beyond the grave was centuries ago, when the founding patriarch used necromancy. The two of them filled each other's glasses and laughed heartily, a toast to our new and rightful patriarch, Lord Catrang. Ha 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 ha. And so the two arrogant men, who thought the world revolved around them, sat laughing and talking late into the night. Far away at the Sylvester family estate, Alan was listening to a report from his subordinate. I believe the plan to take over the Max Bay family is proceeding smoothly, one replied. Of course, my lord. That old grey fox Ketrang von Maxbede is essentially a pawn in my hands, which means I just need to await official approval from the royal family to launch an all-out war. Receiving the satisfactory answer, Alan smiled ambitiously. Those fools are laughable, thinking I would shy away from a second war just because it hasn't been long since the last conflict. What a convenient opening for us, I must admit. Another began to flatter him. None of this would be possible without your sharp, strategic vision, Lord Alan. Looking at the photo he was handed, he mused, what was that traitor's name again, Katrang? How ridiculous. That the centuries-long glorious history of the Max Bay family ends at the hands of a short-sighted and foolish traitor. Oh, tonight will be an interesting night indeed. Speed up the preparations immediately. Is that clear? His subordinates replied respectfully, yes, my lord. Seeing victory as a foregone conclusion, Alan couldn't help but flash a twisted smile. First the father and now the son. I can't wait to hear your pathetic cries. Back at the mystical temple of the Max Bay family, Leon had now dealt with every living creature in that place, except for himself and Max. He realized that darkness had enveloped the place, as all the torches had been extinguished. So the last one is finally down, huh? Then suddenly all the extinguished torches flared back to life. The light was now that of a normal flame, no longer the ghastly green from when he first entered. Leon realized everything was over, so he ran a hand through his messy hair and let out a tired breath. Max beside him began to stare wide-eyed, his mouth running a mile a minute. Incredible. In all my life, I have never met a contractor as insane as you. With that, it launched itself at Leon's head. Before he could understand what was happening, it had successfully knocked Leon flat on his back and was massaging his face with its soft, padded paws. Its mouth never stopped. I'm sure you have enough guts to survive a camp full of orcs, as long as you can keep your wits about you. Leon let Max knead his face and ramble on, with praise. Ha ha ha. No matter how cleverly that monster disguised itself, its human form couldn't fool you. And yet you stabbed right through it at first glance. Leon lay there and took it, waiting for Max to finish its frenzy, before grabbing it around its middle, pulling it off, and saying, to be honest, I'd still rather avoid clashing with orcs. If possible. I hear they hate humans more than any other race. But Max was on a roll, so I didn't bother to listen to anything he said. It cut him off immediately. But that's not important. So what made you suspicious? That the last monster was connected to the others. Leon paused for a second or two before answering. It's simple. When all the other torches went out, one was still burning brightly. Mark 8 chimed in. I get it. Continue. Unbothered, Leon slowly continued his explanation. When I first set foot in this place, I realized that the flames on the torches here had a color unlike any I'd ever seen. They were blue. I knew that was the color of the undead. And sure enough, every time I defeated a monster, the torchlights would go out one by one. But then I noticed that even after all the goblins were defeated, one torch still hadn't gone out. That's how I deduced that there was still one monster left, and that I couldn't advance as long as it still existed. Then the two fell silent for a few seconds. Mark 8 marveled to itself, how terrifyingly calculating. I never expected a 14-year-old kid could deduce all that in such a perilous situation. When your life is on the line, even just reading the situation is a challenge, let alone acting without a shred of hesitation. And yet, Leon did it in the blink of an eye, single-handedly taking down every last enemy. Perhaps what interests me isn't just his enormous mana pool, but something even more special. How fascinating. I can't wait to see what else he's capable of. After a crafty chuckle, it spoke to Leon. All right, the first trial of Wellen is complete. Let us proceed to the next challenge. The grimoire continued to guide Leon. First, you must begin by taking the life of a living being. Then you must raise the fallen. Leon was a bit incredulous. Why, you raise a god, did the fallen? After thinking for a moment, he spoke again, hesitantly. Necromancy. After confirming his own thoughts were correct. He looked at the goblins sprawled on the ground with an excited gaze, flashing a bloodthirsty grin, typical of someone itching for a fight. Mark 8 immediately confirmed, precisely. Take a good look at the goblins you've slain. Then channel mana into your eyes to optimize your vision. You'll see a thin thread on each corpse connecting it to a place you can't quite see. Leon immediately followed Mark 8's instructions, and he truly saw faint purple threads hovering in the air. Mark 8 explained, in the terminology of necromancers, that thread is called a necrothread. Leon read on, a thread that straddles the line between life and death. That thread connects the soul of every living creature from this world to the next. Mark 8 poked at a thread and said, that's right. A necromancer separates the wandering soul of the dead from its body. Then they instill new life into the corpse by combining that soul with their own magical power. From there, he can command and control them like Walking Dead. Watch, I shall give you a demonstration. With that, Mark 8 immediately raised the goblins who had long since stopped breathing. A strange seal appeared above each of their heads. The moment it finished speaking, the undead creatures charged at Leon with dizzying speed. However, the blade thrown from one of them stopped right in front of Leon's face. Mark 8 said, this process is called imprinting. Of course, there are other ways to create undead minions, but this is the only method that can be applied to monsters. I'll save the rest for another occasion. Leon slowly stood up and said, I understand. Mark 8 understood his intention and said, then you may try it for yourself. But Leon didn't rush, asking first, before I do that, may I ask you something? When he received the reply, you may, what is it? From Mark 8, he began to speak. My predecessor once said that turning a human into an undead is far more difficult than a monster. Do you think I've reached the level base where I could do that? Mark 8 commented with interest. You ask as if you already have a target in mind. Leon made no attempt to hide it. Indeed I do. Mark 8 smiled, its eyes narrowing as it asked, and who might that unfortunate soul be? Leon's expression shifted to one of pure hatred as he spoke the ill-fated name. Kirchen von Markbus, my one and only uncle. At that very moment, the foolish Kirchen, still oblivious to death waving at him, was reveling in a victory that hadn't even happened yet. They were carousing, drinking glass after glass, when Kirchen suddenly spoke up. That ill-fated family head was a true fool, but since the day the old man died, my life has been smoother than ever. Ha, such is life. A man who knows how to seize an opportunity will always benefit. Don't you agree? The other man seized his own opportunity to flatter him. Of course. Now that only the final obstacle remains to be cleared, you must be feeling somewhat relieved, Lord Kirchen. Kirchan, feeling no threat at all, waved his hand dismissively. Dealing with that brat is no big deal. Come on. Raise your glasses and drink up. Let's enjoy this glorious moment. Just then, a loud noise erupted, shaking the entire building. Snap a chain on the light fixture had broken, causing the chandelier to crash down onto the table. The delicate beauties shrieked in terror and ran for their lives. Kirchen was confused. What the hell was that? The woman beside him was also sweating bullets. But this building is protected by a magic artifact. How could a mere gust of wind shake the entire place? Suddenly, Kirchen noticed something and signaled for everyone to be quiet. He looked towards a certain spot and called out, Who's there? No one in Markbass territory dares to stand against me anymore. Suddenly, a voice spoke up from behind, scaring the soul out of Kirchen. And what, pray tell, gave you that idea? Uncle. Leon appeared standing tall behind him, looking at him with a cold, dangerous gaze. Seeing that it was Leon, Kirchen's concern vanished. Oh, look who it is. The new head of the fallen house of Markbass. As he spoke, he waved his men forward. Leon narrowed his eyes at them before speaking. I thank you for at least recognizing me the rightful heir of this family. Leon, Kirchen laughed confidently. I see no reason for you to come here unannounced in the middle of the night. What business do you have with me? Leon answered him with a superior tone. What a strange question. Does the head of a family need a reason to meet with one of his vassals? Must I announce my intentions merely for your convenience? Kirchen, his ego pricked, sputtered back angrily. Any worthy family head wouldn't have to. But you and I both know you are anything but worthy. What's wrong? Are you afraid that your position as head of the family will be snatched away? It's too late for that, you little brat. Your father isn't here to protect you anymore. Leon gently pushed aside a thin curtain, revealing his determined face. No, I've learned that only I can protect myself. Kirchen laughed as if he'd just heard the joke of the year. Ha ha! And did your newfound wisdom tell you that coming here alone was a good idea? You have the audacity to seek me out as if you have lives to spare. Leon asked back, perplexed. Audacity? The only audacity here, uncle, is you thinking I came alone. Kirchen instantly became guarded. What the hell are you talking about? The moment he finished speaking, the ground beneath his feet began to tremble violently. He looked at the flow of energy at his feet in horror. Something's not right. This isn't ordinary magic. This is the magic of the abyss. I know this feeling, a darkness deeper than anyone can imagine. As if thinking of something unbelievable, his pupils contracted at the sight before him. It can't be. Undead, as if to confirm it all. Leon answered him. That's right. They are the undead. It was as if he wanted to tell the smug lunatic, I've arrived, and now your time is up. Kirchen couldn't even laugh anymore. He shouted, But how is this possible? Even my brother when he was alive couldn't summon them. As if bestowing a final kindness, Leon explained to the dying man, You still don't understand, do you? House Mac 8 has always been and will always be a family of master necromancers. Kotran gritted his teeth and ordered, Soldiers, cut down these hideous monsters now. At his command, the soldiers immediately sprang forward. Leon looked at the fools before him, as if they were a pile of trash, who didn't know their own limits. Just then, a goblin rushed forward and cut down one of the vanguards. The man only realized it as he was dying. Ah, it's fighting back. The goblin was like, I have hands and feet, I'm not some cripple. Why wouldn't I fight back? And just like that, the assassin was given a one-way ticket to the grave due to his own carelessness. He collapsed before the dazed eyes of the others. On Kotrang's side, the undead, following Leon's command, continued their rampage with no intention of stopping. Kotrang watched the horrifying scene before him and stammered, a monster. Kotrang stared blankly at the bloody scene before him. Something's not right. This is completely beyond the realm of common sense. If my eyes aren't deceiving me, that brat is using necromancy. But how can that be? At that thought, he condensed the sphere of dark magic in his palm, grinding his teeth in fury as he looked at Leon and screamed, What have you done to desecrate the power of our family's founding ancestor? Leon replied coolly. Is it so strange for a head of House Mac 8 to be able to control the undead? Kotrang couldn't believe it, and roared, Impossible necromancy is a secret art that was lost long ago, buried in the flow of history. Even your father couldn't use it when he was alive. You expect me to believe that a useless little brat like you is any different. I don't accept a word you say. Seeing that he was still so loud-mouthed, even when facing death. Leon decided to grant his wish. If you don't believe me, then I'll just have to prove it. But let me warn you, that won't be a wise choice, dear uncle. Immediately, an army of summoned goblins rose to their feet. Without waiting for a command, the horde targeted their prey and charged. Kotrang threw the sphere of dark magic in his hand, gritting his teeth and charging forward to fight for his life. Go back to the abyss. The sphere struck a few goblins directly. Their bodies immediately began to rot, and they fell backward. Seeing his attack was effective, Kotrang's face lit up with relief, but the goblins, despite their corroded bodies, stiffly stood up once more. The deathly aura grew thicker and thicker. Their eyes flashed with a mad red glow as they rushed forward to counterattack. The sight terrified Kotrang. He lost all confidence to fight and hastily turned his head, screaming, "Someone take this monster down, now." But when he looked closer, his eyes widened in horror. All of his followers had been beaten and were lying in a heap on the floor. With no one left to rely on, Kotrang struggled to gather more dark magic, continuously firing at the goblins. But this time they were only delayed for a moment. Annoyed, he cursed under his breath. Damn it! As much as I hate to admit it, my magical talent is just barely better than a novice's. On top of that, my senses are dulled by the alcohol. I might be in real danger. Realizing he couldn't win by force, Kotrang changed his tone to one of threat. There will be consequences for this betrayal. Do you hear me? This is not something that can be taken lightly. Before he could finish his sentence, a goblin lunged forward and attacked. Its sharp blade pierced through his chest. The sudden pain from his chest made Kotrang's eyes widen, as he stared at Leon, trying to condense one last orb of dark magic, but as his life faded, the dark orb vanished with it. Kotrang growled a threat. You dare betray your own bloodline. You will never be forgiven. Leon replied coldly. I remember once reading a treatise on the continent's history with my father. On the battlefield, there are only winners and losers. And through the flow of time, the cold eyes of history will decide who is who. Kotrang seethed with anger. Are you trying to lecture me? Leon said indifferently. Although I am impassive, perhaps I still haven't truly grasped that. However, there is one thing I did learn from that book. Forgiveness is the privilege of the victor. You were once a victor too, weren't you, uncle? I presume it was after you stabbed my father in the back to save your own life. But unfortunately for you, times have changed. His past exposed, Kotrang gritted his teeth and shouted, Shut your mouth! Leon paid him no mind, and while giving an order to the goblins, he said, Uncle, no. Sir Kotrang von Mac 8, I will not grant you a swift end, because I hope you will suffer every single moment on the path ahead. I will always remember today as the day you were defeated, and as punishment, I will take away your desire to see tomorrow's dawn. In the name of the head of House Mac 8, as soon as he finished speaking, the goblin horde ferociously charged and attacked. Kotrang's eyes widened in terror as he saw the blade press against his neck. A tragic scream echoed as fresh blood splattered. Kotrang's body collapsed limply. Watching this scene, Mark 8 licked the blood and remarked, Just as insane as I thought. Even a demon hunter would shed a tear at this sight. A mere novice. Unable to use necromancy so skillfully on his very first try. One would think you have been controlling the undead for a whole decade. Hearing him speak, Leon looked down and fell silent for a moment. Then an idea came to him and he exclaimed, I've just had a rather interesting idea. Mark 8 forced a smile and muttered, Interesting, or horrifying. The next day, the meeting room absent its master was open once again. An annoyed man exclaimed, Another council meeting. Does anyone know why Sir Kotrang has summoned us this time? Another man replied, Who knows? I'm as clueless as you are. It seems his close aide on the council isn't here yet. I suppose we'll just have to wait patiently for a little while longer. The bald man was so nervous he was sweating. In any case, an emergency council meeting is not something to be taken lightly. What if there's news that House Sylvester wants to break the peace treaty and attack while we are in chaos? Come on now, the long-haired man cut him off. Don't be so paranoid. I don't think they'd be reckless enough to break an agreement between two great houses. Besides, for what to happen again, it would require official approval from His Majesty. The blonde man agreed. You have a point. In any case, let's just wait and see. All our questions will be answered soon enough when Sir Kotrang is officially made the head of the house. Just then, the door to the meeting room opened. Leon walked in coolly. His silence made the men present too afraid to speak to him. They could only whisper among themselves, What's going on? I thought this meeting was summoned by Sir Kotrang. So why is Leon here? If he intends to challenge Sir Kotrang's inheritance, it's not like Kotrang cares about formalities like that anyway. True, but if it's not about that, then what is Leon doing here? Hearing them talk, Leon shot them a cold glance. He pulled out the head chair and sat down, saying, Were you gentlemen expecting to see my uncle here instead of me? Unfortunately, my uncle will not be attending this meeting. Or to be more precise, he can't. The long-haired man got straight to the point. He can't, sir. Could you please elaborate? Leon said nonchalantly, He's dead. His words left them speechless. Dead? Leon confirmed, yes, at my hands. If that answer has satisfied your curiosity, does anyone else on the council have anything to say? All those present stared at him in astonishment. One of them took the lead in questioning him. If what you say is true, my lord, I demand a clearer explanation than just a few cursory words. How do you intend to explain the death of the family's highest-ranking elder when we haven't even had time to mourn your predecessor? Faced with these words, Leon remained perfectly calm. Seeing that he wasn't speaking, another man chimed in. That's right. You may be the head of the house. But at the very least, you must give us a proper explanation. He shot them a dark glare, then declared in a deep voice Kieran von Markas is a traitor to the family. He not only turned his back on his father, but also leaked vital information to our enemy, the Sylvester family. He even conspired to usurp my rightful place as the head of this family. The man who had just questioned him was, upon hearing these accusations, utterly horrified. Ignoring the terrified gazes directed at him, Leon turned back to them. What I find strange is, despite having every justifiable reason to execute him on the spot, you all desperately protected him with questionable loyalty. The entire meeting hall fell silent at his words. The man who had been questioning him just moments ago was now silently assessing the situation. This council summons was issued in Seiran's name, and yet he is nowhere to be seen. That only strengthens the claim that he's been killed. It wasn't just him. Another bald man thought to himself in confusion, how foolish could that old man be? Now, to get himself murdered by a young brat like him. But there were also those who immediately calculated their next move. This is no time to worry about Seiran. If this young Leon truly managed to assassinate Seiran without any help, he hastily stood up to make his position clear. Good heavens, we had absolutely no idea. He even began urging everyone in the room to curse Seiran. How dare he commit such a heinous crime? But in his mind, he speculated fearfully. Then, he must possess some kind of powerful magic. The blonde-haired man, seeing the other guy spout such words, quickly grasped the situation and hurried to defend himself. We are completely innocent. How could we have known that old Fox was plotting something so despicable? He seemed to have little patience for them and ordered silence, then casually accused everyone present. Your excuses may be true, but that doesn't change the fact that you have all committed a grave crime. The crime of negligence for failing to uncover a traitor within our own family. The opportunist from before cursed under his breath. Damn it, this brat has trapped us all. But the bald man refused to back down and asked him again. Well, said my lord, but there is still one matter that remains unclear. Is Seiran truly a traitor? Is there any proof? Without proof of this accusation, who's to say you didn't kill an innocent man? Leon seemed to ponder this for a moment, then slowly stood up and replied with disappointment. Your reaction? It is just as someone far wiser than I predicted. The one sitting closest to him wondered, predicted. My lord, who do you mean? Mappa suddenly appeared on his shoulder and seemed to nod at Leon. He nodded in return. Immediately after he began casting necromancy while answering them. Very well. You want proof? Is that it then let me expose the treachery of Seiran von Markas. The entire meeting hall was instantly enveloped in a gloomy space filled with the aura of death. Leon's cold voice rang out as the true heir of the Markas family. I, Leon von Markas, summoned the soul of a cursed one who still wanders this world. At his call, spirits rose as if from the earth itself. They stared at the men in the room with bloodthirsty eyes. The grimoire in his hand emitted a dense aura of death. The council members recognized the incantation in horror. Is that summoning necromancy? How can he do that? Just then, Seiran's decaying soul shot out from within the book. The opportunist from before, in utter disbelief, stammered out a shout. Could it be he's found our family's lost magic? Leon calmly called out, Seiran von Markas, you will confess your sins right here. With what little reason it had left, Seiran's soul struggled to move as if to answer him. Seeing this, the other man asked in a trembling voice, Seiran, how is this possible? Leon gave him a cold look. I'm growing tired of hearing that question. What's so surprising? Isn't necromancy the very root of the Markas family? His words were like a command. The evil spirits immediately roared and attacked. The blonde man yelled in panic. Everyone run! Damn it! The brown-haired man turned to flee, then angrily shouted at the person blocking his way. What are you still standing there for? Get out of the way. But then he realized in horror, the person in front of him was just a headless corpse. Before he could even process it, a trembling voice called out from behind him. Help me. Glancing back, he saw the blonde man from before dragging himself, yet across the floor, begging for help. His legs had been severed by something unknown, leaving a long trail of blood on the ground. He was even more horrified when he saw a figure blocking his path. Leon looked down at him from above with deadly eyes. Forgive me, but this meeting isn't over yet. You'd all do well to listen to your lord until I have nothing left to say. At his words, Seiran's soul, controlled by the deathly aura, moved in front of the blonde man. It bent its stiff body and opened its rotting mouth as if responding to Leon. He calmly posed his question. I will ask again, Seiran von Markas, is there anyone among those sitting here who was completely unaware of your disgusting crimes? The soul's hoarse, broken voice immediately answered his question. Those who once served the former head of the family have all turned their backs on him. Every last one. There is no one here who did not know of my betrayal. A a confession that threw the entire room into chaos once more. Leon calmly concluded, "There's your answer." The blond man, terrified now, cried out, "My lord, please forgive me." The brown-haired man hurriedly begged, "I will confess my sins." The bald man was not far behind, pleading earnestly, "Please give us a chance to prove our loyalty, my lord." But then he realized with a start that death was standing right behind him. In an instant, the room was filled with screams of despair, until those sounds fell completely silent. Only then did Leon softly declare, "By the authority vested in me as the head of this family." Leon von Marcus declare before this council. He closed the grimoire in his hand, ending the judgment, that the dark art of necromancy has officially been restored to the Marcus family. Leon stood pensively amidst the room full of corpses. After a moment, he let out a soft humph and questioned the person who had been hiding behind the curtain all this time. "Where is Lord Bullen now?" The servant he addressed was frozen with fear and stammered, "Sir," then answered evasively, "I fear he has been thrown into the dungeon below." Accused of treason, Leon immediately commanded him, "Then you will lead the way." The man replied, "Yes." But as he reached the door, he seemed to remember something. His voice, cold as ice, carried a heavy threat to those who remained. "You can choose to flee if you wish, but remember, I will not be responsible for what happens next." The servants in the mansion were still on the floor, trembling. They looked towards him with horrified eyes, taking in the threat in his last words. "For your own sakes, I hope you will make a wise choice." The door to the room closed with a dry thud. Meanwhile, in the mansion of the Sylvester family, a butler entered from outside carrying a letter. "My lord, a letter has just arrived for you." Alan quickly took the letter from his hand, murmuring, "I see." He scanned the contents of the letter, his eyes unable to hide his satisfaction. He spoke excitedly to the butler before him. "Excellent. It seems even the royal family has turned its back on the Marcus family." The man happily added to his master's words, "Of course, my lord. Apart from their founding ancestor, that family has never had any achievements worthy of their overblown reputation. What they have in terms of wealth and manpower is laughable, if not pathetic." Alan agreed with him, indeed. "Their wealth is even more meager than their manpower." He set the letter down and made his decision. "Regardless, we will proceed with the plan as intended." Then he added with immense satisfaction, "The Markbas family will finally be brought to their knees in next month's war between the noble houses. Are you ready?" The steward hastily pledged his loyalty. "Yes, Lord Alan," Alan asked in a low voice. "We are certain to win, aren't we?" Filled with confidence, the steward assured him, unless a true necromancer appears in the Markbas family after centuries of decline, or the forefather, Wellen von Markbas, rises from his grave, otherwise the chance of our failure is nearly zero. Alan smirked smugly. "In that case, this war is completely ours." In the dungeons of the Markbas family, a desperate voice cried out as Bullen prostrated himself on the ground. He earnestly confessed to Leon, "Please forgive this foolish servant of yours." Bullen pleaded, "I was ignorant of Kotrang's dark ambitions and allowed him to put you in grave danger." He repented loudly, "I deserve to be executed." Leon silently watched the man before him. Looking at Bullen's prostrate, remorseful figure, he thought to himself, he is one of the few loyal retainers left in the Markbas family, and the only one who dared to openly oppose my uncle. No matter what, I must recruit him to my side. With that thought, he quickly helped the man up. "Please rise, Sir Bullen." Then he gently reassured him, "There is still much to be done, and I require your service." A move Bullen asked in return, "My service, young master. But what use could a failure like me be to you?" But just as Leon was about to speak, a few flies buzzing around Bullen ruined the atmosphere. Leon had no choice but to end the conversation. "First you should go and wash up, then meet me in the family study. We will discuss the details later." Bullen was so overjoyed he was moved to tears, exclaiming, "You are too generous, my lord." Then, unable to contain his emotions, he swore an oath to him. "I, Bullen, swear my absolute loyalty to you for all eternity." A moment later, in his private chambers, Leon was silently gazing outside when Mark 8 suddenly appeared beside him, habitually and nimbly jumping onto his shoulder. While comfortably grooming its fur, it asked him, "So, what do you intend to do next? The choice is yours, contractor." A while later, Bullen exclaimed in shock, "What did you say?" He seemed so frightened by Leon's idea that he started to stammer. "But I can't think of anything more dangerous than approaching the Sylvester family while disguised as Kurt Trank." But Bullen quickly calmed himself and analyzed the situation. To play his part convincingly, "I fear it would require an extraordinary performance." Despite his concerns, Leon remained calm and cast a spell. "Will this be enough?" A monstrous shadow appeared at his summons. Very quickly, it transformed into the shape of Kotrang. This left Bullen completely stunned. What is this unholy miracle?" He couldn't believe his eyes, silently wondering to himself, how can the master be so calm about this? Not to mention, he even turned his own uncle into one of the undead. He looked at Leon's cold, detached demeanor and became fully convinced of the things he had heard. "The other servants told me, but to witness it with my own eyes is truly incomparable." At that thought, Bullen was filled with emotion and asked, "So the rumors that you've mastered the art of necromancy, are they true?" Leon calmly nodded. I suppose they are. At that moment, a sense of injustice welled up inside Bullen. If this were the golden age of the Manhwas family, with the power of a true necromancer, he could seize anything he desires. Why have the heavens been so cruel to our family? But he quickly pushed aside that sentiment and began to discuss matters seriously with Leon. Of course, controlling Kotrang as an undead being could help you deceive the Sylvester family for a time, my lord. But sooner or later they will spot the flaws, he carefully reminded him. The undead cannot perfectly replicate the handwriting gestures or manner of speech of the deceased. Leon completely agreed with him on this point. That would be true if this were an undead being raised from Kotrang's corpse. He turned towards the newly created Kotrang and explained, but in reality this is just the undead form of a doppelganger I happened to find. It's a creature capable of copying the appearance memories and even a portion of its victim's abilities. While Bullen was stunned by the fake Kotrang's abilities, Leon silently recalled the circumstances under which he found the doppelganger. In his memory, he pulled out his blood-soaked sword, panting from exhaustion, and staggered backward in the family's dark shrine, a newly slain corpse, before him. Leon had asked curiously, "What is this monster called?" Markbas had replied quickly, "A doppelganger." It further explained, it can mimic a portion of its victim's appearance, memories, and skills. It is a fearsome creature. It often impersonates those who are lost or left behind. This one took the form of the girl following you, hiding and waiting for a chance to strike. Mark 8 also warned him, and eventually it kills the original, and even devours the victim's companions. Leon mused for a moment. A doppelganger, huh? Meanwhile, Mark 8 was extremely satisfied, thinking to itself, like father, like son, indeed Wellen. Just then, streams of death energy poured from the doppelganger's corpse. As if being controlled, it rose up before Leon's eyes. As Mark 8 finished its satisfied thought, how kind of you to leave your most precious contract for your dear descendant. The body of the girl the doppelganger had transformed into broke into a smile. With a cold light glinting in her eyes and grim death energy surrounding her, the doppelganger girl stood soullessly before him. Confused, Leon asked Mark 8, "Should I be pleased about this?" It confirmed with satisfaction. "Absolutely, but be careful. This creature can only transform into targets the necromancer has met before." As Mark 8 spoke, a bizarre shape formed by death energy began to materialize above the girl's head. It paid it little mind and continued to explain to Leon, "And any target who possesses magical power superior to the caster, no matter what method you use, cannot be resurrected as a clone." Mark 8 asked in a low voice, "Do you accept these conditions?" "Contractor, no matter how talented you are, you're still a novice." It gestured towards the grimoire in Leon's hand, reminding him, "Even if you succeed in imprisoning your uncle's soul, it will be meaningless. If you don't have a way to maintain long-term control, eventually his soul will simply fade into nothingness." Having said this, Mark 8 made a suggestion. "I advise you to leave the Markbas family for a time, at least until you can find a solution to this situation." But before it could finish, Leon firmly cut it off. "Impossible. I will not turn my back on my own blood." Seeing its persistence, he elaborated, making it crystal clear. "If I am absent, what do you think will happen? The innocent people in this manner will be slaughtered. Or in the best-case scenario, they'll be subjugated under the heel of the invading Sylvesters." Mark 8 asked in a low voice, "And yet you are still willing to put your own life on the line for them?" Leon held his ground, firmly asserting, "I am willing to die for them." It was completely unable to comprehend Leon's thinking and could only wonder to itself, but to win for the sake of a blind loyalty to this family. What is there to gain? But Mark 8 quickly pushed that question aside and turned back to the monster that had just materialized. "Fine. Perhaps there are more pressing matters to discuss." By now, the girl's body had completely vanished. In its place was a monster made of pure black death energy. It gestured towards the creature, instructing Leon, "Then do as you wish. Turn that thing into your undead servant. I suspect you will find it useful." He was a little curious about the monster before him and asked, "Do you know what this creature is?" Mark 8 answered nonchalantly, "Of course I do. It was once one of the undead subordinates commanded by Wellen. In your current state, it might be a little difficult to control. Just remember it has a rather unpleasant temperament." After getting a clear answer, Leon immediately aimed the necromancy matrix from within the grimoire at the monster and recited the incantation to summon the soul of the departed. "Heed the summons of the heir of Max Leon von Max the Eighth. I call you back to the mortal realm." Very quickly, the monster, which was merely a mass of necrotic energy, took on a distinct human form. All while it stared at Leon, the whites of its eyes showing. Then Mark 8 struck from behind, landing a heavy blow on its head and shouting, "Wake up, Black Crow! Don't slumber any longer for the first time in centuries. I have a contractor." The creature called the Black Crow flailed its limbs in confusion. Meanwhile, his lordship impatiently snapped, "You foolish creature! You should at least change your form before you speak. Otherwise, no one will understand a word you're saying." The Black Crow took this to heart and thought seriously. Then a new idea struck. It quickly cast a spell, and from within a cloud of deathly aura, Leon's cold face emerged, directing mocking words at Mark 8. Such arrogant words from a ragged stray cat. That remark successfully infuriated his lordship. "Why do you have a death wish? The Black Crow, now in Leon's complete form, sneered at Mark 8. I'm already dead. The fool of a cat. But as Leon faced a visage identical to his own, he remained utterly calm. That was also the final thought that ended his recollection. Back in the present, Bullen was seriously considering the plan before them. If there's a way to replicate even Corson's minor habits based on his memories, it's highly likely we can deceive the Sylvesters with his undead spirit, my lord, he stated with certainty, assuring Leon. In fact, I guarantee you this plan will succeed. I Bullen swear to carry it out at any cost. Leon replied with satisfaction. That is the answer I was hoping for, Lord Bullen. This time the man carefully asked him, if I may, Clanhead, would you be so generous as to permit me one final question? Leon's silence was taken as consent. Only then did Bullen voice his concern. House Sylvester will surely receive support from the royal family to attack House Markvath again. So why are you so determined to stay? Even knowing the lurking danger, wouldn't fleeing offer a higher chance of survival? These words reminded Leon that Mark 8 had once given him similar advice. I advise you to leave House Markvath, for a time at least, to find a solution to this situation. Just like before, he answered with resolve. Protecting the clan is my duty, that is all. That resilience moved Bullen's heart. He carefully made his vow, but couldn't help but wonder. Then I, Bullen, pledge my wholehearted service to your will. However, if I may be so bold, may I ask about your true motivation, Clanhead? But this question seemed to stump Leon. He grew pensive and replied, To be honest, I've wondered that myself for a very long time. Bullen was surprised. You mean your own motivation? Leon confirmed it without hiding anything. Yes, but I can't say I have some grand ideal in mind. I simply ask myself how to become a worthy clanhead, and what worthy even means. The answer is still unclear, at least for now. Bullen was completely stunned into silence by those words, while Leon calmly continued his self-reflection. That's why I've chosen to buy more time to find the answer for myself. He smiled faintly, his voice turning cold in an instant. To that end, I will stop anyone who wishes to take what belongs to us. He recalled the days of the past as he laid out his plans and direction for the present. As long as I don't repeat my father's mistakes and can protect what I have time and time again, then perhaps one day I will find the answer to why I fight for this land. That's all I've thought about it. I'm afraid there's nothing more profound than that. He finished his words with a relieved smile. That night in the bedroom, the Black Crow once again borrowed his form to converse. Who would have thought this clan had fallen so far? You have a lot of work to do, contractor. Mark 8 off to the side, angrily corrected it. Address me as Master Black Crow. How dare you speak so condescendingly to our contractor? It casually retorted, Oh, but Lord Markvath himself doesn't seem too concerned with such formalities. Mark 8 was about to snap back, however. He suddenly thought of something and turned to ask Leon. Contractor, has anyone ever told you that you're completely oblivious to social cues? Slightly surprised, he nodded. I believe so, yes. How did you know? His lordship just gave a vague reply. Just a hunch. He then went on to explain the Black Crow's origins to Leon. In any case, the Black Crow was once Welland's contract beast. In other words, it was passed down to you as part of the inheritance. The Black Crow was a loyal assassin who served your ancestor. Leon pondered the new information and agreed. I see. The ability to transform into anyone must be quite useful for an assassin. Receiving Leon's validation, he grew smug and teased Markvath. A Black Crow that excels at killing will be very useful to the contractor, unlike some stray cat with an oversized ego. His lordship flew into a rage and shouted back, I am not a cat. Do you want to be thrown back into the abyss for your insolence? Meanwhile, Leon completely ignored their noisy squabble and said to it seriously, I truly need your talents. The crow in turn also ignored the ongoing brawl. He asked seriously, Can you disguise yourself as my late Uncle Corson? The Black Crow immediately affirmed, Of course, it's as easy as a piece of snake as they say. Markvath immediately caught the mistake in his phrase and began to mock it. You idiot, the correct saying is easy as pie, not easy as snake. The Black Crow didn't understand why anyone would waste their appetite on human sweets when delicious snake venom was readily available. Leon played along and replied, To each their own, I suppose. Markvath was speechless and turned to warn him, Don't you dare indulge this fool contractor. Just then, there was a loud knock on the door. Who is it? Upon hearing his reply, Bullen rushed in from outside. It is I, Bullen Clan Head. He simultaneously presented a letter before him. I just received a letter from House Sylvester and came immediately to deliver it to you personally. Leon slowly read the contents of the letter. It was an accusation and a declaration of war. More than a century has passed since House Markvath retreated from its ducal duties, as a rebuke to House Markvath, who greedily feast upon the blood, sweat, and tears of their subjects. House Sylvester, under the righteous leadership of Count Alan de Sylvester, now challenges House Markvath to a war between noble houses, should House Markvath accept surrender within the allotted time. All-out war will be averted and your people shall be welcomed with open arms. However, should you refuse this condition in 1 month's time, the armies of House Sylvester will march upon the Markvath domain and raise everything in our path, in the name of the will and wisdom of His Majesty, the Emperor Count Alan Sylvester. After reading the letter, Markvath remarked, So the storm is gathering. Leon muttered to himself, We have exactly 1 month. His lordship laughed mockingly, provoking him. what feeling scared all of a sudden. Then he jumped down from his shoulder and seriously proposed a solution. It's true we don't have much time, but I think we can still retreat and wait for an opportunity to counterattack. Let's gather our forces and... Leon calmly cut him off. You've misunderstood me. He looked at the dark magic in his palm and smiled grimly. I just meant, I'm not sure I have the patience to wait that long. Hearing this, Markvath once again gave him a serious warning. You truly are an insane contractor. Beyond imagination, the army will number in the hundreds. Don't be naive and underestimate this threat. This time is completely different from when you faced your uncle. Are you really going to face them? In response, he received a cold gaze and a faint, confident smile. Oh, I think we'll manage just fine. He raised his hand, summoning a stream of black aura filled with incessantly screaming souls that reeked of death, and replied to Mark 8. This time, I don't need to bother with mercy. I just need to wipe out every single life before me. The next morning in the bustling market, a few townspeople were chatting. Hey, did you hear? Apparently so Kotrang vanished during the night. Another person chimed in. Of course I have. So many bad things are happening all at once, and the old clan head only just passed away. A worried middle-aged man spoke up. I just hope the young master is safe. He's just lost his only family member. It was so soon after his father's death. Another added, equally concerned. I wonder if he has the strength to face the storms ahead. A young man nearby was listening in on the conversation. He chimed in, You're talking about Lord John's son, right? Don't worry. I'm sure he'll be fine. But the middle-aged man, thinking of the enemy army lurking outside the city walls, remained fearful. Right, it's not as if the Sylvesters won't come breaking down our gates again like last time. I hope you two are right. The other person also chimed in, but allowed ahem, yet from behind quickly cut their conversation short. It was Bullen. With a grim expression, he reminded the townspeople, Do I need to remind you all that walls have ears? Following behind him was none other than Leon. Recognizing the two, the townspeople quickly bowed and tried to explain themselves. Lord Bullen, we were just making some idle chatter. Then they turned to Leon and added, And of course, please accept our deepest condolences, young master, for your loss. It's truly heartbreaking. Losing a family member is difficult enough. We can't even imagine the pain you must be going through. Leon calmly cut him off and announced, On the contrary, my uncle is still alive. He's simply bedridden due to a sudden grave illness, if you must know. Inside, he was calculating. It's best to let the entire domain believe he's still alive right now. Then he gently reassured the townspeople. But having said that, you don't need to concern yourselves with him too much. Just with those few words, he quickly ended the conversation. As he turned to leave, he thought to himself, To deceive the enemy, you must first deceive your allies. Walking on, Leon gave Bullen a quiet order. Bullen, you will be responsible for ensuring all surviving clan retainers and any witnesses keep this under wraps. Bullen quickly replied, As you command, my lord, you can count on me. He then took the opportunity to probe the purpose of their trip. Speaking of which, my lord, what is your purpose in visiting the town center? Just give the word and I will prepare anything you need. Leon answered vaguely, There's one thing that I must confirm for myself. Just then, Mark the Eighth, perched on Leon's shoulder, spoke up. This is it. I'm sensing a powerful source of magic from that building up ahead. They were now standing before a building. Its doors were shut tight. Leon walked ahead alone, instructing Bullen. Wait here until I return. Bullen called out worriedly, My lord Clanhead, are you certain you want to go in by yourself? Leon affirmed calmly, Yes, and I order you to seal the door behind me. Allow no one to enter or leave. As soon as he stepped inside, he was met with a scene of chaos. Ahead of him, several people were busy cleaning up the mess. Leon approached someone with beast-like ears and asked, Mark the Eighth, is that him? He confirmed at once. There's no doubt about it. The person they were referring to was a young beastman, his body covered in scars, his eyes vacant. Looking at the boy, Mark the Eighth clicked his tongue in regret. Such a shame to let a rare talent like this be squandered. Then again, it makes sense when your clan lacks a single retainer discerning enough to spot such talent. Leon walked up to the young beastman and spoke in a friendly voice. Could I have a moment of your time? Seeing Leon, the beastman youth became frightened and immediately dropped to his knees. Forgive me, young master. There was a fight in the tavern last night because of some unruly patrons. We would be very grateful if you could come back on another occasion. A woman approached from behind. Hearing his words, she charged forward aggressively and kicked the young beastman hard. Vanta, is that any way to speak to the young master? She then turned to Leon, forcing an obsequious smile. My apologies, young master. We had no intention of having a lowly beastman greet you. The moment she finished speaking, she turned and slapped Vanta hard, growling at him. You insolent whelp. Do you have any idea who you're talking to? She gestured toward Leon as she berated the boy. You'd better remember this. This is the young master of the Mark the Eighth clan. The beastman youth, still prostrate on the floor, pleaded in a small voice. Forgive me, madam. I'm new here. I didn't know. Leon, his voice still gentle, repeated his earlier request. Yes, and as I was saying, I'd like you to spare me a moment of your time. Hearing this, the woman cheerfully agreed. Oh, I'd be more than happy to, young master. It's not like I'm busy these days. But Leon cut her off coldly. No, I have nothing to say to you. He looked towards Vanta and stated with persistence, The one I wish to see is him. He recalled the words of Mark Bat. According to the Demon King, Mark Bat, this beastman possesses extraordinary potential. He will become a crucial retainer for our clan. Vanta was still on the ground, but his mind reeled as he stared at the man before him. What did she just say? That boy is the young master of the Mark the Eighth clan. Meanwhile, Leon began to cast dark magic. Tendrils of necrotic energy reached out to Vanta, gently healing the wounds all over his body. The young beastman stared at his now smooth skin in disbelief. Vanta gasped, You healed my injuries. Leon, still patient, repeated his request one more time. For the last time, may I have a moment of your time? Again, the proprietress blocked his path to the beastman. I'm very sorry to say this, my lord, but this beastman is my personal slave. He has no authority to give you his time. You should have asked me, as is proper. Leon thought with contempt. This woman wasn't there when I took my uncle's life, and all the other witnesses are dead. She must be completely in the dark. So he gave a cold smile and questioned her. Fine. Then I have a few questions for you. First, since when did the Mark the Eighth Duchy permit slavery? And not just that. His cold voice directly challenged her way of addressing him. And second, even though some time has passed since my predecessor died, why do you insist on calling me by my childhood title? Or could it be... As he spoke, necrotic energy flooded the room, startling the proprietress and her guards. Leon activated his grimoire and asked grimly, That you don't recognize me as the worthy head of the Mark the Eighth clan. Mark the Eighth commented in satisfaction. Well said, my contractor. He then addressed the others, his voice filled with menace. He may be young, but I will not tolerate a single soul who disrespects the bearer of my covenant. Such insolence does not deserve forgiveness. Meanwhile, Leon calmly issued an order to the woman. He isn't the only one I'm interested in. If you own any other slaves, you are to free all of them, immediately. You have 10 minutes to carry out this order. I will not give you another chance. The woman stared at him resentful. Completely ignoring his command, she smiled disdainfully. Young master, are you really ready for what comes next? Then, as if suddenly remembering, she let out a sarcastic, Oh, did I forget to use your proper title again? As long as you're aware of it, that's all that matters. Leon paid little mind to her contemptuous attitude, replying indifferently. Besides, I've heard worse. As he once again gently reached his hand out to Vanta, the action left the boy confused. My lord, I don't understand why... You're treating me with such kindness. I'm just a useless slave. But a snap of the fingers cut his question short. Very quickly, a group of men surrounded Leon on command. The innkeeper aggressively ordered her henchmen. All right, boys, get him, Sir Trang said. He's got our backs. Charge. The men immediately rushed forward. Despite the situation, Leon remained calm and unleashed his magic as a stream of necrotic energy dripped from his hand. In an instant, it had summoned a swarm of undead monsters. They charged without hesitation, taking down the men. The innkeeper was instantly terrified by the scene before her, while over here, Leon pulled out his own cracked sword. He calmly held it before one of the undead, and said to it, Let me borrow a sword, will you? As you can see, my weapon is all chipped. It obediently handed its sword to him. Leon, satisfied, promised, Very good. I'll return it when I'm done. He slowly approached with the blade, ruthlessly killing the unfortunate souls who appeared before him. The innkeeper was now panicking, trembling, and muttering. What the hell is this? I can't believe it. She stared at the deadly carnage before her. How could a useless brat like him possess such terrifying power? Meanwhile, Vanta was still stunned by the situation. Just then Leon spoke to him gently again. You asked what you did to deserve my kindness, didn't you? You may see yourself as a useless slave. He turned to the boy and sincerely affirmed, but nothing could be further from the truth. At least for now, you can be a crucial part of my plan. The young man couldn't seem to believe what he had just heard. He silently denied it to himself. What is he talking about? Why would a noble clan head like him need someone like me? He looked at his own wretched reflection on the damp floor and thought, I'm just a wanderer, abandoned and cast aside all over this continent. Memories from long ago suddenly flooded his mind from when he was just a child. He was being beaten so badly he pleaded, It hurts. Please stop. I'm begging you. But the other children ignored his words, cruelly continuing to punch and kick him while incessantly hurling vicious insults. Shut up, you filthy animal. It's your kind that ruined this year's harvest. We never should have let your people into the village. What a disgusting beast. The little boy could only clutch his head. Bracing himself, he endured the blows. When I was little, I could never understand. He was met with cruel, contemptuous smiles. He always wondered, why did the human children bully me like this? And why did they take such joy in my pain? I was just an innocent child, unable to comprehend any of it. His crimson eyes lowered in submission, but ultimately they glared back, filled with resentful anger. But now, I understand. With that, a terrifying power erupted from him, sending the human children flying. He angrily asked them, Why can't you just leave me alone? In the young man's heart. As he recalled that moment, he finally understood. There was no specific reason. They decided to make my life a living hell for no other reason than the fact that I was different from them. But in his memory, the Beastkin boy cried out in pain to the other children, Why are you doing this? For that reason alone, I became a target of their hatred. When the boy calmed down, he was surrounded by the bodies of the other children. Then I suddenly realized something I had been too naive to understand before. The boy was horrified when he realized what he had done, terrified as he blamed himself. It can't be. Did I do all this? At first, I couldn't accept the truth. I was afraid to face it. And so the child in his memory turned and ran, fleeing from the terrible thing he had done. The truth is that I am the heartless monster they all said I was. Back in the present, the fight in the room was over. The innkeeper, still failing to grasp the situation, angrily yelled, "Leon, what have you done? Do you think a little temper tantrum will make Sir Trang give up his title? A useless noble like you can't do anything to stop us. Get that through your head." He replied coldly, "You might be more right than you think. For now. But that doesn't mean I'll remain the useless noble you speak of forever, one who doesn't fight back against injustice. Soon I will become a clan head worthy of House Markbad." As he spoke, a sphere of dark energy began to form in his hand. Leon aimed the sphere at the woman and grimly pronounced her sentence, "And you have no place in this domain's future." She only managed to scream out an incomplete sentence, "You insolent!" After that, very quickly, everything fell silent. Leon turned away in disgust. He was met by Vanta's gaze, which hadn't left him for a moment. The boy stared right at him and thought to himself, "He may be a murderer, his hands stained with blood standing amidst a pile of corpses. But why don't I feel any fear when I'm near him? Why is that?" He approached the boy and gave him a gentle smile. "Vanta, isn't it?" He made his offer. "Would you be willing to help me? I require your service." The boy thought for a moment, ultimately choosing to be honest with him. "If it's not too bold of me, my lord, may I ask a question before I pledge my loyalty immediately after?" He dropped his disguise, revealing his true form, as he said to him, "I am a descendant of the demon wolf tribe. Even among the beastkin, my people are the most despised." With deep sorrow in his heart, he painfully asked him, "Will I have to endure this contempt for the rest of my life?" "How much longer must my people live in shame like wild animals?" Leon answered without a moment's hesitation. "No longer. I assure you of that." He answered the boy's question in a soft voice, yet it was as if he was opening up before Vanta's eyes. "A different path. I don't know much about your suffering, nor do I fully understand the complexities involved. But if your lives have been weighed down by baseless prejudice, let everyone know that from this moment on, that prejudice will no longer be tolerated." Before the boy's hopeful eyes, he declared in a serious tone, "You will be a loyal vassal of the Markbad family." He offered a gentle hand and a soft smile. And in a firm voice, Leon said to Vanta, "I promise you." Vanta's eyes filled with tears as he looked at him. The resolute words continued to pour into his ears. "Let the entire world know that you will be a loyal vassal of this family. Markbad, I swear it on my honor." 2 streams of tears rolled down Vanta's face. He placed his hand in Leon's as a sign of his acceptance. Even so, Leon asked again with great solemnity, "Can we take your stunned silence as a yes?" Vanta joyfully affirmed, "Yes, my lord. It would be my greatest honor to serve you." Elsewhere, at the magnificent palace of the Achem imperial family in the reception hall, Esteban von Achem, emperor of the empire, Achem, sat listlessly on his throne. Behind him was Louis von Achem, the crown prince of the Achem Empire. Speaking on the emperor's behalf, he asked the person below vassal Eldoras, "For what purpose have you requested this royal audience?" Eldoras bowed respectfully and spoke, "Your Highness. A letter has arrived from Count Sylvester." The crown prince scoffed contemptuously. "As the crown prince, I concern myself only with the great affairs of the nation and the duchy. Am I now expected to care about some mere count? Insignificant," he added, looking at the king's rigid face. "Father, I'm certain you would be furious to hear this." Eldoras hurriedly explained, "I would never dare to imagine such a thing. Your Highness, I rushed here only to bring good news. Please forgive my intrusion." Those words successfully piqued his curiosity. "Good news, Faced with that question, Eldoras broke into a sweat, thinking to himself, "The prince is the most powerful man in the entire empire. I cannot afford to misspeak and displease him now." After a moment, Louis, intrigued, asked again, "Is that so? Are you referring to the Markbath family?" Eldoras enthusiastically confirmed, "Yes, Your Highness. The very enemy you have detested for all these years. One of the 3 great families of the Abyss." He continued to persuade the prince with a calculating tone. "I humbly propose that Your Highness take this opportunity to side with House Sylvester, so that we may once and for all eliminate our mutual enemy." Louis also showed his excitement at the idea. An interesting idea. Indeed it is. But he had always been wary of the Markbath family's power, and reminded him in a low voice, "But have you forgotten? House Markbath possesses the power of necromancy. A direct war with them, I fear it will not be easy." Upon hearing that, Eldoras reported smugly, "As perceptive as ever, Your Highness. But currently the Markbath family has no heir who can wield that power. Meanwhile, the strength of House Sylvester has grown to rival that of Duke Markbath." Louis appeared to be convinced by those flattering, honeyed words. He agreed nonchalantly, Very well. You may proceed with your chess game. This is the perfect time to wipe those disgusting grave robbers from this empire." Having received his consent, Eldoras immediately grew ecstatic and exclaimed, "In the name of the great Achem Empire, I shall personally lead this campaign to victory." Watching his retreating figure, Louis smiled smugly. "Thanks to your lenient reign, father, at last. I can finally remove this thorn in my side, a relic of a bygone era," he mused to the soulless emperor. "Your legacy will be preserved in my hands." Louis was like the puppet master, and the emperor his puppet. He then embraced the throne from behind, laughing coldly. "And soon, all of this will be mine to use as I see fit." Back at the Markbath family estate, everyone was currently gathered in Leon's private study. Bullen, while placing a magic collar around Vanta's neck, spoke to him. The people cannot yet fully trust Beastkin Vanta. Therefore, I suggest you always keep this on your person. He looked at the glowing red gem on the boy's neck and warned sternly, Of course your lord and I see you as a loyal vassal, but I cannot ignore the influence of public opinion. At that moment, the ears on Vanta's head retracted. He touched his now smooth hair in surprise, while Bullen, standing to the side, continued to remind him, From now on, none of our actions can be allowed to obstruct the lord's ideals. Do you understand? Vanta stammered in reply, Yes, Sir Bullen. He nodded in satisfaction. Very good. What a sharp young man. Just then, Leon spoke up, drawing everyone's attention. If everything is settled, I wish to speak to you all about some important matters. May I? After seeing that everyone was focused, he continued, First, I must emphasize one thing. Your oath of loyalty cannot merely be empty words. Leon spoke gravely. He stated his demand to all who had pledged themselves to him. And so I ask you, are you prepared to offer your eternal unwavering loyalty to me and to me alone? Bullen was the first to answer with all his heart, Absolutely, my lord. He even emotionally gripped Leon's hand and swore an oath. I, Bullen, swear to dedicate my life to serving the ducal house of Markbath. Until my last breath, I beg of you, grant this humble servant the opportunity to fulfill his oath. My lord. Leon was a bit speechless at Bullen's overly emotional display, unsure of how to react. The black orb to one side also looked at the scene in disbelief and remarked, A new master. I am truly astonished. He has broken the will of an old human with words alone. Markbath, who was nearby, also showed clear satisfaction. Indeed, to conquer and to subjugate are the core principles of the Markbath family. At this moment, Vanta also turned to Leon and spoke earnestly, I feel the same way, my lord. He solemnly expressed his submission. To him. But it seemed Leon still felt it wasn't enough. He replied nonchalantly, But those are your beliefs, not mine. Vanta asked, confused, Young master, who are you talking to? Leon didn't explain in detail, only clarifying his request once more. In any case, before we officially begin, I propose we form a pact bound by mana with all of you. He then warned everyone in a stern voice. If any of you refuse this pact, I will take it to mean you have no intention of following me. Vanta, still not understanding, mumbled, A mana-bound pact. It is a magical contract, also known as a covenant. It transforms the mana of both parties into a binding pattern, connecting them in an unbreakable relationship, allowing them to share secrets that should have otherwise remained buried in darkness. Leon slowly stepped into his position within the circle. He announced to everyone in a deep voice, If there are no objections, then let us begin. As soon as the words were spoken, he summoned a black hole filled with the aura of death, and from within it, a pair of hands. Holding a scroll filled with dark magic opened before everyone's eyes. Markbath took a deep breath and instantly returned to its original form. It declared in a deep voice, as the guardian deity of the Markbath family, I and the demon who bestowed the title upon your bloodline, I shall bear witness to this magical contract. He then turned to Vanta and Bullen, who were staring at him in wide-eyed terror, and uttered the words, O you who have sworn fealty to the bearer of my covenant, let your souls be bound to the dominion of Markbath. Praise the splendor, witness it, mortals. Necrotic energy enveloped Leon like a sphere. It continuously shot out rays of deathly energy throughout the room. Behind him, the demon Markbath majestically proclaimed, The Lord of the Undead has risen. Markbath sat there, imposing as a statue, the only difference being the lethal danger, radiating from its blazing red, fiery eyes. The servants below could do nothing but stare up at it, their jaws agape. Just then Leon finally spoke. I think that's quite enough of this theatrics. He looked toward Mac 8, who was still emitting an oppressive aura, and told them, They are my loyal servants and they deserve respect. Mac 8, getting the hint, seemed to relent, replying, So that means they've all accepted this pact. But right after he pointed at the other two and reminded them in a solemn voice, Know that the price of this pact is your very souls, and any betrayal against the Necrolord. That act is unforgivable. The ever-cowardly Bullen was now scared out of his wits. He bowed low, showing his loyalty. I would never even dare to dream of such a treacherous act. In his heart, he thought, Could this really be the demon Markbath that the first head of our family made a pact with? There's no other logical explanation for how Lord Leon can control the power. Gate of necromancy. Vanta, standing beside him, had also been trembling non-stop since a moment ago. Such a horrifying density of mana. My race has a keen sense for magic, and yet I'm still frozen in place. So the question is, what is young Master Leon's true nature? As for that ominous black lion, after witnessing the heartfelt sincerity of the other two Markbath, was reassured and reverted to its miniature form. The undeniable truth is its cat form is quite cute. So cute, in fact, that Vanta's fear vanished and he blurted out, Huh? What an adorable little kitten. Luckily, Bullen kept his wits about him and quickly covered the boy's mouth, causing him to only make muffled sounds. But it was too late, as Markbath had heard everything. While licking its ruffled fur, it asked in a low voice, What did you say? Bullen immediately spoke up to cover for Vanta. Ha ha. I believe he was simply astonished by your forms. By say, immense and majestic stature, Lord Macbeth. I suspect Vanta has never witnessed such a magnificent sight before. Macbeth seemed to have bought Bullen's flowery words as it closed its eyes smugly and spoke. Very well, but you are not permitted to reveal my existence to the human world. Remember, we are at war, and in war, knowledge can mean the difference between life and death. My form can only be seen by those I choose. From what I can tell, the nobles in your kingdom seem to have no interest in that Kochan fellow. Is it him? Bullen hesitated slightly when mentioning that person. Lord Kochan, but Vanta standing beside him also didn't know what to say and just unconsciously repeated his name, Kochan. After thinking it over, he finally said, I remember the innkeeper received a letter, or rather, the letter was sent to her to be passed on to Kochan. Hearing something interesting, Mapad grew much more excited, even jumping onto Leon's shoulder and exclaiming, There it is, our next clue. Leon maintained his usual unchanging expression towards Vanta. Where is that letter? Unfortunately, he replied in a mournful voice. If only I knew, my lord. Just then, the black crow standing nearby spoke up. Finding its whereabouts. The black crow knows where it is. He took out a chest. While grumbling, You fools! How could you forget to collect the spoils of war? When opened, the chest was filled with gold, silver, and jewels so dazzlingly colorful, it threatened to blind the onlooker. Mapad slapped his forehead and exclaimed, I should have remembered what a greedy minion you are, since you raised the entire inn and dealt with the innkeeper. It seems the Black Crow believes that everything left there now belongs to the victor. In contrast to the fast-talking Mapad, Leon was silent as if in deep thought. He approached the chest, rested his hand on the lid, and observed it for a while. Finally, he spotted something. So hidden among the colorful diamonds was a strange, already opened letter. Leon picked it up and said, I think we've found it. Mapad didn't hold back his praise for the Black Crow. I guess even you can be useful once in a millennium. The crow, not liking his tone, asked with some irritation. That was a compliment, wasn't it, right? Leon said softly, I'll read it aloud. Then he read the words from the strange letter. Listen well. To our enemies, the house of Macbeth, we, the prestigious house of Sylvester, in the name of the Supreme Emperor, hereby declare a war between noble houses against your duchy. Although you possess great military strength, as a Grand Duchy, you have neglected your duty to serve Emperor Esteban von Acham. This negligence is a grave crime, and I shall personally pass judgment upon you on behalf of the imperial family. You have 1 month. If within that time you accept surrender, this declaration of war will be retracted, and the house of Macbeth will be absorbed into the house of Sylvester as a fitting punishment for your crimes. Conversely, if you choose to resist, then, and prove your innocence on the battlefield, Lord of House, Sylvester Count Alenzer, Sylvester. After hearing the letter's contents, everyone was stunned, while Leon said thoughtfully, Mapad smiled slyly and asked him, Is that not enough? But he was met with Leon's steadfast, fearless gaze. I don't see the time as a concern, but I do have an interesting idea. Now that I have the ability to control the undead with a mere thought, I suddenly thought that I could enjoy a little fun in this matter. Then the two of them turned to the Black Crow, who had been standing by. Black Crow, I have a mission for you. Meanwhile, on the other side, the House of Sylvester was also monitoring the situation closely. A certain retainer was reporting to Alan. The declaration of war has been delivered to the house of Macbeth, my lord. You should have seen the look on that Weasel Kochan's face. He was clinging to my trousers, looking so pathetic, I almost finished him off. Right there on the spot. Upon hearing the report, Alan couldn't help but laugh out loud. Ha ha! That fool. I bet he's crying his eyes out right now. Still, we must keep him alive for a while longer. After all, he's still a useful idiot, and the power of the house of Macbeth is better off in the hands of a clumsy oaf like him. Speaking of which, how is that kid? The boy who is supposedly the rightful heir of the house. The other man replied, You mean Leon von Macbeth? There's no particular news about him. It's presumed that Kochan made the kid disappear. Alan was very pleased and said, Good. But then the reporter added, If I may be so bold to ask, is there any reason to worry about a 14-year-old child? What can a mere brat do? Alan didn't immediately reprimand the retainer, but instead ordered him to answer, What is the greatest assault a person can experience? The man had no prospects. With just one question, he was sweating profusely, stammering, I'm not a profound scholar. I don't know. Alan had to slowly voice his own thoughts. It is when you face an enemy, so overwhelming that all hope is lost. With no way to resist, you can only watch helplessly as your entire world collapses. There's no greater suffering than that. And what do you think is the cause of that assault? Alan didn't wait for the retainer to answer and resolved the question himself. Innate talent, that's all there is to it. A talent so great that others can do nothing but stare up in awe. The retainer still seemed to be lost in a daze. He said with little confidence, What talent could that brat possibly have? At this point, Alan was at a loss for words at the ignorance of his own soldiers. He rested his chin on his hand and stared at him, but still explained patiently, Don't be a fool. You're talking about the bloodline of Wellenvaughan on Macbeth. Nothing is surprising when it comes to that cursed lineage. That is why we must prepare for every possibility. Hearing the absolute command from Alan, the retainer hurriedly bowed and shouted, Yes, sir. Back at the Macbeth household, they had also come up with their countermeasures. In the meeting room, two Leons were standing opposite each other. One said, "I must admit this is quite a spectacular sight." The other also voiced his agreement. "Yes, impressive, isn't it?" The other continued, "Human words sound so foreign. Here, when you are in your original form, and yet now, you can use my memories and mimic my speech perfectly." The other Leon then put on an expression that the real Leon would certainly never have, looking at Mapad mockingly. "As you can see, I am more than a mere magic user, unlike your little cat." Being called out, Mapad became so furious, he hissed and shouted, "Shut up!" Then without warning, he lunged forward and landed a solid punch on the fake Leon's jaw. A thunderous blow from his small but mighty paw. The Black Crow, currently in Leon's form, didn't even bother with Mapad. Although his face was torn by the punch, he immediately used his magic to restore it to its original state. This made Mapad feel like he was punching a sack of cotton. Furious but helpless, he yelled, "You!" Vanta was still quite new to the chaotic scene in this place. He froze with a blank face and asked Bullen next to him, "Is it always this chaotic here, Lord Bullen?" With his many years of survival experience, Bullen immediately reminded him, "Shh, be quiet, Vanter. Keep your mouth shut and you'll live longer." Vanter asked worriedly, "More importantly, shall we begin?" Leon said softly, "You have only 1 month." As he spoke, he took down the sword that was in the middle of the room and handed it to Vanter in front of everyone, entrusting it to him. "All I ask is that you demonstrate your talent within that time." Vanter understood his meaning. He accepted the sword solemnly and repeated, "In other words, if I fail to prove my worth, I will no longer be a part of your vision, is that correct?" Leon nodded, confirming his thoughts. "Exactly. I have no interest in taking on a follower who is certain to die. The choice is yours." Vanter felt that this action was his one and only chance. A young man unconsciously tightened his grip on the sword in his hand, his serious gaze fixed on Leon, vowing, "No matter what obstacles stand in my way, I will overcome them. I will earn my place by your side when I am strong enough. As your most loyal swordsman, do you promise to grant me one wish?" Leon was very pleased with Vanta's attitude. He smiled gently and replied, "All right, I give you my word of honor." At that moment, Pullen, who was standing beside them, cleared his throat. In that case, I will personally supervise Vanta's martial arts training. His true abilities will be revealed when he trains with the Knights of Clan Markbat." Leon didn't feel this arrangement was redundant at all. He agreed with Pullen. "Very well, let's do that." Markbat, who had jumped onto Leon's shoulder at some point, said cheerfully, "Excellent, now let's go. The wolf isn't the only one who needs training. You're just as far from your true potential as he is." Leon knew this was true, so he left with Markbat right away. "All right, let's go then." Not long after, at the Markbat clan's training grounds, a cacophony of grating sounds rang out. Vanta was training with the clan's soldiers. Markbat was very diligent. At the same time, Leon was also practicing controlling the undead spirits to be as fluid as possible. In addition to training with the living Vanta, also trained with the undead spirits, controlled by Leon. Finally, in the decisive match that would determine whether he stayed or left, Vanta successfully severed the undead spirit's head, finishing it off cleanly. After the match ended, Vanta was exhausted, panting for breath as he knelt on one knee. With his sword held horizontally and respectfully towards Leon, he bowed his head like a devotee, showing reverence to his undying faith. Leon stared at Vanta for a long time before finally speaking with a proud expression. "Welcome to Clan Markbat. You may now rise as my first knight." Hearing the words he had waited so long for, Vanta smiled with satisfaction. 1 month after the war between the noble clans began, on the towering city walls, Leon, Markbat, Pullen, and Vanta looked down below where the invaders were burning with the desire to attack. Alan, standing below, bellowed, "I bring a message for the chief of Clan Markbat. Though I have generously offered you a final chance to surrender peacefully, you have stubbornly refused to lay down your arms. Know that this foolish choice will lead to the deaths of innocent civilians as well." Leon looked at the babbling man as if he were already dead. After the man finished speaking, he said flatly, "So the war has begun." Pullen also spoke up. "Those babbling hyenas. Do they have no concept of honor? Curse them." Markbat, in stark contrast to everyone else, had been in an excited mood from the start. "Don't let them provoke you," he said. "All I see in their hearts is fear. Those growls are nothing more than the whimpers of insecurity." Pullen, confused, swallowed hard and asked, "Fear in their hearts, you say? And yet the Sylvester clan outnumbers us in every aspect." Markbat slowly explained to everyone, "There is still a weakness. Have you forgotten that their plan has already failed?" Pullen was a bit bewildered. "Are you talking about Sir Soko, Sir Jiang?" "That's right. If he were still alive at this moment, Clan Markbat would have raised the white flag at the first opportunity. But is his death alone enough to shake them?" Markbat was full of confidence in his calculations. Humans are fragile. A small turn of fate is enough to throw them into chaos. Why haven't the enemy surrendered yet? What has bolstered their morale? Once those fleeting doubts begin to creep into their minds, their military strength will be cut in half. These thoughts were all logically analyzed, and Pullen gradually began to grasp the meaning behind them. But perhaps he was still not too confident about this war. That may be true, but even with their forces halved, they still outnumber us. A seductive curve formed at the corner of Markbat's mouth. The slyly confident smile of a powerful being who feared nothing appeared on his face. Someone who made a pact with me can't defeat them even at half strength. Don't be afraid. Leon is much stronger than you think. Leon didn't deny Markbat's assertion because it was the truth. Seeing his clan head's unfaltering expression, Pullen's worries lessened somewhat as he replied, "Of course. Master Markbat." Though he said that inside Markbat felt the same as Pullen. He was quite surprised by the new clan head's true strength. Indeed, even I didn't expect this. A memory of recent training sessions replayed. In the middle of the clan grounds, Leon sat cross-legged surrounded by swirling currents of magical power, while Markbat and the Black Crow observed from the edge. From the mana-rich stones, a jet-black stream of energy flowed out. At that moment, Markbat lightly tapped his foot on the ground, releasing his own energy to summon red undead spirits that rushed to attack Leon. Leon sat still unmoving. With his eyes closed in meditation, he could still clearly sense the enemy's presence approaching. He then released his own purple mana, summoning a team of purple undead spirits to charge forward and fight back. In the blink of an eye, the two sides clashed. And within a few slashes, Leon's side had clearly gained the upper hand. The purple undead spirits quickly finished off Markbat's red ones and let out a blood-curdling roar. Witnessing the battle, Markbat mused, "Even though these are the weakest spirits, I can summon it's only been a week since that kid learned to wield mana, yet he can already sense its flow, even with his eyes closed. It's unbelievable. His talent surpasses all common sense." The Black Crow beside him, sharing the same thought, spoke up. "This contractor is a true genius, like the brilliant star the first ancestor once spoke of." Markbat agreed with this opinion. That's right. It's possible that, once again, he will plunge this continent into a sea of blood. One day, everything he desires will be within his grasp. In response to Markbat's arrogant and frantic words came a question from the Black Crow that couldn't have been more clueless. "Even delicious snacks like peanuts, as many as I want." Markbat couldn't help but scold him in exasperation. "Aim higher, you idiot. He might even be able to unlock the most forbidden dark magics, the terrifying domain of time regression." While the two were talking, Leon had slowly opened his eyes and walked over to them. He bent down and said to Markbat, "It's done. What training do I have to continue with now?" The skulls of the undead on the ground, though severed from their bodies, continued to make gruesome noises. Ignoring them, Leon approached Markbat and the Black Crow, who were chatting on the other side. "I'm done. What challenge do you want me to try next?" But it seemed Markbat had no immediate plans. For now, just continue as you are," he said. He then led Leon back to the clan head's room. "As for the next skill you'll have to master, what do you know about dark magic?" Hearing this question, Leon pondered. "Dark magic. Of course I received some training in it within the clan. However, this didn't sit well with Markbat. He growled, "You mean those cheap parlor tricks your uncle taught you from now on? Forget all that garbage he called dark magic." After a moment's thought, Leon convinced himself. That makes sense. Considering how quickly Ancestor Wellen conquered the entire eastern continent, it's hard to believe he relied solely on that horde of undead spirits. Just then, the Black Crow slowly transformed into Leon's form and spoke. Exactly. He summoned a mass of magic in his hand as he said, "The nature of spirit summoning is just one branch of dark magic. In other words, to control the undead, you need an abundant source of mana and a mastery of the dark arts." Pullen agreed with this. Of course, those are indeed the words of loyal retainers to our ancestor. But Markbat disagreed. Spare me. I was never his retainer. If anything, he and I were friends who walked side by side as equals, unlike that foolish shapeshifter over there, I might add. The Black Crow seized the opportunity to butt in with a jab. "Yes, unlike you, I have never regretted my loyalty." Not wanting to seem weak, Markbat retorted with a haughty tone. "Quite the arrogant tone when you're still hiding in the form of a young Leon." The Black Crow retorted smugly, "What courage do I need to tease a little kitten?" Leon, his head pounding, finally spoke up to end their senseless argument. "That's enough. What kind of magic do you want me to learn?" But before the Black Crow could answer, Eight Eyes spoke first. "Before you learn anything, there is a prerequisite you must fulfill. Be careful, for it will force you to delve into your own subconscious." Leon mumbled, repeating his words, "My subconscious." Eight Eyes emphasized precisely. "You may not know it, but deep within your mind lies a wellspring, containing an immense amount of magical power. When you can unlock and draw out that stream of power, the wars between noble families will seem like mere child's play compared to what you can truly achieve. But I must warn you, dark magic demands a heavy price in mana." Leon, listening intently to Eight Eyes' explanation, voiced his thoughts. "I figured as much." But he was as fickle as the wind telling Leon, "But I don't think that's something you need to worry about." "Why?" "Because if you can be trusted, Leon, I can sense within you a source of magical power equal to, or even surpassing that of your ancestor." Eight Eyes paused, not voicing his thought aloud. It's impossible to know yet if this is a blessing or a curse, but he had no other choice if he wanted to restore the Leon family. As for Leon, hearing what Eight Eyes said, he couldn't help but let out a sigh. Phew, that's somewhat of a relief to hear. Seeing him let his guard down, Eight Eyes reminded him once again, but that doesn't mean this process is without its risks. There is a way to unlock your hidden potential in the short amount of time we have, but even I cannot guarantee your safety during the process. Lord Leon didn't hesitate to ask. "So what is this miraculous method of yours then?" Eight Eyes was a keen observer. He stared intently at Leon, taking in his every expression, no matter how small. Suddenly, a glimmer of light seemed to return to his soulless eyes. Ah, looking at you now, I see it clearly. There was only one desire driving the young Leon. He was somewhat pleased by his observation. Mappas instructed Leon, first you will begin by expending all of your mana down to the very last drop. After that, your own potential and subconscious will guide the way. Leon replied immediately with seemingly zero hesitation. Then let the test begin. Mappas' curiosity was satisfied. A primal desire for power, the greatest motivator of all. After Leon expended all the mana he had, he suddenly swayed, his head aching. Phew, I think that's enough. Suddenly he collapsed backward without warning, scaring the life out of Bullen. My lord, you can't leave us this soon. Seeing the old man wailing as if at a funeral, Mappas flew over in a rage and bonked him hard on the head, snapping quietly, Don't disturb the boy, you imbecile. Have some faith in the Lord you worship. Bullen, his tears streaming, sobbed without a sound. But Master Lord Leon may be our family head, but as you said, he's still just a boy. The Black Crow, standing to one side, explained in a low voice, Didn't you hear what we were just talking about? Our contracted master may just be the most brilliant genius we have ever witnessed. Mappas rarely agreed with him, but this time the Crow had a point. If his potential truly rivals Welland's, then he will surely return to us. Save your tears for another occasion. Bullen sniffled and promised, I will try, Master. Just as the atmosphere was sinking into sorrow, Vanta appeared at the door, his clothes sooty, as if he'd just climbed out of a coal pit. His voice boomed, I did it, a complete success. Behold your new novice swordsman. But when he saw Leon lying motionless and pale on the floor, Vanta was so startled his eyes nearly popped out. Wait a minute, young master. You're just like a carbon copy of Bullen. Snot and tears streamed down his face as he hugged the head of his house. Young master, you can't... Bullen, having calmed down, took over for Mappas in consoling him. Calm down, young Vanta. I've already made a fool of myself for the both of us. Vanta finally slowly stopped crying. All right. No matter what, I have complete faith that he will pull through. Mappas, watching this scene from the side, was a bit perplexed. These mortals, they're all the same. How could such a great talent have been buried? For so many years, no wonder this bloodline was on the brink of extinction. With everyone lost in their own thoughts, they waited for Leon to awaken. Meanwhile, the object of all this concern was still deep in slumber. His subconscious began to open, taking him to a strange place. It wasn't the scenery that was strange, but the fact that the place was complete and utter darkness. Leon didn't seem to care one bit whether something might leap out to take his life. He just quickly observed his surroundings and then stepped forward decisively. Suddenly he stopped when the scene behind the black curtain was revealed. It was a ruined castle devoid of people except for a figure in black standing imposingly there. Without turning around, he easily sensed Leon's presence and spoke. Welcome, Leon. I had a feeling you would come. Hearing the man's voice, Leon's pupils contracted, his expression cracking, as if he couldn't believe his own ears. The man slowly turned around. He had a face exactly like Leon's, only he was middle-aged. After they looked at each other for a moment, the man was the first to break the silence. Let's take a walk. We have much to discuss. Leon, still reeling from the shock of seeing the man before him, stood rooted to the spot. It was a long while before he found his voice. Father, the desolate scenery of this space was enough to make one shudder in fear, but Leon and his late father paid it no mind. The two slowly moved higher, deeper into the castle, walking on and on until they saw the family crest in the distance. Run suddenly stopped. He spoke softly. Leon, your presence here and proves that you have chosen to awaken the hidden mana within you. Leon answered respectfully, Yes, father, although I can't say for sure what level I've reached. But I have gathered a group of loyal followers. Hearing his son describe it so modestly, Ran couldn't help but feel proud. How fortunate. My son. As you may have guessed, I'm merely a fragment of memory in your mind. I lost my life at Alan's hands, and this body is just a magical imprint left behind. Leon had been thinking the whole way, so he easily grasped the situation. I understand. Seeing that he understood, Ran continued to explain. The reason I fell into this predicament was nothing other than my own lack of inherent potential. A cruel fate, wouldn't you agree? Even so, I can still help you in a way, as you know. I failed to earn the respect of Master Mappas, nor could I control our family's necromantic holy relic. But you will walk a different path. While I was alive, I researched a spell that can transfer all the mana from our ancestors into your own source of magical energy. Of course, at first, you'll only be able to control a small fraction of this enormous power, but it will undoubtedly help you. Having consolidated his power as the head of the family, Leon, who had been listening intently to his words, now spoke up to question him. But father, you've said it yourself. I still remember your words clearly. You warned me about the dangers of absorbing the mana of others. You also mentioned the risk that such foreign magic could go out of control and completely destroy my mind. Jun recalled that this was indeed true. He didn't hesitate to praise his son, who was so mature for his age. You have listened very well, my son. Mana carries the unique imprint of its user, making it very difficult for another individual to absorb it. After gripping Leon's arm tightly as if to give him strength, and Van quickly asserted, But you, my son, You are an exception. You may not understand now, but think of yourself as a blank slate. Confused? Leon repeated, a blank slate. At that moment, Vun suddenly let go of him, and streams of purple mana began to gather and thicken around him. He spoke to Leon in a deep voice. That's right, ever since our ancestor Welton von Markbath, the founder of this family, there has never been anyone who possessed such a pure source of dark mana. After a moment of crystallizing, the mana Vun created a purple orb in the palm of his hand. The orb glowed brightly, like a human eye radiating a terrifying power. Vun, as if chanting, murmured the same thing to Leon over and over again. You have been given the greatest gift of this bloodline. Suddenly, streams of dark black energy shot out from the purple orb. The orb vibrated violently, and with each tremor, chunks of earth and stone from the buildings began to float in the air. Vun was controlling this bizarre scene with his strange power. As he controlled the orb to his will, he murmured as if speaking to no one, and yet to his son Leon, "This is who you truly are, my son, but you must always be mindful of this power." The purple orb flew high into the air, blanketing the area with a terrifying force. After everything subsided, Vun's expression returned to that of a true father as he looked at the young man before him. With a fond gaze and a gentle smile playing on his lips, Vun suddenly reached out and patted Leon's head. Under the dim glow of the purple orb, the father and son shared a bittersweet final few moments together. Vun calmly announced, "It seems our little reunion has temporarily come to an end." At this, Leon also sensed something. He looked at Vun with longing and asked, "Will we meet again?" Father Vun replied kindly and with certainty, "Of course. I still have so much to teach you as your father." After speaking, he took the purple orb and slowly handed it to Leon. Leon immediately sensed something from the orb, surprised. "I've never felt such an immense source of mana before." As that enormous energy merged and became one with Leon, a strange sigil appeared on his chest. Vun calmly explained, "This sigil, its name is greed. True to its name, it will devour everything you lay at your feet with a mad craving. Never forget that, my son." Leon gripped the cross that had just appeared on his neck and murmured, "Greed, I will carve it into my very soul, father." Just as he finished speaking, the space began to collapse. Vun hurriedly said his last words, "The next time we meet will be when you desire it most." As everything had nearly vanished, Leon bowed solemnly towards Vun and replied, "I hope that day comes soon." Then he disappeared into the void. Only then did Vun speak aloud the thoughts that weighed on him. If only a single wish could come true. You could shine as brightly as the greatest rising star in these 6 lands. But alas, the future is not for me to see. And no one knows whether this power will lead you to glory or to the abyss of ruin. In my deepest despair, I fear that may be the final outcome. Meanwhile, outside of that reality, all 4 people were staring intently at the unconscious family head on the bed. If looks could kill, Leon would have been turned into Swiss cheese by now. The scene was terrifyingly silent. Bullen spoke up worriedly. "Are you sure he will awaken, sir?" He was anxious, not knowing what to do. "It's not that I dare to doubt your wisdom, Master Max. But please remember that young Master Leon is only 14 years old. What if this illness leaves permanent after effects? I don't know how I'll be able to face the previous family heads in the afterlife." Mata, slightly irritated, replied to Bullen with a stern face. "Perhaps you'll get to meet them sooner than you think. Jeez. If your young master can't even withstand a simple trial like this, put aside your petty worries and wait for your master with unwavering faith." Vanta, however, had stronger nerves than one might think. He advised Bullen with a confident expression. "I agree, Sir Bullen. He will pull through. We don't need to worry so much." A black orb chimed in, speaking cryptically. "That's right. This old servant is worrying too much." Suddenly, an intense aura erupted from Leon, startling everyone. Matas realized something. He exclaimed, "Aha! Now I understand why he's waking up so late." Vantor asked curiously, "Sir Matas, what kind of magical power is this? I've never seen anything so dense and vast." Matas climbed onto Leon to get a better sense of it then. With a face that inspired 100% confidence, he assured everyone, "Soon. Your master will return soon. Be ready to welcome him when that moment comes. But be warned, the master who awakens will no longer be the boy you once knew." Just as he finished his words, Leon's eyes snapped open. While everyone around him was still stunned, Leon said nothing and shifted his gaze downwards. He spoke with a hint of helplessness. "No wonder my chest feels so tight. Can you please get off?" Matas replied stubbornly, "I don't want to." And so, everything proceeded as if nothing had happened. Vanta continued to train at maximum intensity, while Leon also performed the duties befitting a family head, practicing magic, directing the training of the soldiers in the city. Meanwhile, far away at the Sylvester estate, 4 days before the war between nobles, the soldiers seemed ready. Alan, however, remained seated on the main chair, as if waiting for something unwilling to rise. A moment later, he turned to his soldiers and roared, "The time has come. All soldiers of House Sylvester, listen to me. Today, the centuries-long history of the Markbath family will be erased and buried in the dust of the past. Follow me, and we shall write a new page of history." Immediately, a heaven-shaking roar echoed through the air. "Glory to House Sylvester." And at that same moment, unnoticed in a corner, a man named Kirchen stood silently. His pupils began to glow strangely, like an omen of a coming storm, his eyes flashing red in the night. The army led by Sylvester marched silently. Stroking his beard, he exclaimed, "So this is the weakest point in their formation. The place with the fewest soldiers, indeed, you have seen through the issue as brilliantly as ever, my lord." "Kirchan, I am most grateful." Kirchan laughed nonchalantly. "As am I, my lord. This is but a small effort to repay your generosity." Although Sylvester said that he still had some doubts. Even so, I am still surprised. I thought those fools from House Markbath would guard their ancestral tomb more closely. Furthermore, for them to foolishly deploy their main forces to an open field like this. Kirchan, understanding his meaning, quickly interjected with an explanation. "After all, we are a family of necromancers, not military strategists, my lord. Perhaps they are acting overly cautious for fear of damaging their ancestral tombs." Hearing this, Sylvester was completely reassured. Their family's reputation may have long since rotted away, but they still try to cling to what little glory remains. "Is that not so?" Kirchan hesitated slightly. "I believe so, my lord." Hearing this tone, Sylvester became displeased. "Why the hesitation? Do you have some objection?" Kes Huang hurriedly denied it. "Not at all, Lord Sylvester. I suggest we continue our advance." After riding a bit further, Sylvester was startled by something ahead. A troop of men in black had suddenly appeared, led by Leon and Vanta. The two armies slowly approached each other. Leon called out cheerfully, "Right on time as we arranged. You truly are a punctual man, Lord Sylvester." Sylvester frowned and retorted, "I thought that was a weakness of a fallen house. And yet you await me with hundreds of fully armed soldiers like this." As he spoke, he slowly drew his sword, swung it swiftly past Keshwang's head, and roared, "Is there some deception at play here?" The sword passed through Keshwang's body, which erupted in purple smoke, and his head fell to the ground. But that icy voice calmly spoke up. Only my master has the right to raise his sword against me." As he finished speaking, the purple smoke enveloped the severed head, lifted it back to his neck, and reattached it, as if nothing had happened. Keshwang smirked. Now that was a novel experience. Watching this, Sylvester broke out in a sweat. "What that slash... It should have sliced your neck clean off." Unconcerned, Keshwang spurred his horse towards Leon. Sylvester roared in frustration. "No matter, you will pay for your insolence, young Master Mach 8. Do you truly believe you can stand against me with a meager force of a few hundred men?" "This is an insult to the patriarch of the Sylvester clan." Leon replied nonchalantly. "Sir, to be considered an insult, it would first have to be a threat." Seeing his leisurely demeanor, Sylvester gnashed his teeth in fury. Leon slowly raised his hand and asked, "Why do you think I agreed to enter this war?" Dark magic slowly dripped from Leon's palm. He smiled and said, "To put you in your place, of course." The dark magic dripped more and more, forming a viscous puddle beneath the horse's hooves. Instantly, countless skeletons emerged from the pool of dark magic. Sylvester stammered in horror. "Necromancy," Leon confirmed coldly. "You catch on quick, Count Sylvester. Are you surprised that a family of necromancers can control the dead?" Hearing this, Sylvester fell into thought, recalling, what is the greatest helplessness a person can experience? It is when facing an enemy so overwhelming that all hope is lost. You cannot resist. You can only watch in despair as your entire world collapses. There is no greater pain. And what is the cause of that helplessness? It is simply talent. An innate gift so profound, it makes others afraid to even look up. On the battlefield, nothing determines victory or defeat more than that. Just as he thought this, Leon's skeletons charged forward to slaughter. A general from the army rushed out to stop them, but the skeleton soldiers just kept swarming forward. The general suddenly realized that when all was said and done, the enemy was just a young boy. No matter how talented, he couldn't be prepared for the brutality of a life-or-death battle, so he charged forward again, determined to cut a bloody path to Leon. But just as he was about to succeed, Vanta rushed out to block him. The furious general shouted, "Who dares stand in my way?" Vanta coldly pointed his sword and yelled, "My apologies, but I cannot let you near the young master. That is my duty and I shall not fail." After saying these grand words, Vanta smiled cheerfully. The skeleton soldiers continued their relentless slaughter. A panicked Sylvester ordered the mage squad to begin their attack. A group of mages gathered and chanted. They unleashed their strongest attack down upon the skeletons. A considerable number of skeletons disintegrated. Sylvester raised his sword and commanded Vanguard Knights charge, break the enemy formation. The cavalry unit led by him charged forward, scattering everything in their path. But Leon remained stone-faced, paying him no mind. After advancing some distance, Sylvester looked smugly at Leon and threatened, "Let me tell you something. I was born a coward. Whether it was my older brother, the one who should have been the head of the family, or my older sister, I have never truly seen them as family. Never." Before he could finish his speech, Leon cut him off. "Do I need to care about your tangled family affairs?" Dark magic condensed further in his hanging hand. Sylvester growled grimly, "Perhaps not. But because of that, a young master like you, coddled since birth, will never have the fortitude needed to defeat me. Answer me, young master. Do you crave revenge? Then you will die in despair with nothing but regret." Unwilling to listen to his ramblings any longer, Leon raised the Book of the Dead and stated coolly, "There are two flaws in your two assumptions, sir. Let me be clear, I do not crave revenge, and you are not strong enough to take my life. It's as simple as that." The book opened, and Leon began to channel dark magic into it. A few days earlier, at the army encampment, Leon had summoned his servants to discuss strategy. After laying out his plan, Leon fell silent. Mappa sat beside him, licking his paw. After a moment, he spoke. I have witnessed worse plans in my tens of thousands of years, but yours is far too risky. Choosing this place as the area of operations was a sound decision. But beyond that, Leon cut in. I can assure you there is no better option. It would be foolish to be overly cautious when the optimal solution is right before our eyes. The Black Crow nodded in agreement. I have faith in my new master's plan. After a moment of seriousness, he teased Mappas. So, what right does a foolish little lion have to give us orders? Bunter said, flustered. In that case, I will also follow your strategy, sir. It's not that I look down on your intellect, Mappas. Of course not. Mappas collapsed theatrically. Are you just going to completely ignore my opinion? Fine, have it your way. Bullen also presented his view. As for me, I shall order the mobilization of all forces we can summon. On my honor as a vassal, I will not let you go to the battlefield alone. Satisfied, Leon stood up. Good. If everything is clear, then I suggest we act immediately. As everyone began to leave, Leon called out, Sir Mappas, before we conclude this meeting, there's one thing I wish to ask you. Mappas glanced at him annoyed. What is it? Leon held up the cross and asked, This amulet, do you know the consequences of using it? Mappas replied without a care. How should I know? Probably death. The Black Crow immediately jumped into mock. What an impudent little lion. Mappas added, Your father may not have told you the whole truth, but that amulet holds a power no different from poison. It is far too dangerous for you to handle. At least not in your current state. Leon then said, But I assume you still gave it to me for a reason. Mappas sighed helplessly. I don't deny that, but the time has not yet come. For now, you are strong enough to do what must be done. False contractor. The gift you possess is far beyond that of ordinary mortals, but it's undeniable that your potential is still not mature. Your followers may be loyal, but no human is infallible. You are immortal, and you know very little of the deepest thoughts in their hearts. They could betray you in a heartbeat. Some of them have even betrayed your father. So what makes you believe that those mortals are worth betting everything on? After hearing this, Leon fell into thought. Back on the battlefield, the Book of the Dead lay open as Leon continuously channeled dark magic into it. His pupils gradually began to glow. Seeing no change, Sylvester sneered. You think I can't kill you? Leon remained silent, his pupils glowing ever brighter. Sylvester was suddenly startled, seeing the immense amount of dark magic gathering in front of Leon. He widened his eyes and thought an almost immeasurable amount of mana, along with a pure dark aura. He's precisely controlling the exact amount of magic needed for every moment. How could he have reached such a level of absolute mastery? Leon coldly chanted, All of Mappas' loyal servants in hell, hear me. Sylvester felt an even deeper chill. My instincts are screaming. Whatever is about to happen, I must stop it at all costs. He turned his head and ordered, Quick, stop his chant. Leon's eyes blazed as he roared, True heir of the clan of the 8 million Mappas, I summon you. Answer my call, and serve. Under this banner, the entire battlefield began to tremble violently. Countless skeletons burst forth from the earth, both human and demonic in form. Sylvester's will to fight vanished. He stood frozen. Before him was a sea of soldiers with no end in sight. Mappas watched from a cliff above. With a grimace, he assessed, to the very depths of the abyss, this brat is as untamable and stubborn as his ancestors. Wellen, the cross-shaped amulet began to glow. The army of skeletons growled in fury, aiming straight for the soldiers and slaughtering them. The human forces couldn't withstand the power of the demons. Behind them, a squad of zombie mages aimed lightning orbs directly into the army's ranks. Sylvester screamed in terror. Damn it, it's a trap. He wants to drag us all into a mass grave. He has an army of the undead under his command. Sylvester hesitated, unable to decide. On his side, Leon was sweating, his head hung low. He grimaced and clutched his chest, unable to hold on, and coughed up a mouthful of blood. Seeing his chance, Sylvester yelled, Stop it right now, or you'll push yourself to your death. You all right? I promise to spare your life and the lives of your retainers, but end this farce immediately. Leon ignored him, murmuring, I don't want to disappoint you, master. Remembering what Mappas had once asked, what makes you believe? Are those mortals worth betting everything on? Until your talent is fully mature, I advise you not to foolishly sacrifice yourself for others. You are not yet strong enough to worry about the fate of others, let alone their lives. Leon pondered for a moment and said, Sir Macbeth, why must we always wait for a fruit to ripen before picking it? Is it really so bad to pick it first and wait for it to ripen? A moment later, the only one left on the entire battlefield was Sylvester. Seeing him kneeling on the ground, Leon slowly approached. As Sylvester looked up, his gaze met Leon's ice-cold eyes. Heavy rain poured from the sky, but Sylvester remained kneeling. He didn't dare raise his head as he asked, Didn't you say that revenge wasn't your purpose? That's right, Leon confirmed. Trembling Sylvester grabbed Leon's trousers and begged, Then, will you grant me mercy even though I don't deserve it? I swear I will never oppose House Macbeth again. I won't breathe a word of your power to the rest of the Empire. Please, I'm begging you. Leon stood still, not answering for a long moment before finally speaking. Since when were we on such close terms that we could grant each other such favors? Sylvester threw his head back and yelled, But you see it too, don't you? Revenge only gives birth to an endless cycle of hatred. Leon cast a cold glance down. Terrified Sylvester dared not say more. Finally, he cast aside his pride and begged, I was forced. As the head of another noble house, surely you must understand we have duties, and to do everything for the prosperity of our house. Leon stroked his chin, murmuring, Duties, huh? Perhaps what you say isn't entirely without reason. The burden of being a family head is certainly not a light one. Seeing that he seemed to empathize, Sylvester quickly pressed on. Yes, I was so weighed down I couldn't escape. I was forced to do those cruel things because of my responsibilities. While he was still speaking excitedly, Leon cut him off. But what does that have to do with me sparing you? What? Sylvester was stunned. Leon slowly drew his sword and said, Don't misunderstand. I hold no grudge against you. The only reason I must take your life is because of a cold, undeniable fact. Your continued existence brings no benefit to House Macbeth. Goodbye. Bitterly, Sylvester clenched his teeth. Trembling, he threw his head back and screamed, You arrogant fool. By the time you realize what you've done, it'll be too late. That power you're wielding like a toy is not something for a child. Before he could finish his sentence, Leon sliced his head off. Faced with the blood spraying into the sky, Leon's expression remained icy as Sylvester's corpse collapsed, signaling the end of the battle. The skeleton soldiers also slowly dissipated. A sharp pain struck Leon's chest. He slowly crumpled, murmuring, I should have known the price wouldn't be light. With that, he fell to the ground. Seeing this, Vanta shouted, Sir! Macbeth jumped forward to reassure him. Don't worry, he's just suffering the consequences of mana exhaustion. Young Leon's talent is without a doubt on par with his ancestors of old. The problem is whether a child like him should be allowed to possess such immense potential. Inside him is a monster that even I cannot control. A perilous contract made in exchange for every aspect of his being. At this, he turned to look at Sylvester's corpse and exclaimed, And there is a more pressing matter. It seems demons have begun to interfere in the human world. This is a bad omen. Bullen and Black Crow also rushed over. Sometime later, Leon slowly opened his eyes. The loyal retainer said joyfully, He's awake. Bullen buried his face and wept, Forgive me, I have disappointed you again. I will atone for my sins on the executioner's block. Macbeth said with amusement, I won't stop you, old man. It would be an interesting show, Black Crow immediately chimed in, though he does look rather cute. But that foolish little lion cub still lacks compassion. Macbeth snapped back angrily. What do you expect empathy from a demon? And don't think I'll tolerate you bad-mouthing him like that. Leon sat up and said, The executioner's block won't be necessary. You fulfilled your role excellently. I assure you of that. Vanta hastily reported, House Sylvester appears to be on the brink of total collapse following the death of its leader. We believe they won't dare to launch another invasion in the near future. Bullen clenched his fist in excitement. That's as it should be. Under your wise leadership, House Macbeth has finally gotten back on its feet. However, there is one remaining issue. Leon turned in surprise. What is it? Bullen bowed his head low and replied, Although I am deeply ashamed to have to say this. My Lord House Macbeth is currently almost completely out of funds. Not only that, we are also carrying a considerable debt. Leon's jaw dropped. Macbeth said nonchalantly, I don't see that as a big deal. Just send a bill demanding hefty compensation from House Sylvester and it'll be settled. Bullen remained gloomy. Normally that would be the case. However, the Imperial Court has issued an absolute ban on all compensation claims. Macbeth snapped, For what reason? Bullen explained miserably, As you know, the noble houses of Linhebor, Cedar, and Macbeth, the three bloodlines, have long been strictly controlled by the court. Perhaps the court wants to prevent our rise, so they've quashed any request for compensation. Macbeth sighed helplessly. Chaos both inside and out. Leon asked nervously, So, exactly how much do we owe? Bullen didn't speak but held up one hand. Leon forced a smile. 50 million gold. Bullen shook his head. Leon was speechless. 500 million? Bullen shook his head again, remaining silent. Leon stroked his chin and guessed, It surely can't be as high as 5 billion, can it? 500 million would still be a mild number. As he was speaking, Bullen interrupted. Forgive me for being so blunt, my lord, but you have guessed correctly. Leon was surprised. Guessed what correctly? Bullen replied, The debt of House Macbeth. My lord, if fights is 5 billion gold. Leon felt like he was about to become a beggar. At the same time, inside the city, a handsome young man walked in. He looked around and murmured, And now I am in the domain of House Macbeth. This man was Richard Zeflamel, High Priest of the renowned Mage Tower and founder of the Eremita Order. Suddenly, a young woman appeared smiling. We meet again, she said. Master Richard. This was Callan, leader of the southern branch of the lunatic criminal organization, a notorious loan shark known throughout the continent. Flamel stammered, unable to speak. Miss Callan, our order's debt to you was paid off long ago, Callan replied with her hands on her hips. Oh, did you think I came all this way just for that old debt? My business isn't with you this time. Flamel still felt a chill. Then please excuse me. I'm afraid I still haven't gotten over the feeling of dread whenever I face a loan shark like you. Back then, I thought the very existence of the Mage Tower was threatened. Callan winked and smiled brightly. Well, that's why we always advise our clients to read the fine print. Not wanting to argue further, Flamel turned to leave. Let's skip the pleasantries. I assume we're both here for the same person. Right. Inside the house, Bullen confirmed the debt that House Macbeth was shouldering. My lord, it's 5 billion gold. After he said this, both he and Leon fell into a silent, cold sweat. Suddenly, a knock echoed from the door. Everyone looked towards the door at once. Bullen stepped forward, looking back to say, I'll get it. Leon stared tensely outside. Seeing his strange expression, Macbeth asked curiously, What's wrong, Leon? Leon answered with difficulty, I hope it's nothing serious. A moment later, Bullen ran in to report, My lord, there are visitors at the manor. Leon asked cautiously how many Bullen there were. The man answered hesitantly, 2, sir, 1 man and 1 woman. After hearing this, Leon fell silent again. As a cup of tea was placed on the table, Richel took it, had a sip, and introduced himself. Thank you for having us. I am the sorcerer, Richel, head of the Eremita Academy. Kalin, sitting beside them, added, And I am Kalin, the southern branch chief of the lunatic organization. As soon as the words were spoken, the room fell silent. No one said anything. After a moment, Leon struggled to force out a few words. Welcome to the house of Macbeth. Richard looked at him and smiled. Kalin followed with a smile of her own. Seeing their expressions, Vanta asked worriedly, Both of them have an extraordinary aura. Are you sure inviting them in was a good idea, my lord? Macbeth replied bluntly, Who knows? The Black Crow stammered mockingly, My master is stronger than you think. Don't worry, he'll get through this. Seeing how tense the atmosphere was, Kalin proactively started a conversation. Recently, we received news of your victory in the war between noble families. It seems congratulations are in order for you. Lord Macbeth, the spoils from that battle should be more than enough for you to settle your debt with the lunatic organization, shouldn't they? Right? Leon broke into a sweat and replied, By the way, Miss Kalin, what is the exact amount of the debt? Bullen, standing nearby, whispered, Please remember, my lord, that when the loan was taken, the Macbeth family's credit had already hit rock bottom. Of the total 5 billion gold borrowed, 4 billion is owed to Miss Kalin and the lunatic organization. Kalin, the southern branch manager of the lunatics. It's the largest criminal organization on the continent. They say she's the most infamous loan shark everyone wants to avoid. At this thought, Leon blurted out, Anyone who can't repay their debt will be sold as a living test subject to a dark mage. Upon hearing this, Kalin let out a laugh.
So you've heard a little about our operations, Lord Macbeth. What an honor. In that case, we should get straight to the point.
Leon confirmed, Yes. May I ask what my current outstanding balance is? Kalin narrowed her eyes, staring at him. She pulled a piece of paper from her chest and replied, Frankly, we must demand that you pay at least 10% immediately. After that, you can pay off the remaining 90% at your own pace. However, I advise you to remember that the interest rate we apply is 30% per year. I'm sure you will settle the debt soon. She stared at Leon like he was prey. Leon, sweating profusely, didn't know what to do. 400 million gold to be paid at once with an interest rate of 30% per year. Even after paying the 400 million, the principal will increase by 1.08 billion after just 1 year. He exclaimed helplessly. Who in their right mind would sign such a crazy deal? Bullen, standing behind him, said dejectedly, I'm afraid it was your own father who signed it, my lord. Remembering his father's face, Leon's despair deepened. Father, why would you? As the tension mounted again, Richie spoke up to calm things down. Come now, Kalin. Let's lighten the mood a little. Lord Macbeth has just won a great victory. Doesn't he deserve a little celebration? Besides, I highly doubt he has such a colossal sum of money readily available. But Kalin refused, cutting in. My apologies, Sir Richard. Don't you see we are in the middle of a business discussion? I hate being interrupted so rudely. I hope you'll remember that. And who's to say the price for a slip of the tongue won't be anyone's life as a soulless corpse? Richard, thoroughly intimidated, stood up to flee. I understand perfectly. Miss Kalin, I will return when this is all settled. Seeing this, Kalin gave a light laugh. Oh my, what a waste of good tea. Leon was completely frozen, struggling to form words before finally managing to say, Miss Kalin, I'm afraid. But before he could finish, Kalin interjected, Oh, if you mean to say you don't have the money right now, or you want to ask for more time to scrape it together, you can forget it. I've heard it all from your late father. Leon whispered helplessly to Macbeth, Why don't we just take her out? Macbeth shot back, Don't say such foolish things. She's not someone you people have any chance of fighting. If you want to be torn to shreds in an instant, go ahead and try. Leon fell silent once more, not knowing what to do. The Black Crow chimed in, At this rate, we'll be completely broke. Not even a peanut left. I'm truly disappointed in the one I made a pact with, say. Bullen said dejectedly under his breath, So the late Lord June acted for the future and survival of the family. Suddenly Vanta shouted, Be brave, young master, you will find a way. I have complete faith in your wisdom. Leon bowed his head in thought. After a moment he looked up and said, If I may, Miss Kalin. Kalin cut him off again. What is it? Leon replied earnestly, I beg you to have mercy on all of us. The moment he said this, Kalin was stunned. Even Bullen, Macbeth, and the Black Crow were speechless. Vanta froze, not understanding what was happening. At the same time, outside the main office, Richard looked at the portrait on the wall, thinking, Leon von Macbeth. Just getting to meet him has made this trip worthwhile. Recalling his first meeting with Leon, the dense dark mana emanating from him, Richard became even more certain. I can feel the immense flow of mana deep within his body. If I can convince him to join, The Eremita School of Mages, it would be a huge advantage for our academy. There must be a way to win him over. As he was thinking, a light flashed in Richard's hand. A glowing orb slowly shrank as it absorbed the mana from Richard's body. Richard calmly looked inside it, only to see an old man urgently calling out, "Headmaster, please, you can't just keep disappearing like this. The academy is in chaos because of your absence." Richard replied nonchalantly, All right, I'll explain later, but first I have an important question." The old man asked worriedly, "Yes, what is it, Headmaster?" Richard gave a strained smile and said, "How many gold coins do we currently have?" "In the Eremita Academy's vault." As soon as he asked, the old man clutched his head. Back in the room, Kalin tilted her head and asked with a smile, "Mercy, my lord, I truly don't understand why you're so flustered. Perhaps you think we of the lunatic organization are just some bloodthirsty insane gang." She paused for a moment, gathering mana at her fingertip. With a single flick, she effortlessly shattered the teacup in front of Leon, warning him, "The end," she said coldly, "but I assure you we are more calculating than you think." Seeing the spilled tea in front of Leon Vanta, couldn't hold back any longer, drawing his weapon and shouting, "How dare you threaten the young master?" Kalin, completely unfazed, said calmly, "Our wrath is reserved only for those who default on their debts. Are we clear?" Leon sighed and replied, "We have nothing left, Miss Kalin." Kalin asked confused, "What did you just say?" Leon looked up and confirmed literally, "Our treasury is empty." This made Kalin pause for a few seconds. Then she bowed her head and started laughing. "Ha! Now I understand why you're trembling like a scared little puppy. Well then, let me show you directly what happens to those who can't pay their debts." Seeing the aura she was emitting, Leon broke out in a cold sweat. Just then, Richie burst in shouting, "Wait!" The group immediately turned to look at the door. But Richard was also a bit scared and didn't know what to say. Kaelin, however, couldn't wait any longer and growled, "Aha! I was wondering why you were so fidgety. So it turns out our esteemed guest has no money." Her gaze was like that of a predator, but Leon was powerless to resist. Richard summoned all his courage and yelled, "How pitiful! Please don't crush the future hope of the Eremita school." He rushed in to block Kalin. Leon just sat there motionless and silent, but Vanta saw this differently. He ran up to Leon and started fawning. Just as expected, young Master Leon had everything calculated from the start. Leon, however, had no idea what was going on. The Eremita school, Kalin still glared at Leon with hatred. Richard smiled as he blocked her. Kalin finally sighed and retracted her killing intent. Leon remained seated in thoughtful silence. After a moment, he gave an order to the people beside him. "First, could everyone please step back a bit? We need to clarify a few things." They all went outside. Leon finally spoke. "If the Irani Academy officially recruits me, you will pay 10% of my debt to Kalin. That was your offer, wasn't it?" Rachel smiled in confirmation. "That's right. The recent territorial battle with the house of, Sylvester. You clearly used necromancy in that fight." Leon didn't admit it, retorting, "What makes you think so?" Rachel explained, "Because that was a battle you would have surely lost without that magic. Kalin must have thought so too, which is why she came looking for you. Isn't that right?" Kalin smiled in reply. "Her mages are always so cunning. It's hardly a secret. I also came here because I believe the head of House Marabas had recovered his old power." Leon asked, annoyed, "Because you thought you could collect the debt?" Kalin said slyly, "To be honest, I won't deny I considered it, but I know that debt can't be repaid immediately. I just want to set it aside for the time being." Marabas, hearing this, immediately guessed that debt must be mountain high by now. Listening to the two of them, Leon understood their intentions. "You, Richard, want to recruit me, and you, Kalin, want to resolve the debt. But I still don't understand how you can be so certain. It's not guaranteed that the power to control the undead has returned." "I could have just as easily asked another house for help or hired mercenaries," Kalin cut in. "But of course things like that cost a fortune, don't they?" Hearing this, Richard burst out laughing. "Ha ha, I've never believed that war can be won with money. That's why I suspected from the beginning that the special power of the Marabas lineage, the ability of necromancy, has awakened once more." Kalin added, "If that ability reaches even a fraction of the level of the family head, well, and then getting acquainted with the peerless genius of the continent wouldn't be a bad outcome." But Leon still latched onto the main point. Even so, the debt still has to be paid, right? Having been cut off, Kalin lowered her eyes displeased. She pulled an item from her coat and said slowly, "Of course. Do you think I'm in the loan shark business for fun?" She cocked her small pistol, aimed it straight at Leon, and said, "I can tell you the reason." Seeing this, Richard hurriedly intervened. "Kate, could you possibly give him and me, a moment to speak in private?" Kalin lowered her gun and agreed. "Humph. If he's truly the talent the Iranian Academy is so determined to recruit, then I don't mind. After all, collecting my debt is still my top priority." With that, she put the gun back in her coat and walked straight out. Richard sighed in relief. That woman, that was a close call. But Leon remained wary. "To me, you aren't trustworthy either. You're not human, are you?" Hearing this, Richard smirked, gestured forward, and said, "Just like you. You're standing next to one of the 72 demon gods, aren't you?" Marvas, being pointed at, was displeased and growled, "A mage who can see me without permission." His body slowly transformed back into his demonic form as he yelled, Ika, what in the world are you? Richard's body slowly transformed, revealing his true form before Leon and Marbas. Marbas exclaimed in surprise, "A dragon? Oh, I thought you all went extinct after the anti-magic war." Leon was startled to hear that. "A dragon," Marbas confirmed. "That's right. You can tell by those distinctive horns and tail." Rachel too asked with interest. "Even I'm curious. Why would one of the 72 demon gods accompany a human? I don't know the reason, but it must have something to do with the first family head." Leon quickly clarified his position. "Don't worry, Master Marbas stands with humanity. He's not like other demons." Marbas confirmed it. "That's right. Although I am a demon, I do not share their ambitions." Richard, understanding, chuckled and chimed in. "Otherwise, there would be no reason for you to get involved in human affairs." Seeing that both sides were being honest enough, Leon got to the main point. "Then let me ask, what do I need to do to join the Irania Academy?" Richard explained. "Our school is a discreet institution. You will participate in joint missions and continuously raise your status." "In the world of mages." Leon was skeptical. "Is that all?" Marbas also yelled, "Just tell us the real reason." Richard had no choice but to be honest. "Ha ha ha, you two are sharp. Actually, even if you hadn't asked, I was going to add this. You are not allowed to join any other academy. Nor can you accept missions from them. Those are our conditions." Marbas grasped the key point and asked, "To prevent other schools from growing." Richard casually admitted, "Of course, that's one of the reasons. But the main reason lies elsewhere." He placed the demon head emblem on the table and said coolly, "Of the two other prestigious magic academies besides Irania, at least one of them is worshipping demons." Hearing this, Marbas sighed. They finally started to make their move. "Damn it, if only I had awakened a little sooner." He then asked, "What is their goal?" But Richol fell silent in thought. After a moment, he replied, "The Demon King. They want to resurrect Ban, the anti-demon war. The first great war between humans and demons. A tragic event where the human king Solomon found his eternal rest. Before he fell, he used all his power to forge countless chains to bind the surviving demons. Through the dark mana from the Necronomicon of House Marbas, controlled by the first head of the Marbas clan, he sealed them away. Only then did the war come to an end. In the anti-demon war, King Solomon sealed Ban. But over time, that power has gradually weakened to the point where it wouldn't be strange for a demon to awaken at any moment." Leon cut in to inquire, "I heard that His Majesty... The Emperor is no longer as wise as he once was. He used to be brilliant, but now he's called the Foolish Emperor. Is there a connection?" Richard admitted, "Yes, there is. Demons always know how to exploit the smallest cracks. And since you have a demon by your side, you probably understand that better than anyone." Marbas, being called out, was displeased and added a bit of information he had. "I've also heard that many dragons and other races fell during that war. This explanation sounds plausible. This doesn't sound like a lie." But Leon ignored that and asked, "The reason you won't let me join another academy is because you found the mark of a demon at another one, correct?" Richard confirmed, "Precisely. Please join our Amina Academy. We believe we can reveal many truths to you." Marbas jumped in to get a piece of the pie. However, that will also require a hefty sum of money. Richard could only give a wry laugh. "Ha ha. About that our hands are tied," Leon calmly asked, "Is there a way to earn gold steadily? Being 5 billion in debt like this is a bit overwhelming." Richard pondered for a moment, then smiled and exclaimed, I've thought of a good way. The Adventurers Guild, the person closest to the guildmaster is Kalen. If you take on quests and obtain a gold badge, you'll be able to accept jobs worth 10 million gold apiece." Leon was shocked by the number. 10 million. He threw his pride away and bowed his head. "Please put in a good word for me with Lady Kalin." Marbas could only sigh. How pathetic. The crow couldn't help but scold. "You foolish lion, don't you dare insult your master. This is just to build momentum," Marbas asked, unhappily. "Who just said that?" The crow played dumb. The old butler. Marbas was at his wit's end with him slapping his forehead in frustration. Suddenly Richard shouted towards the door. "Kalin, I know you're eavesdropping." "Give me a hand, Kalin. I can't push the door open." Damn it, Richard reads me like a book. But this time facing Leon, she couldn't act so arrogant. Richard had no choice but to stand up and reintroduce him. "Let's get the introductions over with. This is the demon who serves our master." Kalin held her head in her hands, defeated. Huh. Getting mixed up with you people never leads to anything good. Richard could only offer a wry smile. A few days later, in the desolate wilderness, Leon's group began their journey to earn money and pay off their debt. Kalin demanded irritably, How the hell did I end up having to escort you to the Adventurers Guild?" Richard said with his usual smile. "With a debt of 4 billion, just think of it as you paying off a small part of it." "Don't get me wrong," Leon asked curiously. "What kind of place is the Adventurers Guild?" Eight Eyes, sitting on his shoulder, chimed in. "I was wondering the same thing. Something like this didn't exist before. It's really strange." Kalin explained, "Simply put, it's a place where you accept and complete outsourced missions. You can freely form parties, split the rewards, and increase your own reputation. That sort of thing. If you're not skilled enough, you'll end up dead in a ditch. But if you're good, you can earn tens of millions in a single go." Eight Eyes commented coolly, "A place where moths fly into the flame, burning away their own lives. That's what people say." Hearing that, Richard chuckled. Haha, but it's not always so harsh. The Adventurers Guild is a neutral zone. If you achieve good results, you might even be invited by other nations to become a knight or a mage. If you have the skills, it's also the fastest way to make money. Leon asked again, explain more about the badges and ranks. Richard smiled, turned his head and said, all right, Carlin. She was visibly annoyed. Now you're ordering me around too. But she still explained to Leon, the Adventurers Guild divides adventurers into 5 ranks: bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and black. The higher the rank, the stronger the adventurer and the higher level missions they can take on. Leon immediately grasped the key point and asked, so becoming a black rank adventurer is the fastest way to make money, right? Richard smiled and confirmed, that's right. But that's nearly impossible, which is why I didn't mention it. On the entire continent, there aren't even 10 people who have reached black rank, and missions at that level have rewards of at least several 100 million gold. There aren't many people in the world that rich. I see, Leon realized. The group quickly arrived at the city gates. Colleen stopped in front of 2 guards, handed them a piece of paper, and then instructed Leon, first we have to test if you're even capable of getting a bronze badge. The Empire's laws are very complicated. It's not easy for a minor to become an adventurer. Richard quickly tried to smooth things over. Now, Colleen, don't be such a downer. They went inside a shop with a beer mug sign. Richard led the way and said, let's begin the test. So, we're finally here. Leon looked up bewildered and asked, this is the Adventurers Guild? As he was looking around, he caught the attention of a platinum blonde girl. She lifted her teacup and asked leisurely, it seems a rather noisy regular just walked in. Then she stared intently at the door. Leon's group slowly entered. The patrons on both sides were laughing and chatting, but when they saw Colleen was with Leon's group, they immediately fell silent and glanced over. After a moment, a few people started whispering, wait, isn't that Colleen? I think it is. Look at her eyes. Like a hungry beast. You can tell just by looking that she's not someone you'd want to owe money to. Why would she suddenly show up at the Adventurers Guild? Is that Richard next to her, the headmaster of Eremina Academy? He's disgustingly handsome. He looks so young. And I heard he even became a tower master. My God, it ruins the mood for a drink. Life is so unfair. Hearing these whispers, Richard glanced at Colleen and said a bit awkwardly, it seems you're really making them uncomfortable. She scowled and muttered, stop talking nonsense. Hurry up. We don't have time to worry about people like them. Leon peeked out and asked, where's the person we're looking for? I don't sense anyone with a powerful aura around here. 8 Eyes immediately refuted him. No. Can't you feel a stream of mana watching us? Young master. At the same time, someone in the crowd glared, their face contorted nastily. He slowly moved closer, tailing Leon. Leon sensed it slowed his pace and shot a glare at the man. Waves of mana spread out around him, searching. Leon was surprised. Found you. The words had barely left his mouth when the platinum blonde girl rushed forward. Without a word, she drew her sword. Colleen also turned coolly and drew her weapon. The girl held her sword to Leon's throat, while Colleen pointed her gun at the girl's head. This scene made Leon and the patrons in the guild jump and break out in a cold sweat. Colleen smiled mockingly. You're getting more hot-headed, Rowley. The girl glared back, her weapon still raised, and snapped unhappily. I told you not to use my name so casually, Colleen. Leon didn't seem to mind. He calmly stepped forward and asked, you're the strongest one here, aren't you? Rowley turned and answered annoyed. Excuse me, but I haven't given you permission to speak. Who are you? In her mind, she thought, he's truly a monster. More dangerous than the 2 behind him. Leon introduced himself leisurely. Leon von Magbat, the 10th heir of the Magbat family. That's what people call me. A short while later, someone entered the room and closed the door. Inside, the entire group was seated. Rowley lifted her teacup and remarked, I heard the head of the Magbat house had changed, but I never expected it to be a child. Colleen cut in coldly. Regardless, his magical talent is undeniable. I can guarantee that. Rowley, still wary, asked, but for a noble to appear in a shabby adventurers guild like this, it's quite strange. Richard gave a forced laugh. Ha ha, we have our reasons. Rowley's expression grew even more unpleasant. Seeing you with a demon is quite interesting, Colleen. Are all your friends this strange? But 8 Eyes, being lumped in, yelled unhappily, apologize to me right now. The blonde guy also jumped up and chimed in. That's right, the black cat's finally come to its senses. 8 Eyes jumped over growling something. Leon casually held him back and explained, he has his reasons. I'm in a huge amount of debt. I want to work at the Adventurers Guild. Colleen added, a place where anyone can join, without having to reveal one's identity? Isn't that the greatest feature of the Kingdom of Orolion? So there's no reason to refuse him. Richard smiled and pleaded, please give him a chance. Seeing them both pleading, Rowley had no choice but to accept. If you're both this insistent, then, but you could die. Leon didn't pay it any mind and said right away, we of the Magbat family are those who live closest to death. Besides, Richard told me that not paying my debt to that lunatic is worse than hell. Rowley, remembering Kaelin's henchman, agreed. That's something I can't argue with. All right then, I'll give you a chance. As she said this, she poured the tea from her cup. It flowed perfectly into a symbol on the table. Immediately, a similar symbol lit up on the floor beneath them, and the room began to shake violently. White smoke billowed up. Leon broke out in a sweat, speechless. This is, 8 Eyes explained, a type of high-level teleportation magic, and she even simplified the formula. It seems she's a truly capable mage. They saw that a row of stone statues had now appeared in the room. Everyone looked over. Rowley stood up and walked over to them, speaking as she went. The test is very simple. Among these statues, only one contains mana. That is the real statue. Find it. You have a total of 30 minutes. If you don't complete it within the time limit, you'll have to return to your family. Do you still want to do it? Leon agreed immediately. I'll give it a try. Rowley immediately announced, we'll start now. Kellyn, prepare the hourglass. Being called upon, she grumbled unhappily. What a pain. Fine, I'll help just this once. An hourglass immediately appeared in midair. Leon slowly walked among the statues. He looked up, observing every detail. Suddenly Rowley called out, oh, by the way, about the statue moves. I will attack you. While she was still speaking, the statues raised their weapons and attacked. One of them slammed its weapon down, but Leon leapt into the air to dodge the blow. Just as he landed, another statue attacked from behind. Leon hurriedly ducked to avoid it. Kellyn, seeing this, gritted her teeth in displeasure. Rachel also said worriedly, Rowley went a little too far this time. Even an intermediate mage would have a hard time passing this test. He's very talented, but he's still just a kid. But Kellyn disagreed, retorting, is that so? She knows better than anyone that the younger they are, the easier they fall. For now, all we can do is watch. The chance of success is almost zero. Magpie was also a little tense. The power of each statue isn't significant, but finding the magic golem is nearly impossible. The mana density is too low. The blonde man also stroked his beard. This mission is truly difficult. Even a stupid lion could feel that. My contractor is going to have a hard time. Magbat didn't bother arguing with him anymore, staring intently at Leon and wondering, my contractor. What on earth are you thinking? Meanwhile, Rowley frowned, thinking to herself, giving the guild's emblem to a child is truly dangerous because on this continent, even the most outstanding talents can fall easily. As for Leon, after dodging for a while, he retreated to a distance. Those deadfish eyes locked onto a few golems. As they charged forward to attack again, Leon conjured 2 orbs of dark mana in his palms. Just as they were about to reach him, he threw the orbs, directly seizing control of the statues from Rowley. Seeing that the statues were no longer attacking, Leon said softly, satisfied, just as I thought, this seems to be the most effective way. The people witnessing this were stunned. Magbat broke out in a cold sweat, speechless. That guy is Leon. He continued to conjure more dark mana orbs, saying, what I learned from Magbat is just a fraction of the dark magic I know. But for now, it's enough. Dark spear. Immediately, countless mana spears appeared above Leon's head. Magbat and the blonde man were astonished. That is, Richard rejoiced inwardly, the dark spear we know. Leon paid them no heed and directly commanded the spears to shoot forward. The statues couldn't withstand the attack and were shattered to pieces. After this attack, not a single statue remained on the floor. Magbat helplessly cursed under his breath, you're insane. Kellyn walked over, picked up a stone and said, his mana volume and control are truly excellent. But the purpose of this test is to find the statue containing the mana. It seems he failed. But Richie wasn't worried at all. He turned away and said, there's only one way left to pass the test. If he's planning to use that method, then we must recruit him into the Eremita Academy. This sentence made Kellyn fall silent. Over on the other side, Leon closed his eyes and began chanting, O wandering souls in the celestial realm, I, the direct descendant of Magbat, the 8 millionth summon you. Open your eyes. Immediately, the rubble on the floor began to move slowly, gathering together. This scene astonished Rowley. Richard was overjoyed. Leon von Magbat had considered this from the very beginning. Mana is life force, so anything with mana is a living being. And once killed, it can respond to necromancy. But how many people could actually do this? Perhaps we've just met someone who is far beyond our imagination. Kellyn also broke out in a sweat, agreeing. I don't want to admit it, but he's truly impressive. I thought his mana alone was formidable enough. But he even came up with that method in such a short amount of time. Rowley bowed her head, saying nothing. Seeing Leon return, she asked, how did you do that? Leon answered nonchalantly, I killed it and then revived it, just as you all saw. Rowley looked up concerned and asked, why did you think of that method? Leon replied indifferently, because a golem isn't a creation, it's a true living being. This golem is the one that possesses mana. At this point, Leon turned his head to look at the hourglass. Seeing that the sand inside was still flowing, he asked, I've passed the test, haven't I? Rowley smiled and acknowledged, you are truly extraordinary. But Leon didn't care, saying, if that's also a quality that the head of a family should have, then I will possess it. Realizing she couldn't get through to this block of stone, she turned away and proposed, all right, you've passed. I will award you the silver emblem. No, a bronze emblem is unworthy of a mage with such mana reserves. Does everyone agree? Kellyn asked in disbelief. Rowley, you're giving him a silver emblem right from the start. Rachel smiled and remarked, this journey has been full of surprises. Sir Magbat, you truly have an extraordinary contractor, don't you? Magbat nodded smugly in enjoyment. That's right, he is my contractor. Of course. Before he could finish, the blonde man cut him off. A lion that doesn't even know how to take a compliment. Now there are even more things I can't do. I'm so useless. Leon didn't pay them any mind, standing there like a block of wood. Just then, Vanta entered this virtual space and looked at the scene in surprise. Golems, they are usually considered products of magic engineering. But some creatures with cores can also appear naturally. Based on the characteristics of the green golem compared to an artificially created one, he could tell the difference between them, as expected of the young master. Rowley explained in a low voice. This case is quite special. I admit it, you are truly strong. Leon, still like a cold stone, replied. Thank you. If I have a silver emblem, how much can I earn from missions? Magbat heard this and cursed in frustration. What a money grubber. Richard was flustered, not knowing what to do. Huh, you're asking that question right now. Kaelin smiled and replied, it depends on the situation, but you could easily earn around 3 million. Of course, with your debt, you'll need to achieve at least a gold emblem. Richard had to intervene to diffuse this tense atmosphere. Even so, it's a very good start. It's been a long time since the Guildmaster awarded a silver emblem right from the start. Kaelin sighed in agreement. Yes, that's true. Rowley also sighed and said, your first mission will be assigned tomorrow. For now, please get some rest. Leon bowed his head in gratitude. Thank you for your concern, Guildmaster Rowley. She casually flicked her finger, and the golems that Leon had smashed began to move. They perfectly returned to their original state. Vanta watched this in amazement and exclaimed, with just a wave of her hand, everything returns to normal. It's not just her level of mana, but the precision of her control is also astounding. As expected, the Guildmaster is also a monster. Richard turned and suggested, well then, shall we head back too? A short while later, inside the office, Rowley sat silently recalling the recent events. Remembering the image of Leon attacking with the dark spear, she couldn't help but mumble, I was sure it was all over. But he acted differently and ultimately passed the test. Distinguishing the golem with life force must have been no challenge for him. Even though he knew which one had mana from the beginning, he didn't point it out. Or why to hide his true strength? For family on the brink of survival? Magbat, it seems an absurd monster has appeared for the first time in centuries. But what bothers me the most are those emotionless eyes. Leon von Magbat, what does he see with those eyes? The next day inside the office, everyone gathered again. Rowley took out a scroll and said, along with your silver emblem, this will be your first mission. Leon took it and read aloud, in Cilici, where the Pope of the Aiden Church. The goddess of creation resides. I am to investigate the Pope's corruption, Rowley confirmed. That's right. Recently, in the southern city of the capital, Cilici, rumors have spread that Pope Caedon has been engaging in corruption there. Resolve this matter and I will pay you 1 million. Kaelin couldn't help but ask, for a first mission, isn't this a bit too much? This made Rowley stare at her, finally replying indifferently. This is a rare privilege. You should be able to handle it. Richard laughed helplessly. It seemed there was no room for negotiation. Leon, however, didn't mind and said, if this helps me rank up quickly, then I'm willing to accept. I'll do my best. Rowley warned, if you give up, you'll have to start over from the bronze badge. Leon nodded in reply. I accept. Rowley turned and ordered, all of you, if you can go with him and provide support. Kaelin jumped up and shouted, what I already said? It's too much of a pain. Do I really have to go too? Richard chuckled in reply. Of course. We're also curious about Leon's abilities. Kaelin snapped in frustration. Excuse me, does my opinion not matter? No one bothered to answer. Leon bowed in gratitude. Thank you, everyone. My father always taught me that at times like these, I should be the one to greet others first. This scene made the fuming Kaelin stare blankly. The blonde guy laughed gleefully. That's my young master for you. He really knows how to handle people. Mapad chimed in smugly. Of course. A demon has to know how to touch a human's heart. Vanta retorted with an awkward look. But the young master is human. Before he could finish, a glare from Mapad silenced him. Leon, still nonchalant, said, anyway, we'll definitely succeed. We need a lot of money. Meanwhile, in Cilici, the residence of the Pope of the Aiden Church, 2 followers were praying before the Holy Grail. He slowly approached, saying arrogantly, excuse me. The other 2 didn't turn their heads, staring intently into the Holy Grail. On the surface of the water, words slowly began to appear, the miraculous saint. Inheriting the blessing of the creator goddess and divine power will be one of 2 daughters. Only one will shine like the sun, while the other will face annihilation. The 2 shall become one, and one will die for 2 to exist. After reading, both of them sat there still as statues. The religions on the continent are largely divided into 2 types. One is the religion that worships Aiden the goddess, who created the world, and is believed to have created the Philosopher's Stone, known as the Aiden Church. The other side worships Baal and the 72 demons, along with various other evil gods, and is called the demon-worshipping sect. Typically, humans worship the Aiden Church and those chosen to wield its sacred divine grace. This divine power is known throughout the continent by one name, the Saint of Miracles. Scene change. The sound of a carriage clatters along a trail. Outside the carriage, a black-haired man with a stern expression continuously glances at the carriage window. Inside are Richard and his group, and opposite him sit Leon and the other 2. Flashback. A black-haired man is perplexed by the group's request. Excuse me, you want to go to Cilici? But Cilici is in a terrible state right now after the religious war. Even pilgrims barely visit anymore. Then he suddenly asked, is there a special reason you must go there? Richard replied awkwardly. It's hard to explain the reason clearly. Then he glanced at Kaelin, his tone full of meaning. Hearing this, Kaelin gave a faint smile. I get it. She then took out a large bag and placed it on his table. A pile of gold coins spilled out. In a serious and domineering tone, she slammed her hand on the table and began, At this point, I don't think you need to ask why anymore if you don't want to. We can find someone else. It's not like you're the only driver available. He hugged the bag of gold coins to his chest and looked at them. Well, if you can guarantee my safety, I'll definitely go. Back to the present. As he drove the horse, he thought to himself, I said I'd do it for the money, but is this really okay, silly C? A city collapsing under the consequences of a religious war. A new cardinal was supposed to rise and support the Pope, but in the end, everything collapsed. The divine power too, since the new Saint of Miracles has yet to appear. At this rate, the continent will lose the grace of Aiden's divine power. Thinking this, his expression darkened. Inside the carriage, Leon was the first to speak. Our mission this time is to expose the corruption of Pope Kidon. Is that it? Vanta answered him, This smells dangerous. Mapad disagreed, speaking arrogantly. They're just small fry. Don't worry. With your current abilities, no one is strong enough to stop you. Richard also spoke up. That may be, but the human kingdoms have grown much stronger over the centuries since Lord Mapad was sealed. If we're too careless with our preparations, we'll get hurt. Kalin also agreed, especially since this involves the Pope. No one on this continent is free under the name of Aiden, and the new Saint of Miracles still hasn't appeared. Richard added, The problem is the current saint is a direct descendant of the Pope, and people assume that tradition will continue. But what if something even more serious happened? Leon continued. That's the fact that 2 daughters were born when there should have only been 1. That's caused chaos within the church. He continued with a serious face, because only one can inherit the power. Vanta looked at him and voiced his speculation. It's impossible for both of them to have received the divine power, right? Lord Mapad answered him. Divine power passed through the bloodline is always reserved for a single person. Ultimately, one of the 2 will have to die. At that moment, Richard's eyes were fixed on Leon, silently assessing him. The more I think about it, the stranger it seems. Leon, he's truly surprising. The black-haired man sitting outside interrupted his train of thought, announcing, We've arrived. This is the greatest holy land on the continent Cilici. Inside a mansion, a tall man slowly opened a large door. It was Glazer. He called out, Your Holiness, the ones who requested the mission have arrived. The one called Your Holiness asked softly, Is that them? Is it true they can get past the surveillance of Huang VII? Glazer replied respectfully, Yes, Your Holiness. If they are from the Infinite Harmony League, then it's entirely possible. Caden gave him a serious warning. This matter must be kept absolutely secret. No matter what, this entire facade is just to save my daughter. A moment later, he stepped outside to greet them. Hello, I'm Glazer, the head butler in charge of assisting the Pope in this city. Richard, with a friendly face, asked, Did you send the request concerning the Pope's corruption? He smiled faintly, his voice low. That is correct. I didn't expect the head of the Aremia Academy to personally undertake the mission. Hearing that, he gave a forced laugh. My apologies, but I'm not the one handling this mission. The butler's face showed his astonishment. Then who is... Leon spoke up. That would be me. Seeing him, the butler looked a little worried. The one undertaking this mission seems rather young. We have to act in a way that the Pope doesn't find out. Looking at the butler's expression, Leon understood his thoughts. He then took out his badges to show the butler. Glazer was surprised. That's a silver badge from the Adventurers Guild. Before accepting the mission, he suddenly asked a strange question. I have one question. The 2 women who disappeared, are they enemies? Behind the butler, there were indeed 2 shadows. When the 2 shadows realized they had been discovered, they revealed their true forms. At this point, the butler looked at him in a new light. His voice turned serious. We should move to another location. This conversation will likely be a long one. Downstairs, they were sitting formally around a table in the middle of the room. Glazer's eyes were fixed on Leon, deep in thought. So it has finally come to this. Zelisi's power has weakened, but how can such a young mage, possibly help us? Leon suddenly spoke up. I'm not sure, but it's best not to reveal any of your emotions. He then used his thoughts to speak to him. You said your name is Glazer. Hearing the words conveyed into his mind, the butler was in utter disbelief. Let me add, though, I'm not sure if this will be of much help, but he wanted to himself telepathy. That's a type of magic that only intermediate to high-level mages can use, right? It's best not to hide anything. I know this mission was given directly by the Pope himself, so could you please tell me about the real mission? As he finished, a knowing smile appeared on his face. This made the man trust him even more. The man thought to himself, I can't deceive him. Immediately after, he began to speak. I understand. Very well. Let me explain the mission. The Saintess of Miracles, one blessed with the Creator's grace and divine power, will be one of 2 daughters. Only one will be chosen as the son, while the other will face annihilation. The 2 will become one, and for them to separate, one must die. According to his story, the Pope was very worried. If the prophecy is true, what will happen to our daughters? The woman beside him said respectfully, Forgive me, but it seems the power has been divided equally between the 2 and is still incomplete. Ultimately, for that power to be perfected, one of them must... Hearing this, he almost exploded with anger. One must die for the power to become whole? Is that what you mean? Sensing his anger, she said fearfully, I apologize. That day, a knight arrived under orders. He was Caliban, commander of the Royal Knights, acting on the Emperor's command. Your Holiness, I have come to deliver a decree to the Pope. In the name of Esteban, the son of the Empire, I order this, under this sky, there cannot be 2 sons, Your Holiness. And I trust you understand that. That's what he said. When the two daughters come of age, one will live to become the Saintess of Miracles. The other, to perfect that power, will be burned alive under the title of the Fallen Saintess. It was because of this that the Pope, unable to believe such cruelty, screamed at him, "What are you talking about? Are you telling me to burn my own daughter alive?" He was completely unconcerned and just said with a smile, "This is the Emperor's order, Your Holiness. Consider it a small sacrifice." Then he turned and left. Let's go. He couldn't believe this was real. He collapsed to the ground, utterly devastated. Why would you bring such a disaster upon my children? Oh, Aiden, you took my brother, and now you're taking my daughter. Why must I endure these trials? At the end of the story, the two sisters couldn't hold back their tears. Victor spoke up. So to summarize, the Saintess of Miracles who wields divine power hasn't appeared for decades. And this time, the Saintess born into the Orthodox lineage is a set of twins, so the power was split in two. Is that what you mean? The man replied, "Yes, I came here to save both of them. That is why I am here. I know I am going against the will of the Empire, but..." Leon cut him off. "This time, may I ask someone other than you, Cerezar?" Hearing his request, the man was confused. "Huh?" Leon politely asked to step back for a moment, then knelt on one knee to show his respect. "May I ask, between the two of you, has either of you considered accepting death?" Hearing his sudden question, Matpal was stunned. "Hey, contractor, what the hell are you talking about?" He calmly replied, "Your Grace, because it is the most effective way. I will do my best, but it will be difficult to deceive the Emperor. Therefore, in the worst-case scenario, where one person must die..." He maintained a serious tone. "I ask my question again. Is either of you willing to accept death?" Everyone's eyes filled with both worry and shock. The two sisters, Heaven and Evan, hesitated. People call us that, but we sisters have never thought of ourselves as blessed. We are the ones who were not chosen. Rampaging demons are destroying everything and killing the people. The Pope despaired, "Damn it! At a time like this, the Saintess of Miracles has no power of light." "What are we to do now?" a worried knight asked. "Your Holiness, it's too dangerous. Please fall back." The Pope roared in anger. "A demon, I will never forgive you who have betrayed the will of the Lord." The scene changes to a time when the sister's mother, Ria, was speaking with a gentle and soft voice. "It's such a relief that our child can become the new Saintess of Miracles." The Pope, though happy, was filled with sorrow. "Of course I'm happy, but dear, every role comes with its own burden. That's what I'm afraid of. That our little girl will be revered and used by the world like a saint." As he spoke, he clutched the hem of his robe. Sensing his anxiety, Dia gently took his hand. "Don't worry, Carden. This child will be strong, and I will teach her to live that way." Then she continued, "Let's name her Heaven. It means she will bring a life like heaven to everyone. What do you think, my love?" I had never seen Mother speak like that. She used all her strength to give birth to us, and in the end, she passed away forever. I'll say it again. Our beginning was a tragedy, and our end will also be a tragedy. No one can change that. That is the fate of us two sisters. Yes, it's as simple as that. Just then, the older sister spoke resolutely. "I've made my decision." Before she could finish, her younger sister interrupted her. "No, the one who should die is me. You were born first, sister. Only you can carry on Mother's will. You are better than me in every way. Of course. How could a flawed person like me compare to you? Please." Hearing her younger sister say this, tears streamed down her face. "Don't say that anymore." Then the older sister turned to him and said, "We were never taught what to do in a situation like this." He thought for a moment, then asked, "Are you saying that it would be fine if you both died? Then things would be much simpler." Matpal spoke up to remind him, "Hey, contractor, your mission is to save both of them. If one of them dies, you won't get your reward." Hearing this, he clapped his hands together. "You're right, Your Grace. Matpal, you've brought up something I hadn't considered. Well, then let's start looking for a way to save both of them." Hearing this, the older sister's anxiety eased. "It will be very difficult, but please try. But please don't let our father be put in danger." "He is innocent," the younger sister agreed. "That's right. Father was only fulfilling his duties as the Pope." Leon stood up. "I understand." He then asked, "Then tell me the details. When will one of you be burned alive?" The older sister immediately replied, "In 2 days. If we haven't found a way by then, I will sacrifice myself." Hearing this, the younger sister cried out in alarm. "Sister!" He thought to himself, 2 days? That's really cutting it close. Is there no way to avoid this? He gave a serious order. "Next, check if there's any definitive solution. Sir Richard, first please examine the mark bestowed upon the Saintess of Miracles." He carefully asked the two of them, "Could you show me that mark?" The older sister hesitated. "Its location is a bit..." The younger sister chimed in. "Could everyone except for Leon and the young ladies please step outside for a moment?" Callan spoke up. "No matter where it is, we should still ask that guy to leave." As she spoke, she pushed him out. Her actions confused him. "Why are you doing this? I'm an archmage. I can examine it." As she pushed everyone out, she argued with Richard. "I can do that too, you know. Are you trying to take this chance to sneak a peek at a woman's skin model?" After she was done, she even dusted off her hands. Seeing that no one was around, the two sisters looked at each other and gave a signal. Then they gently removed the outer layer of cloth, revealing 2 marks. They were located on the left and right side of each of them. It seemed impossible. Extract or transfer the power using magic. Leon spoke first, looking at their marks. Carlin added, "Given where they are, it's no wonder you can't easily show them to anyone." Lord Max VIII also spoke up. As I see it, there's only one way left. Though it took time to accept, Leon finally spoke to the Lord telepathically. One of them must die. The two prophecies and fate are truly terrifying. They destroy two people's lives in the blink of an eye. The Lord replied, "That look in your eyes? I've never seen it before. Are you angry?" The scene changes to 2 days later. Louis von Aachen rested his chin on his hand, a look of amusement on his face. It's finally starting. The miraculous saintess is about to be born after more than a decade of waiting. Everyone will surely welcome her. That guy Caliban added. And a woman who will be called a witch. She will be burned alive at the stake, he added. They shouldn't have been born twins. We had to wait until they were fully grown. Leon, standing from a distance, heard everything they said. He was stunned. He used telepathy to speak with Lord Max again. Is it really right to save the one who wants to live and kill the one who wants to die? The Lord was confused. What are you talking about? Leon continued. One of the sisters is lying. Perhaps only I, who am so close to death, can sense it. One of them truly yearns to live while the other genuinely doesn't care about death. That's why I'm torn. I don't know who to save and who to let die. The Lord asked him, "Will you make your decision on that very day?" He repeated the sister's words, "No one ever taught me what to do in a situation like this." On the altar, a large crowd of people stood waiting. That man Louis von Aachen stepped forward. He wore a fake smile. "Hello, everyone. I am Louis von Aachen. I have been commissioned by the Emperor to attend the birth ceremony of the miraculous saintess." The people below screamed wildly. He gently raised a hand to signal for silence, then continued, "Tonight, the darkest of nights will fall upon you all. But it will pass quickly, and a new miraculous saintess will appear. Therefore we shall burn the witch known as the Nameless One at the stake." The knight also spoke up. Just as the sky cannot have two suns, this world can only have one saintess of miracles. The birth of two children has caused chaos. The order of the continent is surely a scheme of the devil. With a righteous procedure, the emperor, in the name of the royal family, and before all witnesses, Weibab, he then glared and asked, "Does anyone object?" No one dared to voice any objection despite how cruel this was. Then the two of them walked over to His Holiness and the two sisters. That man looked at the two of them and said with a sarcastic tone, "What a waste of such beauty. If she weren't a witch, I might have even considered keeping her as a concubine." Hearing him speak of his daughter like that, His Holiness was furious, gritting his teeth, but he could do nothing. The old man clenched his fists as the crown prince's hand rested on his shoulder. Then that man walked away, the look in both their eyes showing that they were enjoying this immensely. He asked in a low voice, "Leon, is there no other way to save them both?" He pulled down his hood and replied, "The chances are very low. That is why I have something to ask. I have a question for Your Holiness the Pope." He turned around. "You have something you wish to say?" He stammered, "Well, it's..." The scene changes to inside the church. Heaven whispered comfortingly, "It's okay. Don't cry anymore. If someone has to be sacrificed, I always thought it should be me." Heaven's tears fell ceaselessly. "In the end, what did we do wrong? Is just being born a sin?" Her sister gently accepted the truth. "Perhaps it is. In any case, we have to accept it in the end, because prophecies are never wrong and must always be fulfilled. This time, it's actually better, isn't it? At least we can choose who dies." Outside, Caliban yelled out the order, "Tie the witch up securely and bring her to the pyre." She felt a bit reluctant, but knowing the time had come, she pushed the door open, a faint, resigned smile on her lips. "I'll go." Her sister was worried, then collapsed to her knees, looking utterly guilty. "I'm sorry. I lied. Thank you for taking my place." Unexpectedly, Leon was behind her. He cast a spell, launching it straight at her. She let out a scream and then fainted. He looked on coldly. "I suppose this is the best choice I could make, isn't it?" Mappa asked. Hearing this, his face grew a little grim. "Yes, although best doesn't quite seem to fit this situation, at least not for me." On the pyre, the girl branded a witch was tied tightly to the post, awaiting a painful death. On command, the man with the torch began to light the fire. The crown prince's face showed clear satisfaction. Finally, the moment the Saintess of Miracles is born is here. "Now all who doubted my abilities will be silenced," Caliban chimed in. "Who would dare doubt the crown prince? For those who don't follow the trend, only death awaits. Soon, they, too, will understand that." The girl screamed in agony amidst the flames. On the other side, Leon's group was witnessing the cruel scene. Everyone was stunned. Kalin spoke first. "Even so, to resort to this method. Are you certain about this decision?" Young Master Richard gave a forced smile. "Doing it this way, the mission is neither a success nor a failure. At least it's not a complete failure." Leon also spoke up. After all, he just wanted both of them to survive. What kind of feelings must one have to become a true father? To be honest, I don't fully understand His Holiness the Pope. But even so, he still wished for his daughter to live, even if he himself had to die. He just needed to see his child alive before his eyes. That was enough for him. Then he thought to himself, "I don't understand that yet, but maybe one day I will." This feeling that can't be put into words, this heavy feeling in my heart, it's so uncomfortable. They must have realized it by now. That person is also all right. In a way, I feel relieved. Let's just say I'm being punished. Unlike my sister, I was never a good person. And I'm afraid of death, so I tried to cling to the gentle words of my kind sister. Watching the girl in the roaring flames, Louis von Aachen raised his hand and ordered, "Pour more oil." A servant immediately brought a barrel of oil and threw it onto the fire. The flames began to rage violently. Seeing her sister scream in agony, the younger sister's heart ached with self-blame. "I'm so sorry, big sister." 2 days earlier, at Pope Caden's room, Leon was there hesitating as he asked, "Do you want to save the daughter who wants to live, or save the one who is prepared to die?" The Pope, hearing this, asked back coldly, "Something like that." "Can it be so clearly distinguished?" Leon answered confidently. "It can. It's hard to explain specifically, but..." Hearing the answer, the Pope fell into deep thought. After a while, he looked up and said, If you truly have the eyes to see through things, then save the one who wants to live." Returning to the present, the Pope and the younger sister stood watching the pyre from a distance. The heartbreaking scene made the sister try to cover her mouth to stifle her sobs. At the same time, a carriage approached the square and stopped. Outside the carriage, Richard and Kaylin hid in a corner observing. Inside, Leon looked down and asked, "What are your thoughts?" The carriage fell into a period of silence. Mappa, seeing this, looked up and asked, Leon spoke again. "Why did His Holiness choose to save the one who was prepared to die?" The carriage once again sank into silence. Mappa jumped onto his shoulder and said smugly, "You're asking the obvious." "Because I want them to feel the value of life." Leon was confused. "The value of life?" Mappa nodded. "That's right. Because those who live on must always live for the sake of those who are no longer here. So when the moment of choice comes, the one who chose death understands just how precious that choice is. They understand its meaning. They understand that they are standing in someone else's place. They understand it more than anyone." Leon understood, but the one who wanted to live might go their whole life without ever truly understanding. A relative of mine once said that gratitude fades with time. At some point, it will be taken for granted. Extended kindness will eventually be exploited superficially. Mappa agreed. "That's exactly right." Vanta was bewildered listening to them. If this continues, who should I direct my anger towards? What did they do wrong? Suddenly, Richard, who had been sitting quietly, exclaimed, "There is no other way. This continent needs a saintess of miracles, and no matter how talented we are, we cannot defy a royal decree." All eyes were now on Charis. "No one, the saintess of miracles?" A moment later, the dejected younger sister walked out from inside. Kalin let out a long sigh. "So it's done. The saintess's power must have fully awakened by now." As she was speaking, she was stunned, her eyes widening. Even Leon and the others were completely astonished. Richard exclaimed with a grim look, "The power is still incomplete." Even the younger sister looked in disbelief at the stigma on her chest. The Pope shouted in horror, "What is this?" The younger sister turned around in shock. "Father." Before he could finish, Louis von Aachen interrupted. "This has gotten out of control. Your Holiness." His face darkened as he pointed at the Pope and ordered, "Even after executing the witch, the power is not complete. Arrest Pope Caden and all of his followers immediately." The Pope was restrained but yelled defiantly, "This is strange. That child is definitely my daughter." Louis von Aachen, not wanting to hear any more, cut him off coldly. "Are you trying to pull a fast one on me? Cadon? I gave you respect, gave you time, yet you chose this foolish path. Kill him." Caliban hesitated slightly, stepping forward. "What but to execute the Empire's Pope right here? Not to mention, he could still be hiding the real saintess." Louis von Aachen glanced back and said, "If he hasn't brought her out here, surely it means he's confident he's hidden her somewhere. In any case, I've survived for 15 years without the Saintess of Miracles. I won't let religious faith sway my decision. I'll say it again, Caliban. Kill him." Caliban, with no other choice, lowered his head and drew his sword from its sheath, whispering, "Don't hold a grudge. This is the consequence of your own actions." The terrified Pope denied it. "No, that's my daughter." Caliban pointed his sword at the man's neck and said, "Then this should have all been over by now." As he finished speaking, he raised his sword. Just as he was about to strike, the younger sister leaped out to block the blow. A long gash was cut across her body. The scene stunned the Pope, who let out a silent scream. Why go to such lengths? Just for a useless father like me. But the younger sister just smiled and whispered, "It's not just for you, Father. Because if I don't truly live, then none of it means anything. I've always been searching for the meaning of my life, but I never found a clear answer. So I just hoped my sister could live for me. I chose to run away. Perhaps this is my punishment." At the same time, inside the carriage, Leon stared intently outside, looking at the charred corpse on the wooden post that was still emitting a faint, thick, deathly aura. A dense, deathly aura also poured out from the younger sister's body. He was startled and muttered, "It seems they punished the wrong person." Over by them, the stunned Pope repeated, "Punishment." The younger sister said coldly, "You're no different." "Father." The flustered Pope tried to explain, "What are you talking about?" "My daughter, I was just..." He trailed off, his face contorted, unable to finish his sentence. The younger sister smiled, exposing the truth. "To the Pope, we were never daughters. We were just tools to maintain your power. Now just admit it. So you can finally find peace. You never truly had a daughter. This is the only punishment I can give you. Perhaps this death is it." As she said this, she collapsed powerlessly. The horrified Pope screamed, "My daughter." But it was too late. She had stopped breathing. The miracle faded from her body. The miracle on her older sister's corpse was also stripped away, flying from the body. Inside the carriage, Mag-8's eyes widened as he looked at Leon, radiating a deathly aura beside him, stammering, "Packmaker, don't tell me you're planning to..." Leon coldly opened the grimoire and read aloud, "Two souls lost in the maelstrom of chaos. Listen to me." This chant startled Colleen beside him. Leon closed his eyes tightly and began the summons. "I solemnly declare, your mission is not yet over. As the rightful heir of the Mag-8 family, I make this offer." An eye on the grimoire glowed brightly. An invisible pressure descended upon Leon. Colleen was shocked. "This is necromancy for summoning the dead." The souls of the older and younger sisters were extracted, merging together as they slowly floated toward the carriage where Leon was. He looked up and called out, "You who have passed heed the call of Leon von Mag-8. Even in the form of the undead, are you willing to continue to exist?" The two souls solidified, asking Leon in confusion, "Are you saying you'll resurrect us? Is this for real?" Leon replied with certainty, "If you accept living on in the body of a dead person, if you accept a life without the warmth of a heart, then I am ready to accept you." With that, he reached out his hand. Two tendrils of death energy flew out, wrapping tightly around their two souls. The younger sister smiled and asked, "What do we have to do?" Leon answered frankly, "It may be a bit shameless, but you will have to work for me." The younger sister readily agreed, unconcerned. "That sounds fair enough. If you didn't ask for anything, I'd be more suspicious." Hearing this, Leon lowered his eyes and declared, then, "I will take that as consent. I bind these two wandering souls to me. In the name of the heir of House Mag-8, are you ready to swear your loyalty to me?" The two looked at each other, exchanging a glance, then smiled and nodded. An eye on the grimoire glowed brightly once more. Leon waved his hand, taking them in, and announced, "The pact is complete. When this pact ends, I hope that in your new lives, you will find what you once sought. That true value will finally be in your hands. I sincerely wish that for you." Back in the square, the Pope stood frozen, his eyes wide and vacant as he stared blankly at the two royals before him. Caliban, meanwhile, was cautiously searching his surroundings. "I can feel an extremely powerful magic nearby. What the hell is going on? Besides Prince Louis, is some other big shot here?" Outside, Leon closed the grimoire and stepped into the carriage. He had barely glanced at the grimoire when Mag-8 popped out and smacked him on the head. "You dare use a subjugation summon without telling me first? When we get back, just prepare yourself for a scolding packmaker." Leon awkwardly scratched his head and chuckled. But what's done is done. I saved them, so I'll be rewarded, right?" Vanta smiled and praised him. "The young master is truly extraordinary." Kaelin added, "In more ways than one. A while back, Mappas taught me that to resurrect mindless beings like beasts as undead, one must go through a process called imprinting. It's a delicate technique, but it's the most effective way to gain complete control." Leon then asked, "So, what about those with intelligence?" Mappas explained, "We must persuade the souls that still linger in the mortal world to follow our commands." Leon didn't quite understand and repeated, "Persuade?" Mappas confirmed, "A soul that still has regrets cannot pass on. A necromancer helps them complete their unfinished business and borrows their power until that is resolved. We call this process by another name, subjugation summon." Leon seemed to finally understand. "Oh, I see. So by resolving the regrets of the dead, they find a reason to keep on living." Mag-8 nodded. "Exactly. The stronger their regret, the greater the power they carry. Remember this, a necromancer is not simply someone who exploits the dead for personal gain." Leon listened obediently. "Yes, I'll remember." Back in the present, he held the grimoire and chanted, as the heir of House Mag, "8, I call your names, Heaven and Helen, answer the summon of your necromancer." The book lit up, and the two souls flew out from within. They merged together in midair. From where the two souls intertwined, a new body was born and landed. Seeing this, Leon waited blankly. When nothing else happened, he turned and asked Mag-8, "Why did only one person come back when both were resurrected?" Mag-8, unsurprised, explained, "That's easy to understand. Because from the very beginning, there were two souls born in one body. So even in death, they become one." Hearing this explanation, the others understood. "I see. That makes sense. It's truly fascinating." But Vanta looked confusedly at the girl who had just appeared. "But the atmosphere is a little different. Something feels strange." Leon also questioned in a cold voice, "Heaven Helen, who is here now?" The girl heard him and smiled. "It is Heaven now." Leon asked again, "Can that be changed?" Heaven immediately replied, "Yes, I think it's possible." Leon was intrigued and exclaimed, "How miraculous." Suddenly, Heaven looked away shyly and said, "Although, there is one problem." Leon was curious. What problem? Heaven said no more as a deathly aura radiated from her entire body. Heaven's eyes changed. Helen took over the body. "What we have to serve a master as strict as this won't be easy." Richard watched this, sweating. Her personality changed. Perhaps it's Helen's hidden ego that has just awakened. As he was speaking, she cut in, "Hey, you with the baby face, shut up. We're talking to our master right now. Can't you see? Leon hesitantly probed, "So, what are you twins good at?" "I summoned you back as undead. If you're useless, I'll send you right back to the afterlife. The number of undead I can register is limited." Hearing him say that, Helen broke into a sweat and whispered, "You say such terrifying things so calmly, model. But that's fine. We can do all sorts of things to please our master. For example," she silently grabbed Leon's collar, pulling her face close to his. But even with the beautiful woman right in front of him, Leon's eyes remained as cold as ever. Helen whispered in his ear, "This, for instance, master." The next day in the Adventurers Guild Hall, Rowley asked in surprise, "Is the job already done?" "I didn't think it would be resolved this way." Kalin stepped forward to explain. "In any case, the Pope has already agreed. Now we just have to wait for the payment." Rowley rubbed his temples, exasperated. Richard added awkwardly, "He truly is extraordinary in many ways. But to turn his own daughter into an undead right in front of her father." He had barely glanced over when Helen snapped at him. "Where do you think you're looking? No matter what, I belong to Leon." Richard, at a loss for words, stepped forward to get away from her. Mapad also grumbled in annoyance. "I'm the one who saved you from death, and this is the attitude I get." Leon, unconcerned, just said, "I'm fine. I'm more used to this state anyway." Vanta forced a smile and tried to smooth things over. "I don't know much, but isn't it a good thing that I'm still alive? Although, to be honest, calling it alive is a bit of a stretch." Rowley, seeing no other choice, conceded. "All right, fine. I acknowledge it. I officially recognize you as the holder of the silver badge. The reward will be sent to your residence." Leon asked again, "This isn't over, is it?" Rowley looked up and replied, "If a new job comes up, I'll be in touch." Kalin also assured him, "Don't worry, I'm as tight-lipped as I look. My landlord says as long as you pay the rent on time." Richard couldn't help but stick his tongue out. "'Tis so unnecessarily sweet." Before he could finish, Kalin smiled and pointed a gun at his head, shutting him up instantly. Mapad suggested, "All right, let's move on. Heaven and Helen was it. We need to test their strength." Kalin beamed and asked, "While you were helping her, couldn't you have done a little more understanding her meaning?" Rowley poured the tea in his hand onto the table. "All right." Meanwhile, at the Imperial Palace, Caliban returned to report. Pope Cardon has refused all food and drink and is currently in a state of delirium. The shock of losing both his daughters at once seems to have been too much for him. But Louis von Aachen wasn't listening. Can't he just have more children? What a bunch of weaklings. So disgraced they don't even dare to face the Emperor. We've missed our chance to seize the Saintess of Miracles. Who knows when the next prophecy will come? Caliban hastily knelt and pleaded, "I have no excuses. If you would grant me one more chance, I would devote myself to the Empire." Louis von Aachen frowned in displeasure. You'd better. By the way, that dark mage who interfered, have you still found no trace of him?" Caliban looked up. "Unfortunately, no. It seems the souls of both Saintess candidates have vanished. We believe someone intercepted them, but as far as I know, no mage can control magic with such precision." "Unless he's a necromancer." Louis von Aachen repeated doubtfully. "A necromancer, you say?" Meanwhile, with Leon's group, they had entered a desolate wasteland. Rowley asked hesitantly, "So, what skills did your undead awaken with?" Leon beckoned with his hand. "I'll show you directly. Can you summon a suitable opponent?" "A medium rank one will do. I'll test the younger sister's abilities first." Helen immediately responded, "Understood." A golden aura appeared around her body. Heaven took control, bowed her head in panic and apologized. "I'm sorry, Master. My sister was too impudent. Yes, I am ready." Rowley immediately waved his hand and a group of golems rose from the ground. Richard recognized it at a glance. A forest badger. It has powerful regenerative abilities. For Heaven, who was just transformed, Kalin agreed. This will be quite difficult. But my master has already shown me more than enough. On the side, Vanta cheered with extreme confidence. "I believe in the young master." The Black Crow mimicked him. Crow believed in master from the start. Mapad couldn't help but sneer. "What nonsense. Weren't you the one whining about having nothing to eat but peanut shells before?" Leon, not quite getting it, asked, Buffalo Heaven, can you handle it?" She answered tensely, "Of course I can." The golems charged forward with a rumble. Leon coldly opened the dark grimoire, summoning a medieval warhammer into her hands. The lead golem had just lunged when it took a hammer straight to the cheek and was immediately sent flying by Heaven. This scene made Mapad and the Black Crow stop their bickering to assess the situation. Being strong is good, but this one seems dangerous. "What do you think?" "Crow will be careful. This undead woman is seriously dangerous. Look, she's smashing its head in with the hammer." After she took one down, the golems behind it stopped and didn't charge forward. Heaven glanced back at Leon apprehensively. He just stated coolly, "Looks like you're usable. Leave the rest to Helen." He immediately swapped their souls. The timid gaze turned sharp and cold. Without waiting for Leon's command, Helen pulled a chain whip from her chest and burst out laughing. "Leon, it's finally my time to shine. A chance to prove that I'm useful." She leaped up, swung her whip to wrap it around a golem's neck and scolded. "Arrogant monsters need to be taught a proper lesson, don't they?" She yanked hard, throwing it into the air before slamming it down behind her. She strode forward, arrogantly stepped on the head of the golem's corpse, and laughed, "Now die for the love between me and Leon." This display left everyone there stunned. Mapad could only shake his head in defeat. No matter how you look at it, these guys are completely insane. Sometime later, Leon returned to his family estate once again. Looking at the familiar gate, he couldn't help but sigh. So you're finally back. Mapad, walking beside him, remarked, "We've taken care of everything. And gained a good deal of power too. It wasn't a bad trip at all." Leon looked down in agreement. "I think so too. I feel I've grown quite a bit as a necromancer." Vanta hesitantly interjected. "It's just a bit of a shame that those two left before." Before Leon returned to his family home, Richard had smilingly said his goodbyes. "But I'm happy for the academy. Eremita has a new star." Colleen also shot him a look as a reminder. "Don't forget you still owe me money." Seeing her hold her hand out towards him, Leon took it and asked, "Are you two leaving already?" Richard answered, "Me. Yes, I've been away from the academy for too long." Kaylin, with a sharp gaze, emphasized, "And there are many others out there who still owe us money. We have to go check on them." Hearing this, Mapad remarked, "You really are diligent." Suddenly, Kaylin turns to Vanta and asked, "By the way, you're Vanta, right?" Vanta was startled. "Ah, yet." Kaylin then said, "Although you're overshadowed by your master, you have no ordinary talent. I don't know the details, but if the commander himself were to witness it, he would surely be surprised." Richard broke into a sweat and cut in, "Even so, I hope I never have to meet the commander of those lunatics." Leon looked confused. "Why is that?" Richard reluctantly brought it up again because he's a monster, and this guy is a monster too. But remember, the commander of monsters is a completely different kind of monster. Anyway, Vanta's talent is the real deal. If you remain this loyal, you'll achieve everything you desire. Hearing their encouragement, Vanta was grateful. "Thank you, everyone. I'm still not used to being praised by others." Leon stepped forward, assuring them he'll become an excellent retainer. "I believe he'll grow beyond all your expectations. I'll make sure of it." Hearing this, Rachel laughed heartily. That confident attitude really suits the role of a family head. "Then let's see this as a hopeful farewell, not a tragic one. Until we meet again." Leon cheerfully added, "Yeah, I like that idea." Colleen immediately turned and instructed, "We're leaving now. I've also connected you with the guild, so I trust you'll pay your debt properly." Seeing her mention money, Leon's face fell. "Yes." Richard's expression also soured as he grumbled, "You really know how to ruin the nice atmosphere we had today." He was only halfway through his sentence when Colleen coldly pointed a gun at his head, shutting Richard up. Colleen slung an arm around his shoulder and dragged him away, saying, "I don't think it's a good idea to keep a loudmouth around for too long. I hope you'll be even stronger next time." Young Master Leon didn't say anything more, just stood there smiling as he watched the two figures disappear into the distance. Back in the present, the scene before him left Leon stunned. His people saw him and gathered around, murmuring, "The young master has returned. I can't believe it. You didn't abandon us. Oh my goodness. Thank heavens. We're truly grateful." Leon broke out in a sweat, confused. "What's going on here?" Just as he finished speaking, Bullen ran over from a distance, shouting, "Young master!" Leon tilted his head, trying to remember. "Am I going senile?" Suddenly someone smacked him hard on the head. A girl who had appeared behind him at some point yelled, "Leon, where did you disappear to, leaving the whole family behind like that?" Leon clutched his head and turned to look utterly speechless. "Sister Diana," Vanta ran over worriedly. "Young master, are you all right?" Leon glanced back and suggested, "Shouldn't we go inside first?" Markvath nodded with a grimace. "Yeah, now that I think about it, that's better." A while later, Markvath asked, "So that girl has bonded with the Leo contract beast and is also the successor to the noble Beresia family?" All eyes turned to Leon. He glanced at him and replied, "That's right, she's an outstanding spirit summoner with a 1 million rating. She's helped a lot from the very beginning." The black orb laughed delightedly. "My master is so skilled, and she's a beauty too." Suddenly Diana interrupted. "More importantly, may I ask, you're a demon, right?" The fact that Sir Markvath was traveling with Leon was indeed very hard to understand, but the people here found it completely normal. It just sort of happened. That's the truth. That's just how it happened. Only Vanta hesitated awkwardly. "Pardon me," that's what he said. Diana was at a loss and sighed. "Leon, why do you always get tangled up in things like this?" "I honestly don't know why either. Even so, how could you leave the family behind and go to the guild by yourself at a time like this? Everyone was in an uproar, thinking their lord had abandoned them." Leon replied awkwardly, "I'm sorry, Sister Diana. I'm surprised you managed to hold everything together." Diana blushed and looked away. Uncle Bullen was quite pitiful too. They said you were coming back soon, so I waited." Leon remained cool and asked directly, "What did you need from me?" This question made Diana turn to him in surprise. She lowered her head, holding it in, but finally shouted, "There isn't much time left, so I came to check on you. Do you even know what that means?" Leon, not understanding, repeated, "Not much time left." Diana beckoned him over. "Come here a second." She flicked his forehead and said, "This is punishment for a family head who'd forget such an important event." It dawned on Leon. "Could it be?" Diana cut in. "It's probably exactly what you're thinking. The High Society Gala. There's going to be a party where all the noble families gather, and you should know that you have to be my dance partner for the event. Even if it's just in name, we're still engaged after all." Several days passed. Inside a luxurious palace, a young man with white hair was still sleeping when his butler entered to announce, "Young master, the noble's banquet is about to begin." He refused to get out of bed and grumbled, "What a pain. Aren't my brothers going anyway? I don't understand why I have to go too." The butler tried to explain. "It is a gathering of the three great dark families, and also a chance for the youngest son of the Wren Harper house to shed his reputation as the problem child." Hearing that, he could only get up with a sigh. This is such a hassle. While Bullen was adjusting Leon's clothes, Diana walked in. Looking at the woman before him, Leon thought to himself, Diana de Veretia. She is the next heir and a powerful figure of the Marquise's Veretia family. The one who has a long-standing connection with Markvath, and also my fiancé. Leon spoke first. "Do I really have to attend?" Before Diana could answer, Heaven and Helen started to whimper, looking aggrieved. "We thought the young master was a man faithful to only one woman. We believed in you." Hearing this, Diana said irritably, "What the hell are you talking about? It's just a formality." Then she slowly walked over, grabbed the cravat on Leon's collar, and said in a sarcastic tone, "Marry someone like him? Seriously. Personally, I prefer more mature men." Leon went along with it. "That's right." Witnessing all this, Markvath angrily scolded Leon. "As a contractor, how can you be so easily swayed?" Doppelganger shouted at Bullen, "Old butler, tell me what kind of emotional provocation is this?" Bullen nervously wiped his sweat, stammering, Well, Leon and Lady Diana are complete opposites, so they argue every time they meet. Anyway, the two families have been close for a long time. Perhaps that's why they feel comfortable around each other." At this moment, Leon finally spoke up. Excuse me. Sister, could you let go of my collar?" She thought that his long silence meant he was about to explain the situation, but who knew he would only complain about a minor issue? That remark left Diana utterly disappointed. She pulled her hand back. "I thought you'd be different after becoming the family head, but you're still the same Leon I've always known." Leon adopted a philosophical tone again. "Someone once said that people shouldn't change so easily." Diana scowled. "You're so annoying." Then she stopped beating around the bush and got straight to the point. "Be serious. Don't keep making the people of the domain worry. You and your father really..." At that point, Diana suddenly remembered that Leon's father was gone, so she stopped immediately because she knew in that moment she had truly misspoken. Afraid she had touched upon the pain of his father's death, Diana turned away and lowered her voice. "I'm sorry." Unexpectedly, Leon wasn't agitated but calmly said, "Lady Diana, you don't need to apologize. My father had no regrets, and neither do I. He died protecting what he wanted to keep." Diana was stunned for a moment, then she reverted to her original tone. "You really are a peculiar one. Anyway, it's still best to attend this event. I don't like this sort of thing either." Diana emphasized, "But our Macbeth family won the territorial war against the Sylvesters, so we have now restored our honor as an Archduke family, right? This event is the perfect opportunity to further elevate your status." Leon then said, "I understand that." Bullen, standing beside him, sighed. "But unfortunately, the other families still look down on us." Leon drew out his words. "If that is what's necessary to protect the family..." Seeing this, everyone around them got riled up. Vanter exclaimed, "So the young master is finally getting the recognition he deserves." Pegana crossed his arms in approval. "I'm impressed. Not bad. The head of the house, Leon, has finally made up his mind. I will attend the party." At the banquet at one of the tables, the crown prince and many other high-ranking officials were talking. A man with chestnut-colored hair spoke up. "By the way, is it true that Sylvester lost the territorial war?" "No. I heard that even Can Allen was defeated." One of them asked, curiously, "Who were they up against?" The man with chestnut hair whispered mysteriously, "You're not going to believe this. They say it was the Markbat family." Hearing this, a man named Riv immediately dismissed it. "Oh, come on. Isn't that an archducal house in decline? There's no way they could have gotten that strong." "It's all nonsense." The man with chestnut hair tried to explain. "No, it's true. Anyway, feeling awkward, he pointed clumsily toward Leon and Diana. "Look, there's the head of the house now. Why not ask him directly? He looks exactly like his father." Meanwhile, Leon and Diana had to feign intimacy, holding hands at the party. Leon seemed a bit flustered. "Perhaps I'm not suited for occasions like this." "It's louder than I expected." Diana had been conscious of their clasped hands the whole time, but hearing Leon's words, she put on her usual proud, annoyed expression. "Do you think anyone actually likes these things? Maintaining your poise and adapting to occasions like this is also part of a true family head's job." Leon suddenly turned to Diana and smiled. "I understand. Thank you, Diana." Diana sighed inwardly, her thoughts a mess. "I've known Leon since he was a child, but this time he seems genuinely moved. The moment he hears about the responsibilities of a family head, he's ready to jump through fire. What am I supposed to do with him?" Leon spoke up. "Those other people should be fine, right? They haven't reached their full potential yet." Hearing this, Diana said scornfully, "To say that you must think you've already fully developed yourself. You know you're still just a 14-year-old kid." Leon stated calmly, "In terms of rank, I believe I am superior. I am the head of the house." Diana said, exasperated, "You never concede a single point, do you?" Riv stepped forward, cutting Diana off. "You're the head of the Markbat family, aren't you?" Leon answered, "Yes. What do you want with me?" Riv acted mysteriously. "Oh, it's nothing important." He thought to himself, "This kid defeated Alan. Even if he's just a count, his family is still considered." On par with the ducal houses in terms of influence. I knew it. The rumors must be exaggerated. Thinking this, Riv gave a fake smile to test Leon. You're the one who defeated Sylvester in the territorial war. I heard such a ridiculous story. Leon said flatly. It's the truth. Hearing his tone, Riv glanced over at Diana and had a thought. Is he just acting tough because a girl is here? Riv gave a dismissive laugh. I simply can't picture it. Perhaps you could tell me how you won that territorial war? Leon's voice dropped. I killed him. Riv couldn't believe his ears. He asked again. What did you say? This time Leon's expression grew dark. I killed Alenzer Sylvester as the head of House Markbat. It would be difficult to show you the process, but his eyes blazed as if he were about to devour the man whole. If you make an enemy of my house, perhaps one day you'll get to witness it firsthand. Mark 8 popped out from behind Leon. This is getting tiresome. You're all driving me crazy. From a distance, someone had been watching the entire exchange. It was Nox. He stood up, stroking his chin. Now this is getting interesting. Hearing the commotion, people started to turn and look. A man with blonde hair wondered, what the hell is going on? Why is it so noisy? The man with chestnut hair guessed, is the young lord of House Markbat causing trouble? The blonde man shook his head. No, that's impossible. After all that, House doesn't have any power to speak of. The chestnut-haired man chimed in, exactly. All of these words reached Reeves' ears. Meanwhile, Mark 8 had jumped onto Leon's shoulder, teasing, Ma, you sure know how to spout nonsense as if it were true. Not that I care. Leon grunted and was about to leave when Riv raised a hand to stop him. Your joke has gone too far, he glared threateningly. If you're going to insult House Varela, then you'd better take responsibility for your words. Leon didn't back down. Did I say something wrong? Weren't you the one who doubted the victory of House Markbat? Riv snarled. But with what you just said, House Markbat has practically declared war. Suddenly Diana spoke up, her tone sarcastic. Why don't you calm down a bit? Let's be honest, Riv. Aren't you from a branch family of House Varela? You're not even the official heir. And yet, you dare to challenge the successor of an archducal house. Diana raised an eyebrow slightly. That action is clearly insolent. Are you prepared to bear the consequences? Her flawless cutting words left Reeves speechless for a moment. Seething with rage and at a loss for what to say, he spat out the first insult he could think of. Don't think one victory means you've won it all. He moved closer to Diana and snarled, especially you lady of House Veresia. Diana just calmly retorted, if you were truly someone to be feared, I wouldn't be treating you like this. But as it is, I see no reason to be intimidated. This made him even more furious. You dare... Suddenly an unfamiliar voice rang out. Hey, you! You're making a scene, Riv. Without seeing who it was, he immediately lashed out. Who dares to speak to me like that? When his eyes finally landed on the person before him, Riv began to tremble and cower. Leon watched from the side, filled with suspicion. He was so arrogant just a moment ago. Where did that attitude go? What's going on? The person turned back to Riv, raising a wine glass. Riv, what was it? You just opened your mouth without even knowing who you were talking to. At this moment, Mark 8 whispered softly in Leon's ear, watch your mouth. That one is dangerous. Nox grabbed Riv's collar, looking very impatient. Well, do we really have to spell it out for you? Outside the banquet hall, Vanta and Bullen were waiting. Vanta anxiously asked if his master and Lady Veresia were still all right. Bullen stammered, of course they are. It's just, this is his first time at a place like this, so, Vanta said tensely. So you are worried after all, aren't you? Finally, Bullen stopped pretending and let out a sigh. Damn it. I hate to admit it, but yes. You know how unrestrained my master can be. I can't help but worry he'll cause some trouble. Vanta reassured him. No matter what, he is still the head of a House Markbat. All we can do is to trust and wait. Bullen clutched his chest, slightly relieved. Thankfully, Lady Diana Zavarelia is with him this time. Still, he's very stubborn. Vanta asked curiously. Speaking of which, what kind of person is Lady Veresia? I heard she's his fiancée. Bullen confessed. How should I put this? Honestly, rather than a fiancée. Vanta was a little surprised. Honestly, Bullen continued, it's more accurate to say she's like an older sister. And she's quite a bit older than him, he emphasized. She's really much older than him. He added, she's the one who always looks after and takes care of our clumsy master. Vanta started to understand. Ah, so it's more like familial affection than romantic love. Bullen then said, you could say that. But now is not the time to talk about her. I heard there's a social hand grenade attending this gathering. Vanta was startled and asked, a social hand grenade? Bullen explained, yes, a notorious troublemaker. He's the heir to one of the 3 dark clans. Just like our young master, he's the youngest son of the Renhava family. Their power far surpasses the weakened House Markbat. His name is... At that moment, inside the banquet hall, Nock grabbed Riv by the collar and introduced himself. Nock von Renhava. His voice was always in a soft tone, but it was incredibly terrifying. If you don't know, you better remember it now, if you want to leave this place in one piece. Hearing that, a frightened Riv quickly bowed his head and apologized. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were the young master of the Renhava house, so I raised my voice. Please spare my life. It turned out the social hand grenade Bullen mentioned was this guy Nock. At that moment, Nock, without any regard, slowly poured wine over Riv. He even uttered a few insults. You're pathetic. Now look, it's all because of you that things turned out this way, you idiot. Witnessing this scene, everyone was shocked. Finally, Nock pressed the wine glass against Riv's head and turned away. Riv said in humiliation, "I am truly sorry, young master." Nock Leon asked with curiosity, "Who are you?" Nock smiled friendly. "If it's that name, you must have heard it before." Diana, who was beside him, spoke up. "Nock von Renhaver, known as one of the two great families on par with the Holy Clans. You are the terrible servant who struck the youngest son of a prestigious family." Nock frowned slightly. "Why, I seem to remember helping you at that time." Then he smiled and said, "You said your name was Leon, right? I think we'll be seeing each other often." Leon didn't object. "If it is necessary for the development of the family, then so be it." Hearing that, Nock turned to look at him. "That's quite a refreshing answer." "Good, then let's meet often." As he left, Diana warned, "The youngest son of the family is known as the Renhaver's guard dog. You don't need to be too wary, just don't be disrespectful." Leon asked in surprise, "The shame of the Renhaver family. Is that true?" Diana was bewildered. "Yeah, why?" Just then Macbeth spoke up. "You're right, that guy looks completely different from you, but he's a true genius, even if his body is a bit useless." Leon raised a hand to his chin, suspicious. "I thought so too, since I was born." This is the first time I've felt such powerful dark magic. Watching Nock's retreating figure, Leon mumbled, "I think we'll be seeing each other often." I don't think that's a bad thing. On Nock's side, as he was walking, a maid approached and asked, "Young master, may I ask why you helped someone named Leon?" "It's just that you usually find such things troublesome." Nock just said softly, "In a few years?" The maid was curious. "In a few years?" Nock continued. "There won't be a single person who doesn't know his name. As for whether he'll become a good card for me to play, I'm not sure. Let's stop here for today. We should rest a bit." Back with Leon, Diana suggested, "Let's go. Even if it's just a formality. We are engaged, right?" Hearing this, Macbeth jumped off his shoulder. Leon asked, puzzled, "What do I have to do?" Diana then said, "You know how to dance, don't you? You must have learned from the head of the leading family." Leon nodded in confirmation. So Diana took his hand and they began to dance. Swaying to the melodious music, the two moved gracefully with each step. The moment Diana looked at Leon, she felt a slight flutter in her heart. "Looks like you're a pretty good dancer. You're also a little cute," Diana mumbled. "But you're not my ideal type at all." Perhaps the music was too loud as Leon couldn't hear. He said loudly, "Huh, I can't hear you clearly." Diana said shyly, "It's nothing, don't worry about it. You just need to do an adequate job." After all, this is just a formal dance. Leon's face remained serious. "My father used to say that the head of a house must do his best in everything." After saying that, he used his hand to pull her waist close to him. This meant the distance between their faces was very short. Diana was a little flustered. "Even so, do we need to be this close?" The two of them danced together just like a real couple. This caused everyone's eyes to be fixed on them. After a tense moment, Diana finally sighed. "Are you still so serious about such meaningless things?" Leon just said worriedly, "Diana, you've gone completely stiff." Diana, embarrassed, lowered her voice. "Shut up. You used to be just a tiny little bean." Suddenly, everyone rushed towards the door, making a commotion about something. "Is there a fight outside? What's with all this noise at a holy gathering?" "No, it's not a fight. It looks more like someone is getting beaten one-sidedly." "What, who is it?" Seeing that something was wrong, the two looked at each other to confirm. Then they rushed outside together. When they got there, the scene was chaotic. Bullen was on the ground, clutching his chest while Vanta was fighting someone with his sword. Diana shouted, "You need to explain clearly what is happening here." "Riv Zevarelia." Riv asked, "You are Lady Varesia." Diana ignored the question and repeated in a stern voice, "Explain the situation." A smirk appeared on Riv's lips. "There's no one left who can help and you look very tired." Macbeth thought to himself, "It's because that white-haired guy disappeared just now that the situation became so chaotic. What a useless troublemaker causing a fuss over nothing." Leon approached the trembling Bullen. Leon glanced up at Vanta. "Explain how this happened." Vanta stammered, well... Flashing back to before the incident, Riv had left the party in frustration after the earlier commotion. The brown-haired man with him kept asking if he was okay. And so Riv flew into a rage. "Shut up! You're all a bunch of useless wastes!" He clenched his fist. "Damn it!" The images of Nock and Leon flashed endlessly in his mind. As he was walking out, he happened to see Vanta and Pullen talking. Vanta spoke up. "So this gathering is ultimately for the noble families to meet and exchange information, a place to introduce each house." Hearing this, Pullen replied, "I see. For our house Marcas, this kind of gathering is even more important as our influence has weakened recently. That's why he came to bring Lord Varisia." Vanta smiled and asked, "It seems you two have a close relationship," Pullen answered casually. "I've had a good relationship with young Master Leon since he was a child." "Is that so?" But at that moment, Vanta noticed someone standing in front of them and cautiously put out a hand to stop him. Riv spoke up to confirm. "You're from House Marcas." He probably knew this because he'd overheard their conversation. Pullen thought to himself, he's the young head of House Varela. Why would he approach us so suddenly? Then he spoke bluntly, "Excuse me, but I will not tolerate anyone who insults my family. What are you after?" Riv gave a strange reply, just the hot topic of late. Then he called his subordinate. "Hey, come and go easy on him a bit." Common hesitated. "But Isn't House Marcus a ducal family? Riv tried to persuade her. I understand your hesitation, but they're a falling house anyway. Just do as I say. Hearing that, Common obeyed and drew her sword to test him. Since it's come to this, if you're a knight on the other side, then draw your sword. Pullen held Vanta back with his hand, advising him, no, Vanta, don't. Our family's foundation is still weak right now. We don't need to form an army. Vanta hesitated, but while he was distracted, and the Common lunged forward and stabbed Pullen. He collapsed in pain. Vanta cried out in alarm, Lord Pullen. Then he completely lost it. Seeing this, Pullen shouted a warning. Stop, I'm fine. Think of the master. But Common kicked Pullen in the head. This time Vanta was thoroughly enraged. He raised his sword, preparing to fight. Pullen repeated, Vanta, I don't intend to fight, Vanta declared resolutely. I will protect you no matter what. You are as precious to me as the head of the house, and so is Lord Pullen. Riv laughed mockingly. How admirable. Then he gave an order to his subordinate. Just keep an eye on things for me. And so Common and Vanta clashed swords furiously, but unexpectedly Vanta was overpowered. He lost his footing and fell, but he was still determined to get up and point his sword at Common. Just then Diana appeared. You need to explain exactly what is happening, Reeves Varela. Back in the present, the onlookers who were watching the fight began to whisper. Someone said, the head of House Varela has really caused trouble this time. Another excitedly remarked, isn't this interesting? It's also a chance to see if the conflict with Sylvester is real or not. Hearing that, a girl spoke with a scornful tone, really? What can a minor noble family do at best? The man next to her added, exactly. Now that it's come to this, I hope all those villains are wiped out. Riv spoke up, challenging Leon. Since you're here now, Lord, care for a little warm-up? We have quite the audience. Leon stated decisively, I accept. Diana tried to dissuade him, but Leon ignored her call and focused on his summons. Riv growled, Dai. Suddenly Leon spoke. I'm truly disappointed, Vanta. Vanta flustered, bowed his head. My apologies for troubling you, my lord. I couldn't control myself. Unexpectedly, Leon corrected him. That's not it. Suddenly, Common swung her sword. A flash of light shot out from behind Leon, completely severing her hand. Everyone was stunned. Leon just said coldly, I ask you, did you do your absolute best to protect Lord Pullen? He lowered his voice. Let me tell you the new principle of House Marcus. At that moment, the many fearsome skeletons Leon had summoned began to appear. Pullen was a little surprised. My lord. The skeletons moved forward and forced Riv down by his neck. Leon declared bluntly, if necessary, I will kill. For the honor and prosperity of our family, and for the safety of myself and those around me. Everything will be dealt with accordingly, even if it costs me my own life. Riv kept his head bowed, blood still dripping from above. Suddenly someone walked up in front of him. He roared in anger. What is it who dares this time? But when he realized who it was, Riv fell silent. He looked at Louis von Aachen, who was smirking at him. All he could say was, Your Highness. Riv bowed his head in fear. I have been gravely disrespectful. I did not realize it was you, Your Majesty. Louis cut him off before he could finish. No, that's not important. You're Riv, aren't you? He immediately replied in a reverent tone, Your Highness remembers my humble name. I am truly at a loss for words. Seeing that he was rambling, Louis ordered, Keep it short. Riv replied, My apologies. Then Louis got straight to the point. I see you're caught up in a dispute. It looks rather interesting. Riv was stunned, then quickly explained, A dispute? Does Your Highness mean the matter with the young master of House Marcus? And Ren Harper. Riv had remembered correctly. Louis raised a hand to his chin, looking thoughtful. That's right. I can't contain my curiosity, Riv. Now I want to know why two of the Dark Houses sided with you. I've never heard of them cooperating. So how did House Marcus win this territorial dispute? Riv hesitated for a moment. Well, about that. Suddenly Louis placed a hand on his shoulder. He whispered into Riv's ear, Now I'm going to prepare a little stage for you. Perhaps you could expose the true intentions of those insects from the Dark Houses. Hearing that it would benefit him, Riv froze. Just now, Nock von Renharper left. As for that toothless guy from Marcus, with his highness backing me, it wouldn't be impossible to deal with him. This is an opportunity. His eyes lit up as he replied, Yes, I will obey your command. A faint smile appeared on Louis' lips when he heard that. The scene shifts back to the present where Riv has a knife to his throat. Damn it, did I get involved in something I shouldn't have? He tried to threaten him. Even if you are the head of the house, this can't be overlooked so easily. Are you meddling in the affairs of a few mere servants? Leon, expressionless, turned away and said, Mere servants? I'm sorry, but I don't think so. Hearing this, a vein bulged on Common's forehead, but she still had to bow her head, her hand clenched in anger. Riv, confused, asked, Do you really have to take it this far? Leon calmly affirmed, I've already said it. If necessary, there are no exceptions. He then turned and walked away, ascending the stairs step by step with his undead retinue. Before leaving, he didn't forget to order, Vanta, take Pullen to the physician. Vanta immediately complied. Yes, I understand. My lord? Diana, seeing this was going badly, rushed to stop Leon. I understand how you feel, but this is too dangerous. It's true that House Marcus is a ducal family, and that might not be a real concern, but too many eyes are watching. It's better to back down. Leon didn't answer, lost in thought. Seizing the opportunity, Riv turned his head and gave a signal with his eyes to a servant. The man nodded in acknowledgement, then rushed forward and restrained Diana. Leon grimaced and cursed under his breath. Riv finally showed his true colors. Damn you. If you're not going to play the saint, then you better stop right here. Otherwise, that little toy of yours will get scratched. Yet, he didn't seem worried at all, tilting his head in confusion. No matter how I look at it, Lady Diana isn't that kind of person. Are your eyes really that bad? Seeing this, Leon slapped his forehead in exasperation. Oh, for heaven's sake, the false contract. Riv, unafraid, continued his threat. If you don't want what belongs to you to be harmed, why not just stop and walk away peacefully? The others also hesitated slightly. Leon began to radiate a murderous aura. Let me confirm one thing so there are no misunderstandings. After insulting my family, you insulted House Beretta. And now you've insulted Lady Diana. If that's the case, just one arm from your servant will likely not be enough to pay the price. Something was wrong. The atmosphere suddenly changed. A swirling, murderous aura poured from Leon as he asked, "Did you just insult Lady Diana?" At that, he sprang forward aggressively, proposing, "Let the false contract begin." It's just as they say. Silence is an admission of guilt. He acted as if he'd just learned a new lesson. I learned something new today. If that's the case, then die. Seeing this, Riv looked at his servant and shouted, "If you're so determined to see me die." But Riv made a mistake letting Diana get captured. She made quick work of the servant blood splattering onto her face, but Diana just smiled. A mask appeared on her face, and then Diana moved behind Leon. The undead spirits he had summoned began to annihilate all of our enemies. One by one, they fell before Riv. The color drained from his face as a hand reached out and grabbed it. Leon looked at him with a cold, murderous aura. Only then did Riv feel true fear. Seeing this, Diana wondered to herself, "How can this be? I heard Leon had gotten stronger, but I never imagined it would be to this extent." Mark 8 came over at that moment, wagging its tail, and said, "My lady, it seems you are very important to that man." Confused, she asked, "What do you mean?" The look on his face shows nothing but fascination. "Let me explain. I've never seen a contractor show so much emotion." Just then, Riff screamed, "Wait!" But Leon didn't listen and used his magic on him. Diana was stunned for a moment. The people around them were also terrified. How could this have happened? And more importantly, it's Leon. Didn't you see the family head use dark magic? His mana flow is probably still unstable, but this is terrifying. From now on, society will treat Mark 8 in one of two ways, either as an overwhelming victor that people flee from in fear, or as a target that everyone wants to kill as a precaution. By then, Riff could no longer make a sound. He dissolved into dust. Leon's expression remained calm, even though he had just killed a man. Suddenly, from a distance, the sound of applause echoed. Louis approached, praising the recent spectacle. "Leon von Mark 8, the head of House Mark 8. How interesting." He continued to clap, even though no one was cheering. Leon replied calmly, "It must have been a horrifying sight for the faint of heart. You truly have peculiar tastes, Your Highness." Diana was startled by this and quickly called out to Leon. Louis just laughed brightly and said, "It's fine. I'm just interested because dark magic has returned. For hundreds of years, no one has been able to wield it properly. Why now?" Leon maintained his cold demeanor and answered, "Perhaps it's a gift. Even I don't know the full extent of it." He continued to ask, "A gift that no one has had for several hundred years. What do you mean by that?" Without holding back, Leon replied to the crown prince before him, "I'm not sure either. But what I am sure of is that I haven't lost, and I'm still standing here." Louis's face hardened. He spoke as if giving an order. "Just make sure that gift of yours isn't pointed at the royal family." Leon smiled, gently tilting his head. "Of course, as long as they don't get in the way of protecting Mark 8. The guards behind Louis suddenly felt a chill when they saw his expression. Then Louis turned and left without another word. Mappas then climbed onto Leon's shoulder and said, "Well done. Many will try to hold you back, but thanks to this little show at the gathering, gee, things will be quiet for a while. You must grow up quickly." He simply said, "Got it." Then dropping his playful tone, he warned seriously, "But that guy is dangerous. I can smell the same kind as me." Leon agreed with Mark 8. "We can feel a vile darkness." It was like something demonic. Night fell. Inside the room, Mappas jumped onto a soft cushion and lay down. Leon also looked up relaxing after a long day. After the incident was over, they dismissed the matter with Riff as if it were nothing. Mappas then spoke up. "It's definitely that Prince Louis. He's definitely plotting something." Leon joined the discussion. "Things will only get harder from now on. We barely managed to get an advance on the loan. So we need to grow our funds. We also need to repair the facilities. But as Diana said, we need an excellent steward." His memory drifted back to when Diana had pointed her finger at his face and asked, "If you keep shuffling money around just to pay off debts, you'll be a debtor for the rest of your life. Do you plan to die and leave that debt to your descendants?" Hearing that, he thought to himself, "I don't want that." The Black Crow quickly offered an idea. "You just need to reach the pinnacle and become an archmage. That way, you won't die, and you'll have the rest of your life to pay off the debt." Mark 8 angrily cut in. "Shut up, Crow. I will not allow. Does my contractor to be a slave to loan sharks for his entire life?" Helen asked with great concern. "But will it really be okay? Stewards worthy of being called brilliant are all sought after by city-states." Leon added, So my situation is that I have to spend money to make money. He frowned, affirming the plan. Worrying beforehand isn't a good habit. Let's go back first and plan for the future. Leon clenched his fist with determination. All right, I will definitely find an excellent steward for the sake of the family. Leon's eyes returned to the present. He turned to Mark 8 and said, I'm going to post a notice. He asked, puzzled, a notice? Leon explained patiently, whether they're a noble or a slave, as long as they have the ability, I'll give them the position. Mark 8 found this interesting and let out a oh. Leon added, though I do hope the salary is a bit cheap. After hearing that, he could only remark, if you hadn't said that last part, I might have actually thought you were cool. The Black Crow interjected angrily. What a foolish lion. How dare you insult my great master just for not spending more. Mark 8, not to be outdone, retorted, you two clean up all that junk. He then picked up his things and scurried off. This is my reward from the last trip. I'm not sharing it with anyone. Leon ignored the little squabble and called for someone else. Helen? She immediately answered, yes, master. With a rare look of seriousness on his face, he said, call Bullen. We're starting the first family council meeting. The scene changes to the Crown Prince's castle. Louis was leaning back in his chair, relaxing. He tilted his head back and murmured, he really is an interesting one. It's as if he has a certain flavor. The smile on Louis's face grew more tyrannical. The demonic shape on his chest peeked out from behind his shirt, its tendrils spreading further. Louis smiled, with satisfaction exuding a murderous aura. Though I suppose I'm the same way. Meanwhile, in the city there was a buzz of discussion. A notice was posted on the bulletin board. Everyone was standing there looking at it. They were excitedly discussing the content of the notice. Housemarque 8 is choosing a steward. A blond man posed the question, is that family rich enough to afford a steward? The person next to him quickly advised, hey, watch your mouth. Even so, this is a bit much. Our lord must have some kind of plan. The blond man walked up to the notice board. Maybe, but look at this. Don't they say they'll hire, regardless of status? Someone else nodded. That's right. Emboldened, he continued his analysis. This can only mean one thing, the family is running out of funds. How can a slave, or a commoner who can't even read, become the steward of a ducal house? From a distance, a figure watched everything. It was Siren, her hand clenching slightly. At the Mark 8 Lord's mansion, everyone was gathered for a meeting. Mark 8 sighed and said, in the end, they need someone, but they're only willing to pay 1 gold coin. Bullen worriedly raised the issue. There's nothing we can do right now. The royal family is suppressing us. We're so restricted that we can't even receive war reparations. It's true the master prepared a considerable sum of money, but most of it went to paying off debts. Leon calmly summarized. We have about 100 gold coins left. That probably won't even last us a month. The Black Crow cried out in a panic. This is serious. Crow needs to sign contracts too. Master has to give me peanuts. Bullen remained calm and reported the situation. All the candidates for vizier are gathered outside. Why don't you meet them once and decide, get up? He quickly agrees. All right, let's do it that way. Sitting here talking nonsense won't get us anywhere. On his face, Leon showed no emotion at all. Bullen helped him adjust his clothes. Seeing Leon's awkwardness, Matt 8 just sighed. He didn't know what to say either, just quickly walked to the door and said, all right, let's go. Outside on the training grounds, various weapons were laid out, and the wooden posts used for martial arts practice were always ready. High above, there was a chair reserved for the head of the clan. The applicants were already waiting. Siren was one of them. Suddenly, she was startled and turned around. What Anka, with his hands in his pockets, walked past Siren. You're here too, huh? I can't believe a lowly wretch would dare show her face here. Anka's a Nagizi, third son of the Nagishi border clan, the man who was obsessively pursuing her. I can't believe you followed me all the way here, Siren asked confrontationally. What does my being here have to do with you? Anka retorted with a harsh tone. Of course it has to do with me. You're my future wife, so of course I had to come. Right, Siren? She coldly pushed his hand off her shoulder. Anka's face darkened with annoyance. He began to use insulting words. Why don't you just give up? You want to climb the ranks. You came from the bottom of the mud. Understand that. Siren. She wasn't one to back down, retorting, and what about you? You think you can have everything you want? Anka raised his hand, asserting, at least I'm better than some commoner. She immediately shot back, but you still can't have me, can you? This struck a nerve, enraging him. You damn bitch! Siren, unafraid, continued, I will climb even higher. So what if I was born lowly? So what if I came from the mud? I will change it. I will rise up. Anka, refusing to lose, continued to taunt her. You think a noble would take in trash like you? At best, you'll just be a concubine. She fearlessly cursed right back at him. Even so, if I can rise up, isn't that better than being sold to trash like you?